Hi guys. I made a paid service in Telegram where you will find a great collection of fanfiction audiobooks organized and regularly updated. What you get? An unlimited access to the full audiobook library. New fanfiction audiobooks added regularly. You can play audios directly from Telegram anytime. Joining our service is available through a monthly subscription of $5. You can pay using PayPal or Ko-fi. So what are you waiting for? Send me a message on Telegram or Discord. I will provide the payment details. After the payment is confirmed, you will receive access to the private Telegram channel containing all audiobooks. If you enjoy fanfiction and prefer listening instead of reading, this library is made for you. Message me anytime to join.
1. Roy Flott. Chapter 1, Roy Flott. A ceiling. The pink-haired boy, about 16 or 17, woke up on a soft bed. His slightly confused face carried a hint of sleepiness, and he stared blankly at the ceiling. After a few minutes in a daze, the boy finally came to his senses, his bewildered eyes gradually clearing. He had confirmed one thing. He had transmigrated. His name was Roy Flott, and he hailed from UK on Earth. The boy whose body Roy now inhabited was also named Roy Flott. According to the memories of this body, he was currently in a city in the United Kingdom. However, those memories revealed something else. This world was slightly different from the one Roy had known. It harbored extraordinary powers. Yes. Just as depicted in light novels and animes, this world had people who wielded supernatural abilities. In his memories, Roy could vividly recall the moment he witnessed such power. During a summer vacation, the original Roy had traveled to Japan. One night, he saw a shrine maiden use magic to repel a shadowy creature. That scene was etched deeply in his mind. A parallel world? Or was I just too sheltered in my past life to notice these things? Roy fell into deep thought. In his previous life, the internet occasionally buzzed with reports of supernatural events. Though most were debunked as hoaxes, some, in hindsight, seemed plausible. After Roy had started working, he often heard that wealthy CEOs or high-ranking officials believed in those things. They'd visit temples, pray to deities, or treat mystics as honored guests. Could those practices have been more than superstition? Roy was both shocked and puzzled. But the next moment, his expression shifted, as if recalling something dreadful. Damn it, I should have burned everything in that house. Thinking of the hard drive and browsing history on his old computer, Roy's face darkened. If that got exposed, his reputation would be ruined forever. He silently prayed that his house would catch fire, reducing everything to ashes. No evidence, no shame. Besides, he'd already transmigrated. If the house burned, so be it. After wallowing in gloom for a bit, Roy rubbed his temples and pushed those thoughts aside. Roy got out of bed and headed to the bathroom, intending to wash up and splash cold water on his sluggish mind. Well, at least I'm as handsome as I was before. I can live with that. Looking at the face in the mirror, Roy let out a long sigh, reluctantly accepting his new reality. Wait, I have to go to high school again. A horrifying realization hit him. His new identity was that of a high school student who would just start his first year, waking up earlier than roosters and sleeping later than dogs. As someone who'd long since graduated and endured the grind of adult life, staying up late was easy, but waking up at dawn, that was torture. Thankfully, it was still summer vacation, giving him a buffer to prepare for his new life. Ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell suddenly rang. His heart skipped a beat, worried it might be someone familiar with this body. He wasn't ready for social interactions. Steeling himself, Roy wiped his hands and walked to the door. Opening it, he saw a man and a girl. By Roy's standards, both were striking, handsome and beautiful. But something about their demeanor rubbed him the wrong way, especially the man, with his blonde hair. Roy couldn't help but think of certain study materials stored on his hard drive. The man appeared to be in his 20s. His face was handsome, but a fierce glint in his eyes marred his charm, making a poor first impression. He wore an expensive-looking red suit, flamboyant and bold. Beneath it, a white dress shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, deliberately exposing toned muscles. At a glance, the man seemed like a brash, aggressive type, maybe even a delinquent. Beside him stood a girl who looked adorable. She, too, had golden blonde hair. Her hairstyle, however, was less appealing, a pair of twin tails styled into drill-like curls. Her outfit leaned heavily into anime aesthetics, a lace-trimmed gothic Lolita dress in red. Roy had to admit, the ensemble gave her an undeniable charm, brimming with youthful cuteness. Move it, brat. The man snapped impatiently the moment the door opened. Who are you? Roy shot back. He searched the original Roy's memories but found no trace of these two. They weren't acquaintances. Yet, for some reason, they seemed vaguely familiar, though he couldn't place where he'd seen them. Excuse me, you're Roy Flott, correct? The blonde girl asked, her tone far more polite than the man's. Yeah, Roy nodded. You're even more ordinary than I expected, she muttered, sizing him up with her dark blue eyes. Roy's expression darkened. These two blondies weren't exactly winning him over. He's just a human. What were you expecting? The man sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. If you've got something to say, spit it out. Otherwise, get lost, Roy retorted, not bothering to hide his irritation. he wasn't one to coddle strangers, especially not ones who showed up at his door with such arrogance. Besides, he lived in an upscale community with top-notch security. Guards patrolled 24/7. If these two had ill intentions, help would arrive quickly. He wasn't worried. 2. System. Chapter 2, System. Both were taken aback by Roy's attitude. They clearly hadn't expected an ordinary person, in their eyes, to treat them so brusquely. How rude, you brat. Enraged by Roy's words, Riser's face twisted into a fierce scowl, as if he were about to lash out. He glared viciously at Roy. Issei-chan, calm down. We're here on business today, Ravel said, casting a displeased glance at her brother. She scolded, you don't want me to return empty-handed because of your impulsiveness, do you? Issei-chan? The term struck Roy as quintessentially anime-like. What kind of sister calls her brother that in real life? Most would stick to a simple brother or his name. Anything else felt like overkill. Roy found the behavior of these two blonde siblings oddly out of place, unlike any normal people he'd met. TCH. Riser let out an irritated grunt but relented. Fine, your business comes first today. He shot Roy another contemptuous glance. Humph, brat, you're lucky. If you'd spoken to me like that on any other day, I'd have burned you to ashes. Issei-chan, can you not talk? Ravel snapped, silencing him with a glare. I'm sorry, his personality is difficult. It gives me a headache, she said apologetically to Roy. It's fine, Roy replied, waving it off. He had no interest in bickering with these eccentric siblings. Just tell me why you're here. I've got things to do and don't have time to waste. Ravel took a deep breath, as if steeling herself, and said, I'm here to break off our engagement. Roy froze. Break off an engagement? What kind of cliché plot was this? First, he transmigrated. Then, two blondes showed up at his door. And now, a dramatic engagement cancellation? Hey, brat, what's your answer? Hurry up and agree to my sister's request. Riser barked, irritated by Roy's silence. I don't recall having a fiancé. Are you sure you've got the right person? Roy asked, looking at Ravel. He scoured his memories both from his past life and this body but found no trace of a fiancé. Could his late parents have arranged it? It was possible. The original Roy came from a wealthy family, so an arranged engagement wasn't out of the question. Still, this was absurd. Who set this up? Your great-great-grandfather, a man named Lord Flot, made the arrangement, correct? Ravel asked. Roy blinked. Who? He racked his brain but drew a blank. To be precise, he could barely recall his grandfather's name, let alone someone 2 generations further back. Okay, brat, don't play dumb, Riser sneered. We investigated you thoroughly before coming. You're definitely the one engaged to my sister. Then you've got the wrong guy. Roy snapped, rolling his eyes. Just so you know, Riser continued, being engaged to my sister is an honor. It's enough to bask in glory for the rest of your pathetic life. Roy smirked. Sounds like you're the one stuck with a pathetic life. Brat, you're too ignorant, Riser growled, his eyes flashing with anger. Issei-chan, stop making things worse. Ravel snapped, her glare reducing Riser to silence, though he pouted petulantly, clearly unwilling to back down completely. My apologies. We've been here this long and haven't introduced ourselves. Ravel lifted the hem of her skirt and curtsied gracefully, like an ancient noblewoman. My name is Ravel Fenex, and this troublesome man is Riser Fenex. Fenex? The names flipped a switch in Roy's mind, memories flooding back. No wonder they seemed familiar. These were the Fenex siblings from the anime high school DxD he'd watched in his previous life. Brat, what's with that attitude? Riser growled. His sister had introduced herself, yet Roy remained unfazed, which grated on his nerves. If not for the engagement, Riser would have taught this punk a lesson. Roy Flot, Roy said calmly, suppressing his shock. Though I'm guessing you already knew that. We do know about you, Ravel said with a slight smile. Can you explain what's going on? I'm completely in the dark here. Until now, I had no idea I had a fiancé, Roy said, deciding to play it safe. Who knew if these two were really the Fenex siblings from high school DxD? If they were, provoking Riser would be a bad move. Very well, Ravel nodded. She glanced around. But should we discuss this here? Come in, Roy said, stepping aside to let them enter. Thank you, Ravel replied politely. She stepped inside, knelt at the entrance, and swapped her shoes for slippers. As she stood, she suddenly lost her balance and pitched forward. Roy instinctively reached out, catching her around the waist to steady her. Sufficient dimensional energy absorbed. System activating. Please wait. The moment he touched Ravel, a mechanical voice echoed in Roy's mind. 3. Fenex Siblings. Chapter 3, Fenex Siblings. Hearing the system's voice, Roy was startled, then thrilled. This was the ultimate safety net for a transmigrator. Especially knowing he was in high school DxD world where supernatural creatures ran rampant. A system like this was exactly what he needed to feel secure. This world was one where mystery thrived. Gods, devils, yokai, angels, dragon supernatural creatures were not only real but highly active. Biblical mythology, Norse mythology. If a myth existed in human records, it likely existed here. Moreover, these supernatural creatures often left their mythological worlds to stir trouble in the human world. Case in point, the Fenex siblings, standing in his living room. These supernatural creatures wielded immense destructive power, capable of razing cities with ease. Even humanity's most advanced weapons were no match for them. On the surface, major mythological factions maintained order, ostensibly safeguarding world peace. But behind the scenes, these factions schemed. One wrong step, and Roy could be caught in a supernatural creature's area of effect attack, dead before he knew it. Thankfully, his system had arrived just in time. It gave Roy a sliver of comfort. Though his heart raced with excitement, Roy kept his expression neutral, quickly masking his emotions to remain calm. "You okay?" Roy looked down at Ravel, still steadied in his arms, and asked. "I'm fine, thank you," Ravel replied. Having never been so close to a man besides her father or brother, she could feel the strength in Roy's arm. The fact that he was her fiancé, at least for now, sent a flush to her cheeks. She lowered her head, flustered. "You damn brat, how long are you going to hold her? Let go of my sister." Rias roared, furious at the sight. "Is my sister someone a lowly brat like you can touch? Is your brother okay in the head?" Roy gently released Ravel, then tapped his temple, whispering to her. "Pfft." Ravel stifled a laugh, then composed herself. "Issei-chan just cares about me too much. His temper's awful, and he gets mad over little things. It's a headache. I wish he'd rein it in sometimes." "Brat, you're dead." Rias, catching Roy's jab, burned with rage, itching to pummel him on the spot. But Ravel's sharp glance stopped him cold. With no outlet for his anger, he could only grit his teeth and sulk, muttering empty threats. Roy smirked. Backing down? Not a chance. He couldn't fight, but he could sure as hell talk smack. Roy knew he wasn't in immediate danger. That being the case, there was no reason to play nice with Rias. Rias's teeth ground audibly, his temper nearing a boiling point. This brat was more infuriating than anyone he'd ever met, yet he was powerless to act. With a huff, he swallowed his pride and stewed in silence. "Please, have a seat." Roy led the pair to the living room, gesturing to the sofa. Though Roy lived alone, a housekeeper cleaned the place daily, keeping it spotless. After they sat, Roy poured water into cups and set them on the table before each guest. "Typical brat," Rias sneered, eyeing the water with disdain. "No etiquette at all, serving guests such cheap stuff. For uninvited guests, water's more than you deserve. Be grateful," Roy shot back coolly. "You." Rias's face reddened, poised to snap, but a flicker of guilt held him back, as if he knew he'd crossed a line. "Issei-chan, if you keep this up, I'll get mad," Ravel warned. "Fine, for your sake, I'll overlook this brat's rudeness," Rias said, forcing a smile before shooting Roy a withering glare. "So this is what a siscon idiot looks like." Roy wasn't impressed. "I'm still clueless about this engagement between us. I had no idea you were my fiancé until you showed up. Can you explain it in detail?" Roy asked, turning to Ravel. "Of course," Ravel nodded. She began to explain the origins of their engagement. As Ravel spoke, Roy turned his attention inward, communicating with the system. System loaded. "Welcome to the dimensional replication system. May you thrive in your new life." "Polite system, huh?" "System, explain your functions," Roy commanded mentally. The system has two primary functions. 1. By consuming dimension points, you can replicate the abilities, items, bloodlines, or talents of other characters. However, living entities cannot be replicated. 2. By consuming dimension points, you can travel to other worlds. Sounds powerful. "How do I get dimension points?" Roy asked. Dimension points can be obtained in 3 ways. 1. As long as you survive in any world, you'll earn a small number of dimension points daily. 2. You can gain dimension points by physically interacting with individuals who largely influence a world, such as the Fenex siblings before you. 3. The system will periodically issue tasks. Completing them will reward dimension points. Roy nodded mentally. These functions were straightforward. 4. Try it. Chapter 4, Try it. The second method, does it refer to the characters I know from my memories? Roy asked, voicing the question nagging at him. The host can understand it that way. These characters significantly impact their world and may even influence other worlds. As such, they carry substantial dimension points to absorb. Just a simple touch, right? Roy pressed. Though he mostly grasped it, he wanted to be certain. As you did when touching Ravel Fenex, physical contact with these characters is sufficient. The system confirmed. Roy nodded. Host, you currently have 31,200 dimension points. Would you like to make your first replication? What kind of replication? Roy asked. A moment later, as Roy glanced at the Fenex siblings, a virtual interface appeared in his vision. Rias Fenex. Full replication, 380,350 dimensional points. Fenex Bloodline, 150,000 dimensional points. Evil Peace, King 10,000 dimensional points. Hellfire, 50,000 dimensional points. Magic Conversion, 50,000 dimensional points. High-class Demonic Power, 120,000 dimensional points. Devil's Custom Suit, 200 dimensional points. Devil's Custom Shirt, 50 dimensional points. Devil's custom leather shoes, 100 dimensional points. Ravel Fenex. Full replication, 290,300 dimensional points. Fenex bloodline, 150,000 dimensional points. Evil piece, bishop 10,000 dimensional points. Hellfire, 50,000 dimensional points. Magic conversion, 50,000 dimensional points. Middle class demonic power, 30,000 dimensional points. Devil's custom dress, 200 dimensional points. Devil's custom leather boots, 100 dimensional points. Looks like I can't afford anything worth replicating, Roy muttered, deflated by the steep costs. The Devil's custom clothing was cheap, but it seemed no different from human world fashion. No enchanted armor or mystical artifacts like in fantasy novels. Wait a second. Roy's gaze shifted to Riser. If he could absorb dimensional points from him, maybe he could afford something useful. What are you staring at, you insolent brat? Riser bristled. The look in Roy's eyes as if he were sizing up a rare item or commodity grated on him. As a noble devil, Riser had never been regarded with such disrespect. Roy abruptly stood, reached out, and clapped a hand on Riser's shoulder. You. Riser's eyes widened, his anger flaring like a tangible flame. To him, a lowly human daring to touch his noble self was an outrage. Issei-chan. Seeing Riser on the verge of exploding, Ravel shouted, her voice sharp enough to rein him in. Congratulations, host. 23,123 dimension points absorbed. The system's voice chimed in Roy's mind. Elated, he kept his hand on Riser's shoulder, milking the moment. Riser Fenex, honestly, if your sister weren't so reasonable, I'd call security to toss out a nutcase like you, Roy said, bluffing with a smirk. Ha ha ha, I'd love to see you try, Riser laughed mockingly. Someone like me, thrown out by security? Please. With his physique, he was far beyond ordinary humans, even without demonic power. Roy chuckled, finally lifting his hand from Riser's shoulder. My engagement to your sister was arranged by our elders, Roy said calmly. Judging by your rush to show up, this contract still holds some weight. The engagement between Roy and Ravel was a classic tale. Over a century ago, Roy's great-great-grandfather, Lyord Flot, saved someone from the Fenex clan. While recovering, the person befriended Lyord. One drunken night, they agreed to betroth their descendants. The Flot family had dwindled since then, and the Fenex hadn't produced a daughter in generations. The engagement was shelved. Until Roy and Ravel's generation, when both appeared, reactivating the contract. Ravel and Riser, however, concealed their devil heritage, presenting their family as foreign nobility. Unbeknownst to them, Roy already knew. So what? Riser sneered. You think a brat like you is worthy of my sister? The Fenex clan had no plans to marry Ravel off for political gain, but they certainly didn't want her wed to an ordinary human. If I refuse to break off the engagement, what can you do? Roy asked, grinning. You. Riser froze, his expression darkening. Try it, brat. I have plenty of ways to deal with you. What, planning to spit on your family's debt? Roy figured the Fenex Lyord saved was likely Riser's father. Devils lived far longer than humans, so a century was enough for the Flot family to span several generations, while the Fenex, with their low fertility, might only have produced one. An injury severe enough to nearly kill a Fenex, known for their vitality, was no small matter. Could it have been from the Devil Civil War? Roy recalled sparse details on the war, which occurred centuries ago. 5. I agree. Chapter 5, I agree. Roy's words made both Riser and Ravel visibly tense. The accusation of being ungrateful carried immense weight. For aristocrats like them, it was a crushing blow. Devils, despite their infamous reputation, were renowned for their honor. In both the human world and beyond, their credibility was a cornerstone of their influence. In some ways, devils were more credible than certain angels. Historically, their fearsome image meant credibility was their only currency for trust. Moreover, in recent centuries, the devil regime had undergone upheaval. The old Satan faction was ousted, and new Satan faction rose to power. The new leadership reformed underworld policies, dismantling outdated customs that once plagued their society. The Fenex clan staunchly supported new Satan faction. An ungrateful scandal now would be catastrophic. Their political rivals in the underworld would seize the opportunity. They could lose not just reputation but their hard-earned status. What do you want? Wealth, beauty, power. Name it, and it's yours, Riser growled, his disdainful snort betraying his arrogance as he listed terms. Humans were greedy, he thought. Offer the right bait, and Roy would fold. Without the system, Roy might have bitten. Riser's terms were tantalizing goals most people chased their entire lives. But with the system, those were within Roy's grasp. Idiot, if you're sick, see a doctor. That head of yours should have outgrown Chianibia by now. Roy shook his head, feigning a sigh. Roy played dumb, pretending ignorance of their nature. Since they were hiding it, he saw no need to call them out. Exposing their secret could backfire. Who are you calling idiot? Riser's teeth ground, his anger simmering close to eruption. If not for wanting to resolve the engagement quietly, he'd have sprouted his wings to terrify this brat. Calling him idiot and Chianibiu. Unbearable. Issei-chan, can you stop making things worse? If you can't control your temper, go home. I'll handle this alone, Ravel snapped. She found no fault with Roy. Showing up to break off an engagement wasn't polite, and Roy had been remarkably civil. Yet Riser kept fanning the flames, complicating everything. Fine, I get it. I'll tolerate this brat a bit longer, Riser muttered, flustered. He forced himself to calm down, vowing not to escalate further. I'm so sorry, Ravel said to Roy, her tone apologetic. No worries. I've got no issue with you. But this is the second time you've apologized for your brother, Roy replied coolly. If he's truly responsible or really cares about his sister, he'd apologize himself instead of hiding behind you. Riser's face cycled from blue to pale, Roy's words stabbing at his pride. What the hell am I? If not for his aristocratic restraint, Riser would have cursed outright. Saying sorry isn't that hard, is it? You brat, you expect me to apologize? Riser roared, his temper flaring again. No way, is this how a brother acts? Causing trouble for his sister and too proud to say sorry. Roy gasped. Ravel, embarrassed, glanced at Riser, silently hoping he'd make the right choice. Meeting her expectant gaze, Riser's heart twisted. Sorry. He spat the word through gritted teeth, each syllable painful, as if it cost him his life. Turning away, he sulked, refusing to speak further. No choice. Roy was a descendant of their father's savior and Ravel's nominal fiancé. Attacking him was out of the question. Any other human would have been incinerated by now. Roy had masterfully exploited this, repeatedly putting Riser in his place. Alright, I accept. Though that apology had zero sincerity, Roy said, nodding. Turning to Ravel, he continued, let's get back to our engagement. Very well, Ravel said, exhaling in relief. I'll agree to break off the engagement, Roy stated bluntly. What? Ravel blinked, caught off guard by his straightforwardness. Surprised? Roy asked, smiling. No, it's just Ravel's cheeks flushed as she realized her reaction was excessive. She shook her head. Honestly, I'm not into this kind of arranged engagement, Roy said generously. It's the modern era. Elders forcing marriages on their descendants without their input is outdated. Marriage should come from mutual feelings, only then can it bring happiness. Don't you agree? Humph, just a brat, yet you've got some sense. I'll give you that, Riser grudgingly nodded. Roy's agreement to end the engagement earned him a sliver of respect. While Riser didn't fully buy Roy's ideals, he wasn't in the mood to argue. Stabilizing the situation took priority. I actually admire your family's honor. Keeping a century-old promise is impressive, Roy said with a smile. My family forgot all about it. I had no clue this existed. Even if you hadn't shown up, it wouldn't have mattered. Of course. Our integrity far surpasses a minor family's, Riser boasted, puffing up with pride. If you have any requests, we'll do our best to compensate you. After all, we're the ones breaking the contract, Ravel said softly, feeling Roy deserved something for their breach. Nah, your family honoring such an old agreement is more than enough, Roy replied, shaking his head. Making demands now would feel petty. Ravel felt a pang of embarrassment. She and Riser had come prepared to tempt Roy with rewards if he resisted. They hadn't expected him to be so. Brat, don't play coy, Riser said, his tone lighter now that the engagement was settled. My offer stands. Name your price, and I'll make it happen. That's my way. Whatever, Roy shrugged. If you insist, I'll hold on to that. When I need something, I'll ask you. 6. Summoning Contract. Chapter 6, Summoning Contract. Roy hadn't known about this so-called engagement before, and even after learning of it, he didn't take it seriously. If they wanted to break it off, so be it. Aside from Riser's attitude, Ravel's was quite pleasant. Roy felt no humiliation, no need to spout cliques. Truthfully, he was grateful for their visit. Their arrival had jump-started the system, absorbing enough dimension points to awaken it early. Without them, relying on the system's first method could have taken ages to gather enough. In a world teeming with dangerous creatures, the sooner he had a system, the safer he'd be. Very well. I, Riser Fenex, grant you one request. I'll stake the family's honor to fulfill it, Riser declared. More crucially, their clan owed Roy's great-great-grandfather a big debt, still unpaid. With the engagement now dissolved, Riser, as the elder sibling, felt obliged to settle it. This way, even if word of the broken engagement spread, no one could accuse the Fenex of ingratitude. There'd be no grounds for attack. After all, both sides parted amicably, mutually consenting. Not Ravel, but you, her brother, will grant it. Roy said, nodding approvingly. Now that's a responsible brother. My devotion to my sister isn't something a mere brat like you could understand, Riser huffed, clearly flattered by Roy's words. It was the only moment in their entire exchange that Riser felt Roy spoke sense. He'd been angered to death by Roy. Even Ravel had begun questioning his reliability as a brother. Now, he finally felt a spark of vindication. Alright, then I won't hold back, Roy said with a grin, his tone deliberately provocative. With your love for your sister, I bet you'd meet even my wildest demands. Hope you don't regret this. But, as long as it's within my power, I won't refuse, Riser replied. He slid a card across the table, unconcerned about Roy making outrageous requests. What could a human demand? From his POV, human desires boiled down to wealth, power, beauty, or longevity predictable and easily granted. For a devil, such requests were trivial. Roy glanced at the card. It resembled a business card but bore a pattern like a magic circle. "What's this?" he asked, feigning confusion. He suspected it was a summoning circle. "It holds my contact information," Rias said. Roy picked it up, turning it over with a puzzled look. "Where's the contact info?" He bit back a laugh. "You're hiding that you're devils, then hand me a summoning circle. Real subtle." "You'll know when the time comes," Rias said cryptically. "When you have a wish you truly want fulfilled, hold this card, and I'll find you. It's a special item crafted by the Fenex clan, unlike anything you're used to." Rias avoided mentioning the summoning circle, cloaking it in mystery. In his mind, he pictured Roy using it someday. He'd descend in the most dramatic, awe-inspiring way, stunning this disrespectful brat. Then he'd mock Roy, making him realize how insignificant he was and how foolish his taunts were. Imagining it, Rias felt a surge of glee, barely suppressing a smirk. "Take this card and return our family's crest. It's the token our elders exchanged," Rias said. Roy blinked. "Huh." Ravel took out a red badge, engraved with a vivid firebird, like a divine creature reborn from ashes. Roy sifted through his memories, finally locating details about the crest buried deep. It wasn't at his current place but stored at his family's old estate as a keepsake. "Hold on a sec," Roy said, making a quick call to have it delivered. "This is it." Sensing the familiar aura, Rias and Ravel confirmed the crest and took it from Roy. With the engagement dissolved and the crest reclaimed, their mission was complete. "We'll take our leave," Ravel said, offering a graceful curtsy before preparing to depart with Rias. System, replicate hellfire. Consuming 50,000 dimension points. Hellfire replicated successfully. Would the host like to activate it? The system asked. Not yet. He'd wait until the Fenex siblings were gone. Who knew what might happen when activating it? If they noticed anything odd, it could spell trouble. "Brat, you're smarter than you look," Rias said smugly before leaving. "Think of a wish soon. I'm looking forward to our next meeting." "Same here," Roy replied, flashing a cryptic smile. "Humph." Rias snorted, secretly hoping Roy wouldn't faint from shock when the time came. "Let's go, Ravel. The country's air is too stifling. I can't stand it." They'd find a secluded spot to teleport back to the underworld. Roy waited until they were completely gone before diving back into the system. He looked up to inspect Hellfire. 7. Hellfire. Chapter 7, Hellfire. Replicated ability, Hellfire. Quality, C. Effects. 1. Has a healing effect. If the host is injured, Hellfire can heal to a certain extent. 2. Consume demonic power/magic power/vitality to transform the body into flames, rendering some external physical attacks ineffective. 3. Hellfire can be used as a means of attack. Roy's eyes lit up as he glanced at the effects. "Not bad at all," he murmured. Hellfire was essentially a subset of the Fenex clan's innate abilities. But for its cost, it was a steal. All 3 effects, attack, defense, and healing, were exceptional. Most importantly, they were versatile, covering every key aspect of survival. "Guess I've upgraded from a mob to a weak fighter," Roy said with a self-deprecating smirk. With this, he had a baseline for self-defense. No longer would he be helpless against minor threats. "Activate it." A burst of flames erupted from his body, filling the room with searing heat. With a thought, Roy reined in the blaze, condensing it into his right hand. "Feels good," he said, grinning. Controlling the hellfire was effortless, as if it were an extension of himself. From his memories, mastering powers like those of supernatural creatures depends if you're born with it. But the system bypassed all that. The hellfire felt akin to a sacred gear. Roy opened the panel again to check his stats. Host, Roy Flott. Race, human. Level, 10, peak human. Replicated ability, Hellfire, C. Replicated items, none. Dimension points, 4,323. Level 10, peak human. Wonder how I'd fare against a low-class devil. Unlike those anime protagonists, he felt no sudden surge of power. Beyond the Hellfire, his physique remained at human limit. Low-class devils, by contrast, far surpassed this limits. Soon, Roy tested its effects. He grabbed a steel spoon from the kitchen. The flames melted it into a puddle effortlessly. Slicing his palm lightly with a knife, he watched a small flame seal the wound instantly. When he shifted his body into a flame-like state, a knife passed through him harmlessly, as if cutting through fire itself. "Drains me, though," Roy noted, panting slightly after testing all 3 effects. His breathing grew uneven, like he'd sprinted a few hundred meters. "Gotta build up my base strength," he resolved. Without a solid foundation, the Hellfire was like a child wielding a sacred gear, powerful but sloppy, unable to maximize its potential. After familiarizing himself with the flames, Roy made a call. "Hey, Jason, check if there's a Kuoh town in Japan. If so, I want to transfer to the academy there," he instructed. On the other end was his family's butler, an aide left by Roy's late parents. Roy was a rich orphan with a hefty inheritance waiting post-graduation. In a world crawling with mystery, wealth meant little against such threats. But for tasks like this, it was a godsend. The academy's details weren't hard to dig up. Soon, Roy received a report, including a list of notable students at Kuoh Academy. Rias should be starting her third year after summer break. Story hasn't kicked off yet, he deduced, sifting through his DxD knowledge. At the anime's start, Issei was a second year, while Rias and her peerage were third years except Konako and Gasper. This was likely the final summer before the events. Perfect timing to insert himself into the story. Crucially, Issei shouldn't have awakened his sacred gear. Right now, he was just a powerless pervert. Boosted gear, Roy muttered. As a longinus made by the biblical god, the boosted gear offered god-tier power. If Roy could claim it, his strength would skyrocket. It was arguably the easiest longinus to target. Others were either unaccounted for or held by formidable owners. The boosted gear, though, was within reach. Roy estimated replicating the boosted gear via the system would cost a fortune in dimension points. But if he could seize it directly from Issei, he'd save those points for other uses. Rias and her peerage won't be able to help, so I'll need the fallen angels, Roy planned. With time before the story began, he had ample opportunity to prepare. 8. Kuoh Academy. Chapter 8, Kuoh Academy. Roy moved quickly. After Jason investigated details about Kuoh Town and Kuoh Academy, he booked a flight the same day. Spending a day tying up loose ends, Roy boarded a plane from the UK to Kuoh Town, Japan, the next morning. Still got a lot on my plate, he muttered. Exiting the airport, he headed to a hotel. After stowing his luggage, he collapsed onto the bed, exhaustion etched on his face. Money wasn't an issue, but handling logistics from the UK to Japan wasn't as seamless as it seems. It was summer break, so Kuoh Academy's admission process would likely take weeks. Plus, since he planned to settle here, he'd need to buy a house and navigate a slew of paperwork. All these tasks piled up into a headache. Forget it. I'll hire someone to deal with this, Roy decided. Now in Kuoh Town, he had no interest in wasting time on chores. He had plenty of money, and a system. No need to stress. On his first day, Roy stayed in. After dinner at the hotel and a shower, he crashed early. The next morning, he contacted an agency specializing in handling errands, outlined his needs, paid a deposit, and set out to explore. Early in the story, two key locations mattered, Kuoh Academy and the abandoned church in the suburbs. Roy's first stop was Kuoh Academy. He also hoped to get lucky, maybe bump into a main character and absorb some dimension points. Taking a taxi, he arrived at the school. During summer break, Kuoh Academy was empty. Through the iron fence, Roy occasionally spotted a few students passing by. He wanted to slip inside for a look, but the guard stopped him. No school ID, no entry. Disappointed, Roy lingered. With his current strength, the abandoned church was too risky. It was the fallen angels' base, housing a stray exorcist and several of their kind. Barging in could be deadly. Hello, what are you doing by the gate? You seem troubled, a voice called out. A blond boy approached, curiosity in his eyes. His striking look stood out, easily marking him as a heartthrob in any crowd. Around Roy's age, he outshone TV idols by a mile. He carried a long cloth bag slung over his shoulder, likely a kendo case. The boy radiated a sporty, sunny vibe. Kendo was big among Japanese students, so it fit. Hey, you a student here? Roy asked, snapping out of his thoughts. I am, the boy nodded. I'm Roy Flott, a transfer student. I'll be starting at Kuoh Academy this semester, Roy said, smiling and extending his right hand. Oh. The boy returned the gesture, shaking Roy's hand politely. Congratulations, host. 51,230 dimension points absorbed. The system's prompt thrilled Roy. This had to be Kiba. Seeing a 2D character in the flesh was jarring. Roy had felt a spark of recognition but wasn't sure until the system confirmed it. As expected of a main characters, the points from Kiba alone rivaled what he'd gotten from both Fenex siblings combined. I'm Kiba, second year at Kuoh Academy, Kiba introduced himself. Your face doesn't look Asian. From the West, maybe. Yup, I'm from UK, Roy nodded. Your Japanese is flawless. I'd never have guessed you weren't local, Kiba said, impressed. Most foreigners carried an accent, but Roy's speech was indistinguishable from a native's. If not for his face, Kiba wouldn't have clocked him as an outsider. Though, Roy's language skills weren't natural. After landing, he'd spent 1,000 dimension points to replicate fluent Japanese. Pricey, but worth it. Living in Japan long-term demanded it. His actual Japanese was limited to listening, picked up from watching unsubtitled anime and other videos. Speaking was beyond him. Impressive, Kiba said. It's just what I had to do, Roy replied, a bit embarrassed by Kiba's words. Working hard for a goal and nailing it. That's rare. No wonder he's Kuoh's Prince Charming, Roy thought. If he had a game like HUD, he'd bet favorability plus 10 was flashing over his head. 9. Kiba, I know her. Chapter 9, Kiba, I know her. I admire people like you, Kiba said. Realizing his tone might have been too serious, he flashed a gentle smile. By the way, I saw you lingering by the gate earlier. Something up? Kiba asked, circling back. I'll be joining Kuoh Academy after summer vacation, so I figured I'd check out the school before, Roy shrugged lightly. But the guards won't let me in, so I was about to head out. Kuoh Academy stays closed to outsiders, even during holidays. Some students come for club activities, so only those with school IDs get in, Kiba explained with a smile. Guess I'll wait till term starts, Roy sighed. Meeting Kiba was a pretty lucky. He'd hoped to run into a main characters but hadn't counted on it. This was pure chance. Kiba glanced at his phone to check the time, then smiled. I've got some time. If you're up for it, I can show you around. Seriously? Roy's eyes lit up. Thanks a ton. No big deal. We'll be classmates soon enough, Kiba said warmly. With Roy's agreement, Kiba spoke briefly to the guard, who nodded. Roy signed in at the gate, received a visitor's pass, and followed Kiba into the academy. The campus was sprawling. Beyond the modern facilities, an abandoned older section still fell within its grounds. To an outsider, it just screamed wealth, the kind of private school with deep-pocketed backers. Only those in the know would suspect its ties to the supernatural. It's exactly the school I pictured. Tons of facilities. You guys must have a blast here, Roy said after Kiba showed him most of the campus. Way more fun than back home. What's your school like? Kiba asked. Focused on grades over everything. Extracurriculars take a backseat, so it's mostly textbooks all day, Roy said with a chuckle. I've heard you guys are exam machines, Kiba nodded. Your grades must be solid, Roy. Nah, it's just survival, Roy joked. Thanks to inheriting this body's memories, high school knowledge he'd long forgotten was at his fingertips. Keep that up, and entrance exams will be a breeze, Kiba said. Here, lots of folks don't buckle down until their final year. By then, the pressure's brutal. Sounds rough, Roy said, smirking. With your grades, you'll fit right in. Kiba, you're the one who's got it made. Bet you're Kuoh's Prince Charming, huh? I saw a few girls eyeing you on the way, Roy teased. You're pulling my leg, Kiba said, his shy smile betraying a hint of embarrassment. By the way, Kuoh's got a lot of international students. Spotted a bunch just now, Roy remarked casually. Yeah, Kiba nodded. The school's board has overseas ties, so we get more foreign students. First time I've heard of one from the UK, though, Kiba added, curious. Kuoh's not exactly a famous school in Japan. Why pick it? Well, it's because of someone, Roy said, spinning a prepared excuse. Someone. Kiba's interest piqued. Yup, Roy nodded. I came to Japan on a whim, just traveling, planning to head back after a bit. And then. Kiba leaned in. Saw a photo of a girl, Roy said, faking a bashful grin. Did some digging and found out she's at Kuoh Academy. So, I transferred. No way, Kiba said, surprised but not mocking. Kiba admired Roy's guts to chase a crush across borders. Yeah, that's the deal. Only know her name's Sauna Shirtorai. Supposedly a total stunner. That's about it, Roy said, sighing dramatically before perking up. But once I'm enrolled, I'll have plenty of chances to get to know her. Who'd you say? Kiba's expression turned odd. Sauna Shirtorai. You don't know her? Roy said, playing dumb. A beauty like that's gotta be famous here. Not surprised you've heard of her. I do know her, Kiba said, at a loss for words. Is President's charm so strong it's reached a foreigner? Really? What's she like at school? Roy asked, eyes gleaming with mock anticipation. Well, Kiba hesitated, unsure how to respond. 10. Kiba, don't give up. Chapter 10, Kiba, don't give up. Under Roy's curious questioning, Kiba began to talk about Sauna. Of course, he only described her as a human student to Roy. Naturally, he couldn't reveal her life as a devil. That was a world ordinary humans couldn't touch. I didn't expect Sauna to be so impressive. She must have tons of admirers at school, Roy said with a wry, helpless smile after hearing Kiba's explanation. It was the kind of expression a boy might show when realizing how extraordinary the girl he likes is, full of admiration tinged with self-doubt. She's definitely very popular, Kiba agreed with a nod. Sauna is the idol of many underclassmen. Nearly half the school respects her, and there's even a group of girls who admire her leadership. That's incredible. She's practically a campus icon, Roy said, sounding a bit discouraged. Does she have a boyfriend? Do I even have a chance? Kiba gave an awkward chuckle, unsure how to respond. Sona Satrai, the heiress of the Satrai clan, existed in a completely different world from ordinary humans. No matter how hard Roy tried, catching up to her seemed impossible. Roy's feelings, it seemed, were destined to remain unrequited. Don't give up. He liked Roy and didn't want to discourage him outright. Instead, he offered vague encouragement, hoping Roy would eventually move on after realizing his efforts wouldn't bear fruit. Thanks for the support, Roy said with a grin. If Sauna ever becomes my girlfriend, I'll owe you a huge thank you gift. Kiba laughed, though his smile felt a bit forced. He didn't know how to respond to Roy's optimism. Sorry, Roy, I'm running out of time, Kiba said, glancing at his watch. I need to do club activities, so I can't show you around anymore. No worries, we've covered most of the school already, Roy replied with a grateful smile. Thanks for spending so much time guiding me. After exchanging polite farewells, they swapped contact information. Roy insisted he'd treat Yuato to a meal sometime, and Yuato offered to play host and show Roy around Kuoh town to help him get familiar with the area. I'll head out now. I'm about done too. I've seen everything I wanted to check out. I'll come back to get more familiar once school starts, Roy replied. Kiba escorted Roy to the school gate before turning toward the old schoolhouse. Watching Kiba's retreating figure, Roy silently looked at the system. Uato Kiba. Full replication, 310,100 dimensional points. Sacred gear, sword birth 150,000 dimensional points. Kendo talent, 100,000 dimensional points. Magic conversion, 20,000 dimensional points. Evil pieces, 10,000 dimensional points. Middle class demonic power, 30,000 dimensional points. Kuoh Academy uniform, 100 dimensional points. As expected of main characters. While not as powerful as the Fenex siblings, who appeared as minor antagonists, Kiba's dimensional points were impressive. Roy wasn't particularly interested in sword birth. His true target was boosted gear. However, Kiba's kendo talent was something Roy desperately wanted. It would quickly enhance his close combat skills and compensate for his weaknesses. The problem was his lack of dimensional points. Roy checked the points and, after a moment of thought, instructed the system, replicate Uato Kiba's middle-class demonic power. He could save up more points and replicate the demonic power of a high class later, which would be more cost-effective. But right now, saving points wasn't as practical as boosting his strength. Compared to abstract dimensional point numbers, immediate power growth was far more valuable, consuming 30,000 dimensional points. Middle-class demonic power has been replicated. Would the host like to use it now? Not yet, Roy replied, shaking his head. He needed a quiet place to use it. Who knew if using middle-class demonic power would cause a commotion? Making a scene in public would only expose him. For now, Roy had no intention of revealing his abilities not until he acquired the boosted gear. It was better to lay low and develop his strength quietly. Leaving Kuoh Academy, Roy headed back to the hotel. The old schoolhouse exuded an air of history, its architecture reminiscent of the previous century. Though students had moved to the new building, this one wasn't abandoned. Spare classrooms served as activity rooms for certain clubs, and every corner was kept spotlessly clean. Still, the atmosphere felt dim. For some reason, the building's design didn't allow much sunlight, leaving it perpetually shadowed. In a room marked Occult Research Club, Kiba pushed open the door and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, with heavy curtains drawn, but its lavish decor evoked a medieval noble's parlor. 3 people were already inside. A girl with long crimson hair sat on the edge of a desk. Another girl with long black hair tied in a ponytail was pouring tea for her. A petite girl with short silver hair sat on a central sofa, nibbling snacks with a blank expression. "Sorry, President, I'm a bit late," Uato said apologetically as he entered. 11. Obtaining Demonic Power. Chapter 11, Obtaining Demonic Power. "It's no big deal. We don't have anything urgent on our end anyway," Rias said with a graceful smile. She showed no intention of blaming Kiba for his tardiness. "But this is rare. Uato's always the most punctual among us, yet today he's the last to arrive." Aeno, the black-haired girl with a long ponytail, radiated the elegance of a Yamato Nachiko. Her gentle eyes and warm smile suggested she'd be a perfect wife someday. As Rias's friend and confidant, she was a key member of the Occult Research Club. "Uato-senpai, did something good happen today?" Konako asked, her expression blank. The petite, silver-haired Nekomate's sharp senses detected something unusual about Kiba. Her Yukai heritage gave her an acute awareness, making her quick to notice his mood. "It seems Uato's in an especially good mood today," Rias observed, glancing at him again. The smile on his face was more pronounced than usual. Kiba gave a dry laugh, scratching his head. "Is it that obvious?" "Very much so," Aeno replied with a playful smile. "So, Uato, what happened before you got here?" "It's not a big deal," Kiba said, his smile returning. "I met a transfer student and showed him around the school. We hit it off and had a good chat." "A transfer student?" Rias asked, her curiosity piqued. "Yeah," Kiba nodded, giving Rias a strange look. He decided against mentioning that the transfer student, Roy Flott, had claimed to have fallen for her friend at first sight. That could wait until the school started. "He's from the UK, still sorting out his transfer paperwork. He came early to get familiar with Kuoh Academy during the break, but the guard stopped him, so I played guide." "Oh, this transfer student must be special to earn Uato's approval," Aeno said, her smile widening. "I'd love to meet him sometime." Kiba was a heartthrob at Kuoh Academy, adored by girls but often envied by boys. Despite his popularity, he had few close friends outside the Occult Research Club. Hearing he'd connected with a male student and formed a friendship was a relief to the group. "Alright, enough chatting," Rias said, clapping her hands to refocus them. "Let's report on your devil duties over the summer." Leaving Kuoh Academy, Roy quickly returned to hotel room. System, activate it. A surge of power erupted within him, wild and untamed at first. It felt like a torrent of energy coursing through his body, expanding and pressing outward as if seeking an escape. For a moment, it seemed it might overwhelm him. But soon, the force settled, the swelling sensation fading. Strangely, Roy didn't feel any different, no alien sensation, no shift in his essence. The power merged with his body as naturally as his own limbs, like the hellfire before. A faint flame flickered to life in Roy's palm, conjured by the demonic power. "This feels incredible," Roy murmured, marveling at the ease with which he sustained the flame. "I don't feel the strain I felt before." He sensed he could maintain the flame for hours without exhaustion. More than that, his physique had noticeably improved. "My strength, stamina, everything's enhanced." So, demonic power feedback, he realized, piecing it together. Demonic power was tied to vitality. A stronger body can sustain more demonic power, as seen in Issei's training after becoming a devil. Conversely, demonic power could enhance the body. Roy's sudden acquisition of demonic power was like pouring potent energy into a fragile vessel. Part of the power had strengthened his physique to accommodate the rest, balancing his body and the power itself. "Now, I could probably kill a low-class devil," Roy thought. The hellfire was devastating against weaker opponents. As shown in the anime, its combination of destructive flames and rapid self-healing could outlast stronger foes through endurance. With middle-class demonic power bolstering his capabilities, Roy felt he could probably take on stronger opponents. 12. Abandoned Church. Chapter 12, Abandoned Church. Host, Roy Flott. Race, human. Level, 30, middle class. Replicated ability, Hellfire, C. Replicated items, none. Dimensional points, 5,593. The demonic power doesn't show up in the ability or item bar, even though it's clearly boosted my strength. LVL 30. Roy estimated his strength. With demonic power and hellfire inherited from the Fenex clan, his strength was comparable to someone wielding a sacred gear. At worst, he figured he was somewhere between the peak of a low class and a middle class. Facing Rainare now shouldn't be too dangerous, Roy mused. Rainare, a key antagonist in the story's opening arc, was a minor boss. As a two-winged fallen angel, her strength was formidable. She held a good rank among her kind, commanding 3 other two-winged fallen angel subordinates. Her performance in the anime suggested she surpassed typical two-winged fallen angels, likely matching a middle-class devil. Even against standard middle-class devils, Rainare held an edge. Fallen angels, despite their fall, retained light-based powers, which were especially potent against devils. Light was a devil's bane, but I don't think I need to fear her light-based powers. Though his replicated abilities originated from devils, he remained fundamentally human. The system left his essence unchanged, so the light-based powers targeting devils wouldn't affect him the way they would. To Roy, Rainare's light spears were just another weapon. Then let's head to the church and test my luck, Roy decided. He extinguished the faint flame in his hand, before leaving the hotel room. After taking a taxi, Roy instructed the driver to head to the abandoned church in the suburbs of Kuoh town. "I can only stop here," the driver said after about 15 minutes, parking on the roadside. "There's a mountain path ahead, and I can't drive up there." He glanced at Roy curiously. "That church has been abandoned for ages. What are you doing there?" "Just sightseeing, checking it out," Roy replied vaguely. "It's not a great spot. I've heard stories of weird stuff happening there in the past. If you're just touring, I can suggest better places around Kuoh town," the driver offered enthusiastically. "My family's got some religious folks, so skipping the church while I'm in Kuoh town would earn me a lecture back home," Roy said, inventing an excuse with a smile. "Want me to wait here? It's tough to get a taxi out here," the driver asked. "Wait 30 minutes. If I'm not back by then, you can head off," Roy said, handing over some yen to cover the wait. The driver nodded, happy to oblige. Roy stepped out and started up the mountain path. The route to the church was neglected, covered in dust and fallen leaves, clearly untended for years. The road looked worn and forgotten. After about 10 minutes, Roy reached the church's entrance. He paused, not entering immediately, and scanned the surroundings, particularly the area around the church gate. "It's too clean. Someone's been maintaining this place," Roy noted, his eyes narrowing with heightened caution. Despite the dusty mountain path, the church's immediate surroundings were spotless. The building itself showed no signs of cobwebs or anything. Probably fallen angels, Roy guessed. That unhinged white-haired exorcist, Fried Selzen, was human and would likely leave footprints if he frequented the path. Yet, Roy hadn't spotted any signs of foot traffic on the way up. Fallen angels could fly in and out, bypassing the mountain road entirely and leaving no trace. With his suspicions confirmed, Roy pushed open the church door and stepped inside, hoping to encounter a fallen angel. "Empty," he muttered, scanning the vacant church hall. A statue loomed above the altar, flanked by rows of pews for prayer and rest, a standard church layout, just as Roy expected. The interior was pristine, with no dust on the pews or floors. Someone had definitely been here, and recently. Fallen angels wouldn't clean like humans, but a quick burst of a spell could easily keep the place spotless. "Let's wait and see," Roy decided. He searched the church, finding only a few black feathers in the basement. With no pressing plans, he didn't mind lingering. If Rainare or her group showed up, the trip would be worth it. 13. A Stray Devil. Chapter 13, A Stray Devil. As time passed, the sky gradually darkened. "TCH, my phone's almost out of battery," Roy muttered, sprawled comfortably on a pew in the church. He'd been glued to his mobile phone for nearly the entire afternoon. Shouldn't fallen angels be nocturnal? Why aren't they resting in the church during the day? Roy grumbled, casting a displeased glance around the empty hall. No one had shown up besides him. His entire afternoon had been wasted, and with his phone down to 20% battery, Roy's patience was wearing thin. The only thing keeping him here this long was the distraction of his phone. Now, with it dying, he had no desire to linger in this dim, abandoned church. What, was he supposed to spend the night here? Roy had no intention of trading a good hotel suite for a hard bench. Next time, I'll set up a surveillance camera. Waiting around like this was clearly a waste of time. If this approach didn't work, he'd try something else. He didn't know magic, but modern technology could serve just as well. A camera might go unnoticed by fallen angels who relied on sensing magic. Even if they found and destroyed it, he'd at least confirm their presence and could rush over quickly. Roy stood, ready to leave the now dark church. The mountain path lacked streetlights, forcing him to navigate the descent in near darkness. Fortunately, hellfire came in handy. He conjured a small flame in his hand, its warm glow lighting the way down. After reaching the base of the mountain, he extinguished the flame. Streetlights took over, illuminating the quiet suburban area. Only a few houses had their lights on, and the silence was almost eerie. The taxi driver from earlier, having waited the agreed-upon 30 minutes, was long gone. Roy was alone on the deserted road. Guess I'll just walk back, Roy sighed, shaking his head. Luckily, the suburbs weren't too far from city center. A 10-minute walk would bring him to bustling streets. Still, the quiet was unnerving. The sparse houses and dense trees lining the road cast deep shadows, making it feel like something could leap out from the woods at any moment. Random task triggered. Random task generating. Random task generated. Please review, host. Roy glanced at the virtual interface before him. Random task, defeat the stray devil. Task content, a stray devil is stealthily following you. Please defeat it. Reward, 10,000 dimensional points. A stray devil, Roy muttered, half amused, half exasperated at his luck. He hadn't encountered the fallen angels, but now a stray devil had crossed his path. At least the random task gave him a heads up. Where's this stray devil, though? Roy raised his guard. He didn't know its strength. Despite Hellfire's near resilience, he couldn't afford to be reckless. Even Fenex could be overwhelmed, and he was just a human with a fraction of their power. Roy scanned his surroundings but saw no one. Come out. He shouted toward the trees. A rustling sound followed, and a massive figure leaped from the woods, landing about 5 meters away. Bold move, hiding so close to a church, Roy quipped, eyeing the stray devil. He wasn't entirely joking. Churches, even abandoned ones, were places devils instinctively avoided. Human, you think it's a clever trick too, don't you? They say the most dangerous place is the safest. I picked the riskiest spot, and no one suspected a thing, the stray devil replied, its voice smug. Its upper body resembled a human's, but its lower half was monstrous hulking, grotesque, and covered in scales that sent shivers down the spine. Despite its hideous appearance, it spoke with a surprising clearness, lacking the feral madness typical of stray devils. Roy blinked. Okay, then. This thing was oddly articulate. He'd meant his comment as a taunt, but the creature took it as praise. Did it not realize the church was now a fallen angel hideout? Was it begging to be obliterated? I hid so well. How did a mere human spot me? The stray devil demanded, as if Roy had ruined its grand scheme. Just with a little observation, Roy sneered. Human, you're a clever one. I love eating clever humans the most, the stray devil said, its tone shifting to glee. It eyed Roy hungrily, saliva dripping as if he were a delicacy. Crack open your skull, eat your brain, and I'll get even smarter. Then I'll outwit those fools. Roy stared. Sigh. This stray devil was definitely not the brightest. Articulate, sure, but its logic was laughably flawed. 14. Impossible. Chapter 14, Impossible. No, human, shouldn't you be terrified? Why aren't you afraid of me? Why are you so calm? The stray devil roared, its demeanor shifting from smug to ferocious. Roy's calmness, unlike the fear it expected from humans, seemed to snap it into a frenzied state, its words a mix of rage and confusion. You don't seem all that scary, Roy replied with a faint smile. Had he encountered a stray devil right after arriving in this world, Roy would have been petrified. Back then, he was just an ordinary human, defenseless even against the weakest foe. But now, things were different. His strength rivaled a middle class, his only shortfall being a lack of combat experience. That didn't matter much, though. Hellfire gave him an absurdly high margin for error in battle. Fatal wounds for others were mere setbacks for him, allowing him to make mistakes, adapt, and grow stronger mid-fight. Arg, you're too arrogant, human. I hate cocky guys like you, but I love clever ones. The stray devil's voice oscillated between fury and excitement, its vaguely human face twisting into a monstrous snarl, grotesque and terrifying. Sorry, whether you like me or hate me, I'm not flattered by the attention of something like you. You're so ugly, you're polluting my eyes, Roy said with a chuckle. So, kindly disappear. I've decided. I'll merge you into Mayo, your brain's mine, and the rest can rot. The stray devil cackled, as if struck by genius. I'm so clever. Roy shook his head. This guy definitely had a few screws loose. It lunged first, its massive body stationary as it spewed viscous liquid from its mouth. The substance was worse than concentrated acid, dissolving anything it touched. Disgusting. Don't stray devils have any better tricks? Roy muttered, dodging the liquid with a grimace. He moved swiftly. The liquid splattered onto the ground, melting it into scorched black pits that smoked green, as if burned by fire. Roy glanced at the holes with lingering unease, grateful he'd evaded in time. Hellfire could heal him, but getting hit by that filth was a fate he'd rather avoid. He'd take 10 normal magic attacks over this any day. Stop dodging. The stray devil bellowed, enraged by Roy's evasion. It intensified its assault, spitting liquid like a machine gun. Roy's expression hardened. He activated used hellfire. Flames enveloped him, casting him as a fiery specter in the dark night. With a wave of his hand, a massive blaze erupted, forming a 3-meter flame barrier. The liquid evaporated on contact with it. The stray devil gaped, its eyes wide with disbelief. Impossible. How does a human use Fenex clan's signature flames? You're surprisingly knowledgeable, Roy remarked, mildly impressed. But it made sense. The Fenex clan, one of the 72 noble devil clans, was renowned across the underworld. Their prominence soared with the rise of the raiding game, making them widely recognized among devils. Humph. Human, out of respect for the Fenex, I'll let you go today. Don't cross me again. The stray devil, despite its usual mental fog, snapped into clarity at the threat to its life. Sensing the odds against it, it turned to flee, tossing out a final taunt. This human wasn't like the others it had devoured. His power was formidable, and continuing the fight could cost the stray devil its life. Having escaped its master to revel as a stray, it wasn't ready to die, especially not to a human. It bolted, diving into the nearby woods. Trying to run. Roy scoffed. He wasn't about to let 10,000 dimensional points slip away. He pursued the stray devil into the woods. Think you can chase me? Dream on. The creature snarled. Its bulky frame, however, struggled in the dense forest, slowing its escape. Roy's physique, enhanced by demonic power, gave him superior speed and stamina, letting him keep pace. Damn it. If you want to die, I'll oblige. The stray devil halted, enraged, and charged at Roy. With a thought, Roy unleashed a torrent of flames. The flames swept through the forest, engulfing the stray devil in a raging inferno. Moments later, its massive body collapsed, charred and smoldering, the stench of burnt flesh spreading through the air. Congratulations, host. Random task completed. Reward, 10,000 dimensional points. Roy doused the surrounding flames to prevent a forest fire and quickly left the scene. The commotion was bound to draw attention, and he had no desire to stay. 15 Rias, let's hunt the stray devil. Chapter 15, Rias, let's hunt the stray devil. After defeating the stray devil, Roy bolted from the woods at top speed. No one should find me here, right? Roy panted, his heart pounding loudly in the quiet night. The rapid beat wasn't just from the intense sprint but also from the adrenaline of killing anything for the first time. The stray devil, though monstrous, retained human-like traits. Most people struggled to kill even chickens or ducks, let alone humanoid creatures. Even trained fighters often faced physical or psychological backlash after their first kill. Yet Roy felt nothing out of the ordinary. I guess I'm cut out for this life, Roy chuckled to himself. Far from feeling unease, he was slightly exhilarated. In a world teeming with danger, a quick adaptation was a blessing. To cover his tracks, Roy changed his route several times, ensuring no traces remained before stepping back onto the road. He glanced at the task rewards. Decent, but not great, he muttered. Compared to points earned by interacting with characters, the reward for slaying a stray devil paled in comparison. The former was far easier and more lucrative than this task. Shaking his head, Roy closed the system interface. All he wanted now was to return to Kuoh town, grab a hearty meal, recharge, and crash on hotel's plush bed. Night had fallen. No lights were on instead, candles cast a retro glow, giving the room a gloomy ambience straight out of a movie. All members of the occult research club were gathered. Rias sat at her desk, engrossed in a document adorned with a magic red pattern. President, is this a special mission? Kuoh asked, perched on the sofa. She licked a popsicle with her usual blank expression, her senses picking as she glanced at Rias. Yes, Rias replied. She looked up from the document to address Kuoh's question. It seems a disobedient troublemaker has wandered into Kuoh town. A troublemaker? Kuoh tilted her head, quickly grasping the implication. A stray devil. Exactly, Rias confirmed with a nod. It fled its master and has been wreaking havoc in the human world. Apparently, it stumbled into my territory to evade pursuit. President, is our mission tonight to hunt this stray devil? Kiba asked. That's right, Rias said. We can't let such a thing run rampant in my jurisdiction. It's a stain on our reputation. So, we'll need to put in some effort tonight, everyone. This stray might keep us busy until dawn, Rias added with a smile. These summer vacation days have been nothing but client tasks. I'm getting rusty, Kuoh said, her eyes glinting with interest despite her stoic face. Those clients are so fragile they can't even handle a mild electric shock. It's no fun, Aeno chimed in. Aeno, tone it down. I've had plenty of complaints about you, Rias said, rubbing her forehead with a sigh. But I get glowing reviews too, Rias, Aeno replied, her smile unshaken. Even so, too many complaints could affect your evaluation, Rias pointed out, exasperated but fond. Oh, well, what can I do? Aeno said lightly, still smiling. Sometimes I just can't hold back. Just try to be more careful, Rias sighed. Though her friend exuded Yamato Nachiko grace, her sadistic streak, paired with character, was a lethal combination. Got it, Aeno agreed breezily. By the way, Aeno, have you tried to track it down? Rias asked, steering the conversation back to their mission. Aeno raised her hand, summoning a magic circle. A small familiar appeared, whispered something in her ear, and vanished back into the circle. Sorry, Rias, no trace of it yet, Aeno said, stroking her familiar gently. Really? Even you couldn't find it? Rias's eyes sparked with intrigue rather than disappointment. It must be skilled at hiding. No wonder it evaded its master and made it to my territory, Rias mused. Ordinary stray devils posed no challenge, but one this elusive piqued her interest, promising a chance to prove her strength to the underworld. 16. Konako, everyone, keep up with Shiro. Chapter 16, Konako, everyone, keep up with Shiro. Ah, Rias, you seem awfully motivated. Noticing the distinct, excited smile on Rias's face, Aeno covered her mouth and chuckled. President, you're looking scary, Konako added. Her instincts, sharper than most, picked up on Rias's intensity. Even with her usual stoic demeanor, she couldn't resist commenting. The stray in for a rough night, Kiba said with a smile. Indeed, Rias replied. I'll make sure it learns that becoming a stray, evading its master, and fleeing to Kuoh town was a bad decision. It'll regret that choice. Her elegant smile carried unshakable confidence. She had no doubts about defeating the stray devil, and neither did Aeno, Konako, or Kiba. As the next head of the Gremory clan, Rias's strength stood out among devils of her age. A stray devil was child's play for her provided they could track it down. It's almost time. Let's move, everyone, Rias said, glancing at the wall clock. She set down the document, rose from her desk, and walked to the center of the room. Rias, do you have a lead? Aeno asked. Her familiar had found no trace of the stray devil, suggesting they might need to scour a wide area tonight. My familiar picked up some clues, Rias confirmed with a nod. Using communication magic, she'd learned from her familiar of several suspicious locations, potential hideouts for the stray devil. Aeno nodded slightly. Konako and Kiba joined Rias at the room's center. Rias used teleportation magic, and a circular pattern, about 2 meters wide, materialized beneath their feet, its intricate lines marking a spell exclusive to the Gremory clan. Only its members and their retainers could use it. The spell glowed with dazzling light, enveloping the four. With a sudden flicker, the light vanished, and they were teleported from the ORC. No luck here either. Rias murmured, scanning the location, a long-abandoned building. Peeling plaster exposed weathered walls, and the ground was littered with debris and dust, exuding decay. At night, the occasional rustling sounds lent an eerie air. Her quick sweep of the first floor revealed only a few small animals and faint demonic traces. There's a hint of its presence, though. It was here recently, Konako said, her nose twitching as she sniffed the air. Not a bad hiding spot, Aeno remarked with a smile. Remote and rarely visited, it was a solid temporary refuge. Let's move to the next location. Rias wasn't worried about their failure. If anything, it fueled her desire to confront the stray devil that dared trespass in Kuoh town. Aeno chuckled softly. As Rias's bestie, she could read her mood with a glance. Despite their mental preparation for a long hunt, everyone had secretly hoped to find the stray devil on the first try. The miss stung, however slightly. Rias used teleportation magic again, whisking them to the next suspicious location. Unfortunately, their luck didn't improve. The stray devil was maddeningly elusive, having switched hiding spots 5 or 6 times in the mere 2 or 3 days since arriving here. They deduced it changed locations every few hours. It also explained why its master struggled to capture it. Without swift action upon spotting it, the stray would slip away. Any new suspicious locations? Rias asked, summoning her familiar after another fruitless search. No leads, huh? Rias said, stroking it gently as reassurance. That's fine. This stray's just exceptionally cunning. President, the scent here is stronger than at the other spots. It left recently, Konako reported. She sniffed the air again, then pointed. It went that way. There's still a faint trail on the path. Konako, lead the way, Rias said. Konako nodded and summoned her familiar, a white kitten named Shiro, as adorable as it was effective. Its sense of smell surpassed even Konako's, making it ideal for tracking. Shiro, you're up, Konako said, petting the kitten's head before setting it on the ground. Meow. Shiro let out a soft cry and darted off, following the scent. Everyone, keep up with Shiro, Konako called, running after her familiar. Rias, Aeno, and Kiba followed, trailing the white kitten through the night. 17. Fenex Clan. Chapter 17, Fenex Clan. Everyone followed Shiro, and soon noticed the path was leading to a place devils instinctively avoided. Rias, this direction, Aeno said, her tone turning serious. The church. Rias slowed her pace, gazing into the distance with a low voice. Having lived in Kuoh town for years, Rias was familiar with its notable locations, including the abandoned church. Shiro, are you sure? Konako stopped, gently picking up the white kitten and asking softly. Meow meow meow. Shiro mewed indignantly, as if offended by the doubt. No mistake. Konako blinked, slightly surprised. In the open field, the stray devil scent was faint, quickly dispersed by the breeze. Konako's senses, while sharp, couldn't pinpoint the trail from such scarce traces. She relied on Shiro's superior sense of smell. President, Shiro's on the right track. It's definitely this way. The church has been abandoned for years, Rias mused, chuckling as she analyzed the situation. No priests or exorcists have been there in ages. As a hiding spot, it's actually quite clever. There might be a surprise waiting, Rias added with a graceful smile, motioning for Shiro to continue leading. Soon, they reached the church's vicinity. Here traces of the stray, Kiba said, pointing to the cement road. The holes corroded by the stray devil's acidic liquid were glaringly obvious, impossible to miss. Kiba crouched to inspect them. This happened recently, he noted, observing the fresh, dust-free corrosion marks. Rias scanned the area intently, her expression serious but silent. This way, Konako said, darting toward the nearby woods. I can sense its aura now, Aeno said, her smile tinged with excitement. But something's off. It was so cautious before, yet here it's left such obvious tracks, Kiba remarked, staying vigilant as he scanned the surroundings while running. Unlike its previous hideouts, this felt too blatant, almost like a deliberate invitation to follow. What's this? Rias murmured as a massive, charred corpse came into view. The body was blackened, scorched by flames or perhaps lightning. Oh my, Aeno smiled, though her tone carried a dangerous edge. Who could have done this? They took down our prey, and judging by the damage, they're no weakling. Kiba examined the corpse and the surrounding area. It was burned to death with flame-based attack, he concluded. I can't pick up any other scents. Shiro, can you? Konako asked her familiar. Meow meow meow. Shiro chirped eagerly. Shiro's memorized the scent. If they show up again, Shiro will know, Konako said, patting the kitten's head as a reward. Good job, Shiro. Shiro purred, nuzzling Konako's palm contentedly. Shiro says there's also the scent of a male, Konako relayed. Even humans could distinguish gender by scent up close, and Shiro's keen nose made it effortless. Shiro circled the area but found no further leads. Roy had deliberately taken detours to throw off trackers, and human scents were faint and easily diluted in human-populated areas. With Roy avoiding any use of power during his escape, the trail was nearly non-existent. Rias stared at the stray devil's scorched corpse, her expression turning grave. Rias, you look troubled. What's wrong? Aeno asked. It's nothing. The burns on this thing just remind me of someone I'd rather not think about, Rias said, shaking her head. Fenex. Aeno ventured, her tone heavy. The word alone darkened not only Rias's face but also Konako's and Kiba's. They all knew what the Fenex clan meant to Rias and how much she despised them. The residual flame aura is identical to the Fenex clan's hellfire, but it's unlikely to be them, Rias said firmly. Knowing the Fenex clan, they wouldn't sneak into Kuoh town quietly. And they'd at least contact me first. Except for Riser Fenex, no Fenex clan member would visit Kuoh town without reason. Even if they did, they'd stop by Kuoh Academy first, as this was Gremory clan territory. Rias knew Riser's flamboyant nature, he'd never act discreetly or leave without fanfare. Besides, the residual power doesn't match anyone, Rias added. She was familiar with the clan's members, and none fit the profile. Who could it be? Aeno wondered, puzzled. The battle traces scorched marks, burn wounds, and the lingering aura mirrored the Fenex clan's fighting style. I don't know, Rias admitted with a wry smile. This kind of flame should be exclusive to TH. Hellfire was a racial talent, like Rias's power of destruction, tied to bloodline. Outsiders shouldn't be able to wield it. Could it be some with Fenex blood? Aeno suggested, considering the possibility of a hybrid or illegitimate heir. 18. Lucky Day. Chapter 18, Lucky Day. The Three Factions War and the Devil Civil War had caused immense upheaval among devils. In such chaos, it wasn't unthinkable for a clan's bloodline to be lost in the human world. Such cases had occurred before. I'm not sure, Rias admitted, her tone tinged with frustration. Everyone understood why. The marriage contract with the Fenex clan was a heavy burden on Rias's heart. Rias, should we report this? Aeno asked. A potential Fenex was significant news, and informing the clan could earn their favor. Not yet, Rias replied. We don't know if this person is tied to the Fenex clan. I'd rather avoid contact with them for now. If they're not involved, it'll just stir up trouble. Besides, this is an unknown individual in my territory. I haven't identified them yet. Why should I let the Fenex clan meddle? Rias added, her voice laced with resentment toward the mysterious figure. This stranger had not only appeared in her domain without permission but also stolen her prey after a night-long hunt and might even be linked to the Fenex clan. Each point felt like a deliberate provocation, fueling Rias's ire. "Rias, have you noticed?" Aeno said, inspecting the stray devil's corpse and the surroundings with a smile. "The way this was handled screams complete beginner." "Exactly. They didn't even dispose of the corpse, just left it here," Kiba agreed. "A monstrous remains, if found by humans, could make headlines by morning." Despite myths and the presence of mystical, the supernatural world remained hidden, shielded from ordinary human awareness. "Maybe they're just taunting me," Rias muttered, her resentment deepening. Aeno gave a helpless smile, recognizing that Rias's mood was soured by the Fenex connection. While Rias's theory wasn't impossible, it seemed unlikely. "President, Shiro and I will track down this suspicious person," Konako promised. "Thanks, Konako," Rias said, softening her restless mood with a smile. "Since someone else dealt with the stray, let's call it a night." Rias raised her hand, and demonic power surged, enveloping the stray devil's corpse. Moments later, the massive remains dissolved into nothingness. After erasing the surrounding burn marks with demonic power, Rias used teleportation magic, returning to ORC. Roy was unaware that his handiwork had sparked a flurry of speculation among Rias and her peerage. At that moment, he was fast asleep on the plush hotel bed. The next morning, Roy woke refreshed, washed up, and sat down to enjoy the hotel's breakfast. Ring. His phone chimed with a message notification. Roy opened it to look at the home address of Issei. Yesterday, he'd not only arranged to find a house but also hired someone to locate Issei's address. With Issei's full name, school, and age, the search was swift. "Let's check out Issei's house today," Roy decided, finishing the last bite of breakfast and wiping his lips. Issei was the protagonist. If Kiba was worth 50,000 dimensional points, Issei had to offer more conservatively, over 100,000. After leaving the hotel, Roy took a taxi to the neighborhood near Issei's home. No one else around. Has Issei not been targeted yet? Roy wondered, posing as a casual passerby while observing the area. Issei's house looked unremarkable, with no signs of fallen angels or devils. "Good news," Roy murmured. It meant fewer obstacles if he made a move, no sudden interruptions. Of course, his investigative skills might have missed hidden fallen angels or devils lurking nearby. To them, he was just a human. "I'll scope things out first. If it comes to it, I'll find a way inside," Roy decided, choosing to linger outside. He wasn't certain if the area was under surveillance, and breaking in could complicate things. With plenty of time, he saw no need to rush. "I'm heading out." A voice called. A boy in a t-shirt emerged from the house. "Issei. Issei, take the extra money mom gave you and come straight back after shopping. No buying those dirty magazines again." Issei's mother's voice echoed from inside. "Got it, mom, quit nagging." Issei replied, his face flushing. He glanced around nervously, relaxing only when he saw no one nearby. If anyone had overheard, he'd have died of embarrassment. Grumbling about his mother's lecture, Issei headed toward the nearest supermarket. "Lucky day," Roy said with a smile. Issei leaving alone was exactly what he'd hoped for. 19. Inviting Kiba. Chapter 19, Inviting Kiba. Others get to tail cute, beautiful girls, but I'm stuck following a high school boy with a head full of perverted nonsense. Roy muttered to himself, eyeing Issei's figure from a distance. For caution's sake, Roy didn't approach Issei right after he left home. Instead, he opted for a casual encounter in the supermarket to avoid any potential surveillance by anyone lurking in the shadows. It might be overthinking, but better safe than sorry. The supermarket buzzed with activity, shoppers weaving through the aisles. As Issei browsed, Roy followed. Seizing a moment, Roy brushed past Issei, making it look accidental. "Congratulations, host. You have obtained 500,000 dimensional points." Roy froze, then checked the system interface. The 5 zeros sent a surge of glee through him. 500,000. That was far beyond expectations. Yuuto Kiba, a major supporting character, had just over 50,000 dimensional points. Roy had estimated Issei might offer triple that, around 150,000. But 500,000, nearly 10 times. This was an instant windfall. No more scrimping on dimensional points. He could replicate Kiba's kendo talent or a fallen angel's abilities without hesitation. But his elation crashed the next moment as he reviewed the replication costs for Issei. Full replication, 1 million dimensional points. Longinus, boosted gear, 1 million dimensional points. Roy fixated on the string of zeros. 1,000,000 points. His heart sank. Moments ago, he'd been thrilled with 500,000, but now. Good thing I never planned to replicate the boosted gear outright, Roy consoled himself. The richer he felt, the poorer he realized he was. What a brutal reality. Time to focus on the fallen angels, Roy decided, sticking to his original plan. Use the sacred gear stripping technique to forcibly take the boosted gear from Issei. It would cost far fewer dimensional points than replication. Regaining his composure, Roy kept his expression neutral, as if nothing had happened. He grabbed a few random items, paid, and left the supermarket. Issei, oblivious to the encounter, continued shopping for his mother's list. In the crowded supermarket, a slight brush was unremarkable. Roy headed to the shop he'd visited yesterday. After the church trip, he'd tasked them with procuring surveillance equipment. He'd initially wanted cameras to monitor the church, but installation was impractical without proper conditions. Returning to the church, Roy inspected it as usual. Like yesterday, there were no signs of fallen angels. They hadn't returned overnight. Where were they? Kuoh town was their stage. Why weren't they here? Grumbling about the absent fallen angels, Roy set up listening devices instead. All set. Now I wait for them to show, he said, connecting the small cameras to the internet and his phone. After testing the signal, he confirmed clear reception from the church and left. The camera's batteries would last a month, letting Roy monitor the church remotely. If no fallen angels appeared, he'd swap the batteries and keep waiting. Kiba, you free? I want to thank you for yesterday's help with a meal, Roy texted Kiba after returning to the hotel. With 500,000 dimensional points from Issei, Roy could afford to splurge. Plus, Kiba had abilities that Roy coveted. Kuoh Academy, Occult Research Club. The quiet room stood empty until a magic circle flared in the center. Rias appeared first, finding no one present. She settled gracefully on the sofa, legs crossed, her skirt just covering her thighs and revealing fair calves. Soon, Aeno, Konako, and Kiba appeared from the teleportation circle. Any suspicious figures on your end? Rias asked. All clear here, Aeno reported first. President, no suspicious people in my area, Konako replied. Kiba, any leads? Rias asked, pinning her hopes on Kiba. Sorry, I haven't spotted anyone suspicious, Kiba said, apologetic. I'm sorry, President. I'm useless, Konako added, her stoic facade masking guilt. She'd vowed to find the suspicious person, yet after a day's search, she'd found nothing. It's fine, Rias said with a reassuring smile. I haven't made progress either. Kuoh town is Bidget's no surprise we haven't covered every corner in a single day. Exactly, Rias, Aeno chimed in. If this person's still in Kuoh town, they'll slip up eventually. Ring. Kiba's phone pinged with a notification. He glanced at it, his expression shifting slightly. Kiba, what is it? Rias asked, noticing the change. It's the transfer student I met yesterday. He wants to treat me to dinner to thank me for showing him around, Kiba explained with a wry smile. Inviting you to dinner for such a small favor? He seems like someone worth knowing, Rias pondered slightly. Go ahead, Kiba. We're done here, and after a busy day, you deserve a break. Thank you, President, Kiba said, bidding farewell. He left Kuoh Academy, heading to the restaurant Roy had suggested. 20. Replicating Kiba's talent. Chapter 20. Replicating Kiba's talent. Roy, isn't this place a bit pricey? An ordinary restaurant would have been fine. Kiba looked a bit embarrassed, as they arrived at the upscale restaurant. Having attended high school in Kuoh town for a year, Kiba knew the local scene. This restaurant's steep prices were far beyond a student's budget. As a reincarnated devil, his living expenses barely exceeded those of an ordinary teen. A meal here could leave him scraping by for weeks. I read online that this place has great food, so I picked it, Roy said with a nonchalant smile. His bank card held more money than he'd earned in his previous life combined, so cost was no concern. Kiba's reluctance was exactly what Roy had hoped for. It made his generosity seem more genuine. It's rare for me to treat someone, Roy added, sliding the menu toward Kiba with a playful grin. Next time, it's on you, so you'd better eat your fill now. I might start mooching off you regularly. Haha, alright, I won't hold back then, Kiba laughed. He ordered 2 signature dishes from the menu, then handed it back to Roy. Roy added 2 more dishes, enough for 2 teenage boys. As they waited, Roy steered the conversation, quickly building rapport with Kiba. By the way, Kiba, you seemed preoccupied earlier. Something troubling you? Roy asked casually. Is it that obvious? Kiba looked startled, nearly caught off guard. He hadn't expected Roy to pick up on his unease. I'm just good at reading people, Roy replied with a smile. I didn't peg you for that skill, Roy, Kiba said with a wry chuckle. It's just a club issue. We've hit a snag with something tricky, and it's got everyone stressed. He kept it vague, avoiding any mention of the incident. A club matter, huh? Roy nodded, feigning curiosity. If you're okay with it, you could share more. Maybe I can help. Better yet, introduce me to Rias and the others. That's a jackpot of dimensional points, Roy thought. Thanks for the offer, but our club's unique, Kiba shook his head. Only members can get involved in our activities. Outsiders aren't allowed. Sounds like a pretty exclusive club, Roy said, nodding knowingly. A devil's club, obviously. I'm just after your dimensional points. It's one of the more independent clubs at school. Seems interesting. Once I enroll at Kuoh Academy, I'll swing by your club to check it out. Any chance you're recruiting? Roy asked, keeping his tone light. Sure, when you're enrolled, I'll introduce you to the members. You'll be surprised, Kiba smiled. But joining? That depends on the president. Not that we're actually recruiting unless you're special, Yuoto thought. Deal, Roy gave a faint smile. He had no intention of joining the occult research club or becoming a devil. All he wanted was the dimensional points. His plan was simpler: display a hint of extraordinary talent and strength after enrolling. Rias would likely come to him, drawn to his potential. An hour later, the two finished lunch, said their goodbyes, and parted ways. System: replicate Yuuto Kiba's kendo talent, evil peace, night, and magic power conversion. Consuming 10,000 dimensional points. Evil peace, night replicated successfully. Consuming 20,000 dimensional points. Magic power conversion replicated successfully. Use now. Consuming 100,000 dimensional points. Swordsmanship talent replicated successfully. Use now. Roy returned to the hotel to integrate the new abilities. Start with magic power conversion, Roy commanded. A surge of knowledge flooded his mind and the entire demonic power he had converted into so-called mana or magic power. Next, he used the kendo talent. The integration added insights, fighting principles, moves, and instincts. Unlike the hellfire replication, which granted immediate combat prowess, this felt more like learning. No feeling of swinging a weapon like a master, Roy mused. Compared to hellfire, it's a little weak. Kiba's talent included his exceptional aptitude, unique insights, and commonly used techniques. But it's an experience, not a plug-and-play like the hellfire. The host need to forge his own path. I get it. The replicated talent required training to unlock its full potential. Unlike hellfire, kendo talent demanded practice to shape into Roy's own style. The solution? Simple: swing a sword, train, and fight. Over time, Roy would develop his own techniques, unshackled by Kiba's limits. Kiba had honed himself over a decade to reach his current level. With the replicated talent, Roy estimated he could match that in 5 or 6 weeks. 21. Fallen Angels appeared. Chapter 21. Fallen Angels appeared. In Kuoh town, inside a villa's adjacent gymnasium, the sharp sound of the kendo sword echoed relentlessly. The sound came from rapid, precise swings, each clean and piercing. Under the gymnasium's lights, a boy could be seen practicing. His swings were lightning fast yet consistent. A precise instrument could have clocked the exact frequency. 1,000, the boy said, halting his practice and exhaling deeply. The boy was Roy. 2 days ago, the house Roy had commissioned was Rias' second-hand villa. He promptly left the hotel to settle into this new home. Unlike a cramped hotel room, the villa offered ample space for training. Roy purchased a kendo sword and spent his days honing the kendo talent replicated from Kiba. At first, he'd considered enrolling in a local dojo for formal training. While Kiba's replicated talent included unique insights, Roy lacked practical experience, and learning behind closed doors wasn't ideal. A seasoned instructor could guide his early steps, but his exceptional talent proved a double-edged sword. Roy quickly mastered the dojo's basic techniques, outpacing the instructors. Within days, he bested the dojo's master in a spar, prompting the humiliated owner to accuse Roy of being a rival saboteur. With a curt dismissal, the master declared he had nothing left to teach. Roy realized the standards of human in this world. He briefly considered asking Kiba to spar, leveraging their budding acquaintance to refine his skills. But he dismissed the idea. Before seizing the boosted gear from Issei, Roy wanted to avoid drawing attention from Rias' peerage. Displaying his talents too soon could make him a target and jeopardize his plan to claim the Longinus. Swinging a sword alone is tedious, but it works. Roy settled the kendo sword aside with an easy smile. Sparring would accelerate learning, but without a suitable opponent, Roy relied on repetitive swings. In just 5 days, he'd progressed from clumsy beginner to intermediate. Starting at 1 swing per second, he now hit 5, the talent gradually becoming his own through relentless effort. Roy was confident he could hold his own in a real fight. Though, he might not match Kiba, but against lesser foes, he'd manage. Taking a sip of water, Roy checked his stats. Host, Roy Flott. Race, human. Level, LVL 40. Replicated abilities, Hellfire, C. Kendo talent, C. Replicated items, Evil Peace, Night. Dimensional points, 405,693. LVL 40. Mastering this had bolstered his close combat skills, leveling him from LVL 30 to LVL 40. In early episodes, Kiba's strength rivaled a high class. Having replicated Kiba's talents, and with growing combat proficiency, Roy's level increase was expected. That's enough for today, Roy decided, ready to rest. He'd been swinging at least 20,000 times daily, ramping up to 40,000 in the last 2 days. His physique endured the strain, leaving him merely sore where an ordinary human's arms would have given out. As Roy tidied up, preparing to shower, his phone buzzed. Fallen Angels, you've finally shown up. An abandoned church stood silent under the night sky. The bright moon cast cold light through leafy gaps, painting the ground in frost-like patches. 3 shadows darted across the darkness, leaving faint trails of black feathers, like drifting catkins. Moonlight revealed their humanoid forms, each bearing massive, body-wrapping wings, hallmarks of creatures of myth. The trio landed lightly before the church's gate. Looks like Lady Rainare hasn't arrived. We'll wait here, said a gothic Lolita fallen angel with short blonde twintails, sensing the empty church. They pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. Hold on, a sultry fallen angel in a tight black leather jacket called out, her voice calm but firm. Her outfit strained against her chest, buttons barely holding. She froze, halting the others. "What's wrong, Kuoh?" The sole male fallen angel asked, pausing at the threshold. "You nearly scared me to death." The blonde Lolita grumbled, but she stopped moving. "Need some reviews." 22 Fallen Angels. Chapter 22 Fallen Angels. Kuoh, what did you find? Is there a ghost here? The blonde Gothic Lolita fallen angel, Middlet, asked. She glanced nervously at the moonlit church hall, its shadows deepening her fear. "Middlet, you're a fallen angel. Is it really okay to be scared of ghosts?" The male fallen angel, DxD, looked confused. "I'm still a girl. Being afraid of ghosts is totally normal," Middlet retorted matter-of-factly. Her expression turned timid. "Besides, an abandoned church like this is prime territory for them. DxD, why don't you scout ahead? Check if any ghosts spawned while we were gone. I heard people died here, and that's why it was abandoned," Middlet added. "That's what you get for binging human horror movies. You're embarrassing us fallen angels," DxD muttered, shaking his head. As wielders of light-based power, fallen angels were natural counters to ghosts. The idea of a fallen angel fearing a mere ghost warped by negative energy was mortifying to him. "Kuoh, is something wrong?" DxD asked, turning to the statuesque fallen angel in the tight leather jacket. "Someone's been here," Kuoh said, her eyes fixed on the floor. "We used this church as a rendezvous point, so I cleaned it thoroughly before we left." "Kuoh, you clean to keep intruders out. That's brilliant," Middlet exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with admiration. Kuoh licked her lips, tempted to clarify but ultimately nodding. She couldn't admit she'd cleaned simply because her angelic instincts buried deep from her pre-fallen days compelled her to tidy the filthy church. It was less strategy and more compulsion. Admitting that would shatter her carefully crafted image, so she let Middlet's assumption stand. "You're so meticulous, Kuoh," DxD said. "Kuoh town isn't our territory, so we have to be cautious," Kuoh replied, lowering her gaze to hide her embarrassment. She pretended to study the floor's traces, inwardly pleading, "Stop praising me. I can't take it." "Well, Kuoh," Middlet prompted, intrigued by her investigation. "There are only a few faint footprints, likely from a few days ago," Kuoh reported. "And then?" Middlet's eyes gleamed, captivated by the detective-like process. Kuoh's mouth twitched. "And then? What do you expect? Footprints from days ago were the extent of it. No other clues remained. It's probably just humans. This is an abandoned church, but people still wander in occasionally," DxD said, inspecting the footprints. They were unremarkable, with no other signs in the church. The cameras Roy had planted required no specific power, just simple battery, making them undetectable to the fallen angel's senses. "Likely," Kuoh agreed, her expression neutral as she regained composure. "Lame. I thought it was something exciting, but it's just humans." "What a letdown," Middlet huffed, disappointed. "You seem awfully relaxed. Have you finished the tasks I assigned?" A sultry voice called from above. A scantily clad fallen angel, dressed in a barely there outfit that accentuated her voluptuous figure, descended from the night sky, landing at the church's entrance. "Lady Rainere," the trio said in unison, turning to greet her. "How did things go in Europe?" Rainere asked, sauntering past them with a sway that made her presence impossible to ignore. She settled onto a pew, crossing her legs and smiling at the three. "The stray exorcist, Fried Selzen, signed a contract with us. He's agreed to serve," DxD replied calmly. According to Fallen Angel intelligence, Fried Selzen became an exorcist prodigy at 13, racking up kills against devils and monsters. His obsessive hostility, bloodlust, and warped fixation on combat defined him. That twisted personality led to his expulsion from the church. It made him a prime recruit for the Fallen Angels, who traveled to Europe to secure his allegiance. "Just him?" Rainere asked, raising an eyebrow. "He also brought his former team. They're loyal to him and willing to join us," Kuoh added. "Where are they?" "I don't sense them," Rainere noted. "Hi, Lady Rainere, let me answer that." Middlet chirped, raising her hand. Rainere nodded. "Fried's trying to recruit a saint expelled from the church as his offering to prove his loyalty," Middlet explained. "He's still persuading her and forging documents to get her out of the country." "A saint? The church has those by the dozen," Rainere sneered. "An expelled saint sounds worthless. A current saint might have piqued her interest. Corrupting the devout was a fallen angel's delight. But an outcast? Hardly worth the effort." "Lady Rainere, this saint is different," Kuoh said, her voice firm. 23 Female Saint. Chapter 23 Female Saint. "Not the same?" Rainere asked, raising an eyebrow with a sardonic smirk. "What's so special about this saint? Did she flirt her way out of the church with her charms?" To fallen angels like Rainere, saints were little more than church propaganda tools to dupe devotees. In her eyes, they were no better than seductresses. "She seems genuinely pure," DxD replied instinctively. "TCH. The church's old trick picks some innocent-looking women to play saint and lure in the faithful," Rainere scoffed. "Centuries pass, and they still recycle the same ploy. I don't need a decorative vase here." "Lady Rainere, this saint isn't just a figurehead," Middlet interjected eagerly. "She wields a sacred gear. Twilight healing." "Twilight healing?" Rainare paused, then let out a pitying sigh. That's rough. Used up by the church and then discarded. As a seasoned fallen angel, Rainare's knowledge was vast. Twilight healing had shown in past wars, its wielders perfectly fitting the church's saintly ideal living propaganda to sway believers. Typically, such a sacred gear host would be a lifelong church asset, paraded to draw crowds and funds, often unaware of their exploitation. That's why Rainare pitied this expelled saint. Her usefulness likely exhausted, she'd been cast aside. Twilight healing's healing is unmatched, but it's useless for fallen angels. We're not a charity. What good is she to us besides eating our food? Rainare said coldly. She had no patience for dead weight. A saint seeking refuge was dreaming if she expected Rainare's mercy. Lady Rainare, this saint was expelled for healing devils, Middlet added. Healing devils? You're certain? Exactly. Twilight healing is rare enough that the church wouldn't expel its host lightly, DxD confirmed. That's the best news I've heard since arriving in the human world. A sly smile spread across her face. Sacred gears, crafted by the biblical god, were designed for humans. Twilight healing shouldn't heal devils nor fallen angels, who betrayed him. Yet this saint could heal devils, implying she could heal fallen angels too. Whatever glitch allowed this anomaly was a boon for Rainare's group. How's Fried's progress? How long until he lures that saint to us? Rainare asked. At least half a month, Kuoh replied. She's been expelled, but she's still naive, clinging to church dogma. She won't easily join fallen angels. Naive to a fault, Rainare said, her smile dripping with mockery. Fallen angels, once devout followers of the biblical god, now despised as believers. Corrupting the faithful like this saint offered a perverse thrill Rainare relished. But expulsion leaves her vulnerable. Once she grasps how harsh life is, she'll come to Fried, Kuoh added. Pity Europe's angel territory. Otherwise, we could just snatch her, DxD said regretfully. After the three factions' war, angels, fallen angels, and devils had reached an uneasy truce. They could operate in their own domains, but causing trouble in another's territory invited retaliation. Half a month. I can wait. I've got a surveillance mission in Kuoh town anyway, Rainare said with a casual smile. Surveillance mission? Middlet asked, curious. My superior ordered me to monitor some brat, Rainare said, irritation creeping into her voice. Supposedly, he's a mid-tier sacred gear host, at least. Mid-tier? That's nearly as rare as Twilight healing, Middlet said, surprised. Grigori monitored sacred gear hosts to track their awakenings, which could sometimes spiral into uncontrollable rampages, endangering the host and their surroundings. Grigori classified these threats. Mid-tier sacred gears were potent, surpassed only by top-tier and Longinus class. Confirming a mid-tier sacred gear would be a coup. It might even earn a summons from Lord Azazel, Kuoh said, her eyes gleaming. Lady Rainare, if Lord Azazel calls, can you bring us along? Middlet asked eagerly. Don't get your hopes up, Rainare said, rubbing her forehead. I've watched this kid for 3 days. He shows zero signs of a mid-tier sacred gear host. 24. Roy arrives. Chapter 24, Roy arrives. Sacred gear hosts often exhibited exceptional traits, strength, intellect, or unique talents. This was Grigori's conclusion after millennia of observation. But after 3 days tailing Issei, Rainare found nothing remarkable. She'd covertly checked his report card mediocre, far from brilliant. His appearance? Unimpressive, especially to Rainare, who'd seen countless striking figures. Issei was, frankly, plain. Strength? A high school boy obsessed with perverse fantasies had none. Rainare doubted he'd last a few years before wasting away. Character? Hopeless. To his parents, Issei was a lost cause, doomed to a life alone or behind bars. Since arriving in Kuoh town, Rainare had monitored Issei relentlessly. 3 days only flaws, no merits. More than once, she'd fantasized about skewering him with a spear of light to spare her eyes. Only her superior's orders stayed her hand. Just wait until this mission's over, she thought, barely containing her murderous urge. No qualities of a sacred gear host. Middlet asked. That's impossible. Could Grigori's detection be wrong? It's not unheard of, DxD said gravely. There was a case where we flagged a Longinus-class sacred gear host. It alarmed our higher-ups, only to be a false positive and embarrassing blunder. That happened. You'd know if you studied sacred gears more. It's no secret among us, DxD sighed. Forget it. Securing Twilight healing is already a major win. If we sway that saint, we can report to our superiors. With luck, we might even get summoned by Lord Azazel, Rainare pondered slightly. The surveillance mission's just a time killer. Rainare had decided, if Issei's sacred gear proved worthless, she'd arrange a fitting accident to send him to hell. So, Asia's arrival was orchestrated by fallen angels, Roy murmured, listening their conversation. Along with the cameras, he also planted microphones. Roy knew Asia sought refuge with Fried after her church expulsion. He hadn't anticipated the fallen angels' intricate role. Killing these fallen angels outright might be tricky now, Roy said, speeding toward the abandoned church on a motorcycle left by the villa's previous owner. His original plan was to eliminate the fallen angels after acquiring sacred gear extraction technique. But their talk changed things. Killing them could derail Asia's path to Kuoh town, letting Diodora Astaroth exploit the chaos. Asia's dimensional points and Asia herself were too valuable to risk losing. Time to tweak the strategy, Roy decided. With Hellfire, he could pass for a Ghost Rider cameo. He needed Rainere's extraction technique urgently but couldn't wait for the story's timeline to snatch Issei's boosted gear. The sooner, the better. Delays invited complications. To preserve the fallen angels' plan for Asia, he'd minimize conflict. If push came to shove, though, he'd eliminate them. With limited resources, tracking Asia independently was near impossible, and luring her to Kuoh town would be tougher. For now, he'd piggyback on the fallen angels' scheme. Parking at the mountain's base, Roy lit the path with his phone's flashlight and hiked toward the church, ready to confront the 4 fallen angels. If we pull off this mission, our standing among the fallen angels will skyrocket. Middle daydreamed of returning to the underworld, earning praise, and soaring to the peak of her fallen angel career. Don't get complacent. Keep tabs on Freed's progress and avoid surprises, Rainere sighed. I'll contact Freed daily for updates, DxD assured. Someone's coming, Rainere said suddenly, her eyes narrowing as she peered into the woods beyond the church gate. A glaring light flickered through the dark trees, approaching steadily. Who'd come here at night? Middle asked, turning to the light source. The church, long abandoned, rarely saw visitors even by day. Don't look at me, didn't call anyone. Warner quickly caught Middleton Donezik's glances. Hide your wings and see who it is, Rainere ordered calmly. The intruder was already outside, too close to flee unnoticed. Rainere knew Kuoh town was Gremory's territory, but as long as they avoided clashing with Rias's group, they'd be fine. Even if conflict arose, they weren't afraid. Still, this was a delicate time. They couldn't afford complications. A lone human was trivial compared to their mission, but exposure could ruin everything. In modern society, a missing or dead human would draw unwanted attention. Adhering to the principle of avoiding trouble, Rainere held back from killing the approaching figure outright. What's this human doing? Middle snapped, looking annoyed. Roy, now in the clearing outside the church, didn't enter. Instead, he aimed his flashlight directly at the group. 25, Roy, why were you yelling so loud? Chapter 25, Roy, why were you yelling so loud? Though fallen angels wielded light-based power, a flashlight's glare was still jarring. As enhanced beings from the biblical, they retained minor human weaknesses under normal conditions. It felt like deliberate provocation. Who's this guy? Middle snapped, shielding her nearly blinded eyes. She glared at the figure waving the flashlight. Hey, brat, keep shaking that light, and I'll end you. Why were you yelling so loud? Roy shot back. Middle froze, stunned. Her temper flared, but uncertainty about the intruder's identity and purpose held her back. Otherwise, she'd have hurled a spear of light at him. So many people already here. Roy said, lowering the flashlight and ceasing his scan of the church's interior. The other 3 fallen angels turned to Warner, the statuesque fallen angel. No, don't look at me. Warner protested, waving her hands. Even if I were desperate, I wouldn't call a guy here during our meeting, would I? Fallen angels were angels who succumbed to desire, often lust, the most primal urge. Legend held that even Azazel, once an archangel, fell for such reasons. Warner's own fall stemmed from her promiscuous behavior. Really not you? Rainere asked, eyeing Warner skeptically, as if her denial was a flimsy cover. Middleton Donezik shared her doubt, their expressions turning wary. Fine, he's my type, but I'm not reckless enough to mix pleasure with business, Warner said, exasperated. Was her reputation that bad? You say that, but how can we trust you, Warner? Donezik's demeanor lending weight to his words. Instead of grilling me, just ask him. Warner huffed, feeling unjustly accused. Sure, in another time and place, she might have charmed the boy into a hotel for a chat, but not now. Hey, kid, who are you? What are you doing in this abandoned church at night? Donezik asked, his voice stern. After the 3 factions war, angels, devils, and fallen angels relied on humans for survival, leading to an unspoken truce. Killing ordinary humans was frowned upon, especially for low-ranking members like them. With no status to shield them, a misstep in devil territory like Kuoh town could backfire. Keen to avoid trouble, Rainere and her group opted to shoo the human away rather than kill him. Who are you guys? Didn't Akaizuki Kozen call you for the courage test? Roy asked. Tonight's not a masquerade, is it? Why the weird outfits? You're the weird one, kid. This outfit's perfect for my figure, Middle retorted, bristling with confidence in her gothic Lolita dress. Don't you lot get hot in this weather? And you're a bit old to be calling me, kid, no. Roy said, rolling his eyes. Humph. Stupid human, you think I'm affected by mere weather? Middle smirked, casting a disdainful glance at Roy. She ignored the age jab. Filtering such comments was second nature. Enough, Middle. No time for bickering, Donezik said, cutting her off. Middle, the chatty gothic Lolita, could ramble endlessly once engaged. Kid, get lost. This isn't a playground for your courage games, Donezik barked. Roy glanced at the system interface. Middle. Full replication, 25,000 dimensional points. Fallen Angel Bloodline 20,000 dimensional points. Light-based power 10,000 dimensional points. Kuoh Warner. Full replication 25,000 dimensional points. Fallen Angel Bloodline 20,000 dimensional points. Light-based power 10,000 dimensional points. DxD. Full replication 30,000 dimensional points. Fallen Angel Bloodline 20,000 dimensional points. Light-based power 10,000 dimensional points. Rias. Full replication 50,000 dimensional points. Fallen Angel Bloodline 20,000 dimensional points. Light-based power 10,000 dimensional points. Sacred Gear Extraction Technique 30,000 dimensional points. Rias got what I want. Roy eyed the panel. System, replicate the Sacred Gear Extraction Technique. Consuming 30,000 dimensional points. Sacred Gear Extraction Technique replicated successfully. Use now. No, Roy replied. A complex thing like that needed careful study back at the villa. Feigning a reaction to DxD's threat, Roy pretended to text on his phone, muttering about being pranked. With a few curses for show, he turned and headed down the mountain. Not that simple, though, Roy mused. He doubted the fallen angels were so easily fooled. Their restraint was expected. As a seeming passerby, Roy faced little immediate danger unless he provoked them outright. Middlet, Kuoh Warner, tail that kid. Make sure he's just a stray, Rias ordered, watching Roy's fading flashlight. 26. Approaching Issei. Chapter 26. Approaching Issei. As expected, they followed, Roy muttered. Tracking so openly, though. Aren't you worried Rias will spot you? The two fallen angels tailing him, Middlet and Kuoh Warner, seemed convinced he was an ordinary human. Their pursuit was hardly subtle. They spread their wings, blended into the night sky, and trailed him from above. To an average person, their aerial stalking might have gone unnoticed. But Roy, with strength rivaling a middle-class devil, easily sensed their presence. He shrugged it off and headed home to rest. Seems like an ordinary guy. Middlet perched with Kuoh Warner on a tree near Roy's villa. After observing, they detected no unusual aura. Living alone, huh? Kuoh Warner's eyes linger on Roy with a hint of envy. His features stirred her interest. Kuoh Warner, cool it, Middlet said, exasperated. We're on a mission. Save your urges until the job is done. The mission took priority. Desires could wait. TCH, such a fine catch, and I can't act on it yet, Kuoh Warner grumbled, reluctantly turning away. She vowed to find a chance for a closer encounter later. Finding nothing suspicious, the two spread their wings and flew back to the abandoned church. They're gone. Roy confirmed, sensing no lingering presence outside. He lay on his bed and began using the Sacred Gear Extraction Technique replicated from Rias. Complex lines and symbols flooded his mind, embedding into his memory. Initially unfamiliar, they grew clearer as the technique's knowledge merged with his understanding. Within half a minute, Roy fully grasped the skill. The technique comprised two parts, the Sacred Gear Extraction Technique, which removed a sacred gear from its host, and the Sacred Gear Integration Technique, which fused it into a new host. The extraction process takes longer than I'd hoped, Roy said, frowning. Contrary to his expectations of a swift process, the technique required about an hour. In the anime, the lengthy preparation gave Issei and the others time to storm the church and rescue Asia. I'll need the perfect moment, Roy mused. With Rias monitoring Issei, Roy had to strike when she was absent to avoid interruptions. If push came to shove, he'd resort to violence. If I'm interrupted, I'll just eliminate them, Roy decided. Killing all but one fallen angel would suffice. Using the fallen angels as leverage, he could ensure Asia still reached Kuoh town, as in the anime. Over the next few days, Roy practiced the Sacred Gear Extraction Technique. From initial stumbles, he progressed to a seamless process. Though the technique sounded advanced, it wasn't overly complex. With repeated practice, it became second nature. Powerful beings could rip a sacred gear from a host by killing them and seizing it forcibly. Weaker ones, like Roy, relied on these techniques to trap the gear. The extraction technique was a cunning workaround, cumbersome but effective. Rias and her group are meeting again. Roy checked the church's cameras before bed. Every 3 days, the four fallen angels gathered to update each other on their mission's progress. This was their third meeting since Roy's initial encounter. Perfect opportunity. He changed clothes, hopped on his motorcycle, and sped toward Issei's house. Parking in a secluded corner, Roy scouted for surveillance. Finding none, he used his agility to scale the wall and slip into Issei's second-floor bedroom. Past midnight, Issei was fast asleep, oblivious to the intrusion. Roy approached, lightly touching him to ensure he wouldn't wake, then moved him from the bed to the floor. With preparations complete, Roy began the Sacred Gear Extraction Technique. Issei lay sprawled, arms outstretched like a crucified figure. Demonic power flowed from Roy's fingertips, tracing intricate lines around Issei and etching magic circles. The circle pulsed with energy, dancing in the air before sinking into Issei's body. 27. Night Peace. Chapter 27, Night Peace. After 45 minutes, Roy completed the technique, making the final magic circle into Issei's body. Solid progress. He exhaled, relieved. The time-intensive spell demanded intense focus, but his practice paid off. Every magic circle was etched flawlessly in one go. Roy felt a surge of satisfaction. The second step, the sacred gear integration technique, was far simpler. After a brief pause, Roy traced a magic circle with his fingers, which swiftly merged into his body. One last step, Roy said, tamping down his excitement. He activated the extraction technique within Issei's body. A faint glow emanated from Issei as the technique took hold. Hug. Issei, unconscious, groaned in pain, his body twitching. A sacred gear, intertwined with its hosts, was like a piece of their body. Extracting it was akin to carving out flesh. Agonizing. Noticing Issei stirring, Roy delivered a light tap to keep him under. The groans and tremors stopped instantly. The air vibrated. A vivid red light overwhelmed the faint glow, flooding the room. From Issei's body emerged a fierce, crimson gauntlet, hovering in the air. The boosted gear. After days of effort, Roy had secured the longinus. His hard work had paid off. Without hesitation, Roy grasped the boosted gear in his palm. The integration technique activated, and the gauntlet erupted in dazzling light, enveloping him. The massive crimson armor fused into his arm, vanishing beneath his skin. Just integrating it boosts my strength. The longinus enhanced his base power immediately. It wasn't a dramatic leap, but the increase was undeniable. Host, Roy Flott. Race, human. Level, LVL 50. Replicated abilities, hellfire, C, kendo talent, C. Replicated items, boosted gear, not replication, B+, evil peace, knights. Dimensional points, 375,793. Another level up, Roy confirmed via the system interface. Sacred gears are something else, he said, pleased. The mere fusion had elevated his strength. If he used boosted gear's power, he could rival an ultimate-class devil. In a way, Issei really was the weakest host ever. Roy glanced at the unconscious Issei sprawl on the floor. Despite Issei's eventual rise, his early weakness was glaring. Unlike past hosts, he only awakened the boosted gear after becoming a devil, drawing less attention from the three factions' powerhouses compared to his predecessors. Issei's breathing grew faint. For hosts, a sacred gear was tied to their life force. Its removal often meant death, especially for unawakened hosts with no defenses. Roy retrieved the evil piece, knight, replicated from Kiba. It was unclaimed, lacking a king piece to anchor it, rendering its speed-enhancing traits inert. Roy hadn't replicated it to build a peerage but to restore Issei's fading vitality, preventing his death. He made a magic circle on Issei's body, then embedded the knight piece into him, using it to reincarnate him as a devil. The piece fused, transforming Issei into a low-class devil. His weakening life force stabilized, growing robust as the conversion completed. Roy had no grudge against Issei. He'd only targeted the boosted gear. Not one for needless cruelty. Roy chose to spare him. This is all I can do for now. If I find a way later, I'll try to restore your human side, Roy murmured. Issei might adapt to devil life or meet an untimely end. That was beyond Roy's control. After erasing all traces of the ritual, Roy double-checked for oversights. Satisfied, he slipped out, leaving no evidence behind. 28. Boosted Gear. Chapter 28, Boosted Gear. Roy returned to the villa smoothly with no incidents along the way. It's said to double the host's power every 10 seconds. Let's see how many boosts I can handle. Back at the living room, he summoned the longinus. A fierce, crimson gauntlet encased his right hand. Boost. With a thought, the gauntlet flared, a low draconic voice echoing from the gauntlet. Boost. X8. 9 boosts resounded, each doubling Roy's strength. His strength was now beyond what he can remember. Host, Roy Flott. Race, human. Level, LVL 80, Ultimate Class, Temporary. Replicated abilities, Hellfire, C, Kendo Talent, C. Items, Boosted Gear, B+. Dimensional points, 375,793. Roy checked the system panel. The Ultimate Class in parentheses reflected his boosted state, temporary until the effect faded. This strength, Roy estimated, gauging his level against the hierarchy. The gap is insane. Just around 40 to 50 level UPS, and my strength reached Ultimate Class. It made sense. In the anime, Issei once boosted 12 times, amplifying his strength from low class to high class. An Ultimate Class wielded even greater destructive force. Roy figured a full-powered strike could reduce kilometers of Kuoh town to rubble, if he ignored collateral damage. I could probably handle 1 or 2 more boosts, but it'd strain my balance, Roy assessed, feeling his body's limits. The 9 boosts were manageable, within his tolerance. He maintained the state for 10 minutes before exhaustion hit, not gradually, but like a tidal wave. Hug. Roy collapsed onto the sofa, panting heavily. Pushing further risked injury, and Roy wasn't reckless enough to harm himself testing the longinus. 10 minutes at Ultimate Class. Not bad, he said, closing his eyes to recover. I need to bolster my base strength, Roy realized. The boosted gear amplified the host's foundation. The stronger it was, the more boosts he could endure, and the longer they'd last. Your talent's solid for your age, especially without leaning on the sacred gear. Among past hosts, you're a tough one, a deep voice rumbled from the gauntlet. Drake, you're awake. Roy shrugged off. He recognized the speaker. Drake, one of the 2 heavenly dragons sealed in the boosted gear. Woke up when you took me from that kid, Drake replied. How's the new host feel? Roy asked. A novel experience, being transplanted like this, Drake said. Historically, the boosted gear passed to a new host only after the previous host's death. Roy's extraction was a first. But you're a step up from that boy, Drake added, frustration evident. I've been in him for years, and he never awakened me. I wondered if I'd sleep until he died of old age. Past Red Dragon Emperors were legends, awakening the Longinus early and dominating battlefields. Issei, however, showed no signs of awakening, earning Drake's scorn as the most lackluster host ever. Roy chuckled. Issei's raw potential was lackluster, but his unique fixation, his obsession with a certain ideal, fueled his eventual rise as the strongest host. Sacred gears drew power from the host's convictions, and Issei's fixation, however bizarre, perfectly synced with the boosted gear's nature. Roy doubted he could match Issei's sheer drive in that regard. His own motivations lacked that singular, intense focus. We're partners now, Drake. Let's make it count, Roy said, smiling. Looking forward to it, partner, Drake replied. While not fully sold on Roy, whose acquisition of the Longinus was unorthodox, vastly preferred him over Issei. 29. Other Worlds. Chapter 29, Other Worlds. By the way, partner, a heads up, Drake said. If Albion hadn't been stuck with a host as useless as mine was, he'd likely be awake by now. From our past clashes, I'd bet this generation's Albion host has already mastered the balance breaker. Drake didn't elaborate on the balance breaker or question Roy's knowledge of his prior host, Hayato Issei. To a sacred gear, such details were irrelevant, only the host's ability to wield it mattered. Roy's skill in extracting the boosted gear implied he understood advanced concepts like the balance breaker, sparing Drake the need for basic explanations. Vala Lucifer, this generation's White Dragon Emperor? He's a real threat, Roy added. Vala far outshone Issei's initial mediocrity. Gifted and driven, Vala was deemed the strongest White Dragon Emperor ever by Azazel. By now, barring story disruptions, Vala had likely mastered the balance breaker and was working toward the Juggernaut drive. Roy felt the weight of the challenge. Even with his full arsenal, including the boosted gear's 9 boosts, he doubted he could match Vala's current power. The balance breaker, a sacred gear's ultimate state, granted temporary strength rivaling a Satan class. Roy was far from that level. Feeling the pressure, partner? Drake asked, sensing Roy's unease. As a sacred gear fueled by the host's will, he was attuned to emotional shifts. He's strong, no doubt. But give me time, and I'll surpass him, Roy sighed, tone slightly cold. That's the spirit worthy of my host, Drake chuckled heartily. If I'm right, Albion's already sensed my awakening, Drake added, his voice turning serious. An early awakening allowed a heavenly dragon to hone their host's power and detect their rival's activation. Roy's acquisition of the boosted gear had triggered this connection. Time's tight, then, Roy said, his eyes alight with confidence and anticipation. I don't know this generation's White Dragon Emperor, but you'd better power up fast and unlock the balance breaker, Drake urged. If he comes knocking, you'll need enough strength to hold your own. Burdened by Issei's dormancy, Drake's awakening had lagged behind Albion's. Roy's strength, while impressive, paled against Vala's. Historically, hosts sometimes tried to eliminate their rival early, but Red Dragon Emperors and White Dragon Emperors' awakenings were usually close enough in timing that neither could dominate. This generation's gap, however, was unprecedented, with Vala far ahead. Don't worry, Drake, Vala won't take me out. By the time Vala confronted him, Roy's dimensional points would likely have doubled, expanding his replication options. Worst case, he could go to another world, master balance breaker, and return ready to fight. Stay sharp, regardless, Drake laughed, sensing Roy's confidence. He didn't pry into its source. Roy's ability to match a middle class at his age hinted at secrets Drake had no interest in uncovering. With that, Drake fell silent. The room quieted, save for Roy's steady breathing. White Dragon Emperor, huh? Roy murmured, lounging on the sofa with his eyes closed. Snatching the boosted gear from Issei had inherited its rivalry with the White Dragon Emperor. But Roy wasn't overly concerned about Vala. Vala fixated on worthy opponents. Based on Roy's knowledge of DxD, Vala would likely dismiss Roy's current strength, perhaps even granting him time to grow a twisted take on a 3-year duel trope. Even if the story shifted and Vala came early with a changed demeanor, Roy had an escape, world travel via the system. System, how many dimensional points for world travel? Roy asked mentally. Each travel consumes 100,000 dimensional points and is random. Random. Roy's mouth twitched. What about returning to this world? DxD is your designated main world, with fixed coordinates. Traveling to other worlds costs dimensional points, but returning here is free. Revisiting a previously visited world also incurs no cost after setting its coordinates. Good enough. 30 Peaceful Days. Chapter 30, Peaceful Days. The fallen angels' movements were tied to Asia. 5 days had passed since Roy started monitoring the fallen angels. The odds of trouble were slim but not zero. Roy checked the recordings, fast-forwarding to a conversation involving Asia. Middlet, you're awfully free, lounging around the church, Rainere's voice said. Roy noted the timestamp, 1 day ago. Odd, given the fallen angel's 3-day meeting cycle. Lady Rainere. Middle replied, flustered. Don't Zeke's handling that stray exorcist, and I only step in when it's critical. Pick a job, then, Rainere said, exasperated. Lady Rainere, why are you here during the day? Don't you need to monitor that sacred gear host? Middle asked, looking curious. The surveillance on that kid, Issei, is done. I've got no pressing tasks in the human world, Rainere said casually. Done. Did you figure out his sacred gear's rank? Middle asked, surprised. Rainere's mission was to monitor a high schooler suspected of possessing a mid-tier sacred gear. Ending the task meant she'd assessed Issei's potential. That brat was reincarnated into a devil, Rainere said, her tone turning sour. After observing Issei and finding nothing remarkable or dangerous, Rainere had eased her round-the-clock watch, checking on him sporadically. But the night before, he'd been human. The next day, he was a reincarnated devil. A devil. Middle gasped. Does that mean he has a good sacred gear? Not certain, Rainere said, her voice turning smug. But I bet the high-class devil who reincarnated him is regretting it now. What happened? Middle asked, intrigued. He's the weakest I've ever seen, Rainere said, mocking. Post-reincarnation, he's barely different from before. His life force feels even frilier. Any low-class could crush him. That bad? Middle said, stunned. Pathetic, Rainere confirmed. First time I've seen such a failure. That's some bad luck for the high-class devil who picked him, Middle said, gleeful. Who'd be that unfortunate to choose such a dud? No idea. I haven't seen anyone approach Issei lately, but it's likely one of the few in Kuoh town, Rainere said. Her voice hinted at fear when mentioning Kuoh's devil's figures like Rias, too powerful for low-ranking fallen angels to cross. Maybe they saw that kid's lack of potential and ditched him, Middle speculated. Still, wasting an evil piece on a loser. I'd love to see that devil's face. Fallen angels relished devil misfortunes. Evil piece technology, well known among the 3 factions, granted high-class devils one set of pieces. Minus the king piece, used by the devil themselves, the rest reincarnated subordinates. Each piece was precious. Losing one weakened the peerage significantly. Go to Kuoh Academy if you're curious. They might welcome you, as long as you don't stir trouble, Rainere teased. No thanks, I'm not ready to die, Middle said, shuddering. Any progress on Asia? Rainere asked. Issei's reincarnation quashed Rainere's plans to kill him. She had no desire to clash with a high class. Her focus shifted to Asia. Same as before, Middle said. You know how stubborn those frail-looking types can be, Lady Rainere. We're taking it slow, but progress looks decent. I'll stick around the human world a bit longer, then, Rainere said, unfazed. Roy's expression grew complex. The evil piece he'd used to save Issei's life had sparked wild assumptions among the fallen angels, even dragging Rias into their gossip. Shaking his head, Roy fast-forwarded to the next recording. The fallen angels' tri-weekly meeting. Asia, excommunicated and struggling, was wavering under Fried Selzen's persuasion. The fallen angels predicted she'd soon be lured from Europe to Japan. No other notable intel surfaced. Roy set the phone down, relieved. Asia's path to Kuoh town, as in story, remained intact. He'd intercept her when the time came. Feels light, Roy said, picking up his kendo sword. Roy had trained relentlessly, using hellfire to hone his demonic power. His physique, he estimated, rivaled high class, perhaps touching ultimate class purely in raw strength. I'm getting a taste of such power, Roy said, twirling the sword in a flourish. Boosted gear could amplify his strength beyond his base, but training built permanent gains. Roy swung the sword, channeling some sword style from anime, partially replicated via Kiba's talent. His movements were initially clumsy. With adjustments, his swings grew fluid, though still rough around the edges. 31. I'm a transfer student. Chapter 31. I'm a transfer student. Host, Roy Flott. Race, human. Level, LVL 55. Replicated ability, Hellfire, C, Kendo talent. Replicated item, boosted gear, B+, original. Dimension points, 1,086,031. Mastering new skills bumped me up level. Roy mused. Unlike replicating Kiba's middle-class demonic power, the boost wasn't dramatic, but he felt sharper. Over the past 4 days, training alone, Roy noticed finer control over his body and growing strength. Today was the first day of school. Checking his phone, Roy slipped into Kuoh Academy's uniform and headed out. Unlike the quiet summer break, the campus buzzed with life. The gate swarmed with students, girls making up 70 to 80% of the crowd. Kuoh Academy, once a girls' school, had gone co-ed just over a year ago, skewing the gender ratio. Look, that guy's kinda hot. He's in a second-year uniform, but I've never seen him. Transfer student, maybe. Walking toward the gate, Roy felt eyes on him, a stark contrast to his summer visit. Girls cast curious glances, whispering about his identity. It wasn't surprising. Roy's looks were striking. His appearance drew attention. I swear I've seen him before. Spill. We can't let those other girls get ahead. During break, I saw him with Kiba-kun. Kiba-kun. Second year's winning. The girls were bold, pointing and chattering, some starry-eyed. A few even nudged friends, daring each other to approach Roy. The boys, far fewer, blended into the crowd, shooting envious glares. Roy ignored the attention and hurried to the teacher's office. His goal at Kuoh was clear: get dimension points from key characters. Passers-by weren't worth his time. Having toured the school with Kiba, Roy knew its layout well. At the academic affairs office, he reported in, took a quick academic test, and was led to his class. The classroom was lively, students buzzing about their summer. Quiet down, everyone. We have a new classmate today, the homeroom teacher said, clapping for attention. Transfer student, at the start of term. Bet it's a cute blonde girl. Nah, gotta be a hot guy. I heard a new second-year guy was at the gate. Maybe him. The announcement sparked chatter, with students guessing the newcomer's gender. Roy Flott, come in, the teacher called. Roy stepped onto the podium, scanning the room, and froze. Didn't expect to be in Issei's class. He'd investigated Issei's address but not his class at Kuoh. Even Issei's enrollment was a detail Roy had provided to his contacts, leading to the address. Some supporting characters are here too. Should yield some points. Roy refocused and launched into his introduction. Hey, everyone, I'm Roy Flott. After a brief spiel, he wrapped up, looking forward to getting along with you all. Yes, finally, a decent guy in our class. No more dealing with those losers. My friend's been bragging about Kiba-kun in her class. Now we've got our own heartthrob. No more eye torture from our boys. The girls erupted in cheers. Ugh, another pretty boy. Bet he's all looks, no substance. Girls are so shallow. A guy's gotta have depth. The boys, meanwhile, seethed with jealousy, none more than one glaring trio. Jealousy's practically oozing. Hayado, Matsuda, Motohama, a girl with pink-framed glasses and braided twin ponytails said, pushing up her glasses. She eyed Roy sharply, then declared, my analysis. He's top tier. Why? The trio wailed. Alright, Roy, pick a seat, the teacher said, smiling. Kuoh, originally an elite girls' school, had high admission standards, even after going co-ed. Despite Issei and his friends' antics, their grades were top-notch elsewhere. With a small class size, plenty of seats were open. Girls eagerly waved Roy over. Hey, Roy said, approaching the braided girl who'd roasted Issei's trio. Mind if I sit here? The class gasped at his choice. Why Kiryuo? Kiryuo's glasses and braids are such a trap. She's fooling him into thinking she's a good girl. Roy, Kiryuo's a total gremlin. Don't fall for it. Shut up. Aika, Kiryuo snapped. Stop slandering me. I'm a model student, not some schemer. She turned to Roy, flashing a shy smile. I'm Aika Kiryuo. Please, sit. Smoothing her skirt, she sat primly, the picture of a lady. Thanks, Roy said, taking the seat beside her. Ugh. The girls groaned, knowing Aika's true chaotic nature. 32. Joining a club. Chapter 32. Joining a club. Aika's quip about her sight and hearing being ruined by the class might have been an exaggeration, but the girls' enthusiasm for Roy was undeniable. Outside class hours, Roy's desk was swarmed with girls. They peppered him with questions, their eager gazes practically peeling back his layers. Aika, already chummy by mid-morning, poked Roy during the last class and whispered slyly. So, feel like you're picking a girlfriend. Congratulations, host. 24,000 dimension points absorbed. Roy's expression twitched. He hadn't expected to snag Aika's points like this. Her points were nearly same as Riser's, which made sense. In DxD, Aika's screen time as a cheeky side character far exceeded Riser's. It's fine, just a bit much, Roy said, shaking his head. You're awfully chill. Thought you'd be smug like some guys, Aika said, her eyes flicking to Issei, Matsuda, and Motohama, the perverted trio. Smug? Nah, they're just curious about the new guy. It'll die down, Roy replied. Oh, you think so? Aika grinned mysteriously, chuckling. Don't underestimate the thirst of Kuoh's girls. Even a big size like you'll get drained if you let your guard down. Old driver, huh? Roy teased, feigning shock. He knew Aika's bold persona from the anime, but her ladylike act earlier had almost fooled him. Less than a morning, and her true colors were out. Cough. Aika's face reddened. Caught up in the banter, she dropped her prim facade. Don't get me wrong, I'm just stating facts. Sure, Roy said, smirking. Facts girls don't like hearing, right? That's why your friends call you an old driver. Aika puffed up, mock serious. Exactly. I tell it like it is, and they slander me for it. What's big size mean, then? Roy asked, playing dumb. Aika nearly faltered but rallied. It's my boy ranking system. Size equals quality. Bigger's better. So, I'm rated pretty high. Roy said, rolling his eyes. If I didn't know the story, I might have bought that. You didn't hear the others, Aika started. Ow. She jolted upright, rubbing her back. Kiryuo, don't cause trouble. A girl behind them snapped, brandishing a triangular ruler. Catace, what the hell? Stop poking me. Aika hissed, glaring at the girl. You were going too far, Catace huffed, ruler poised for another jab. Yeah, don't corrupt Roy. Murayama, the other girl, chimed in. Corrupt? I'm helping you. Aika shot back. Helping, my ass, Kate scoffed, unconvinced. Answer me this, Aika said, undeterred. Is Roy a warm prince like Yueto, all smiles but zero interest in girls? Or is he a normal guy, curious about girls and open to dating? Kate and Murayama paused, pondering. Murayama, she's got a point, Kate said, eyeing Roy. Kiba's charm was legendary, but his lack of romantic rumors sparked whispers he might be gay. See, I'm right. Aika smirked, regaining her swagger. Roy rolled his eyes. They're not even trying to be subtle. Kiryu, Kate, Murayama, what's so fascinating? Care to share with the class? The female teacher called from the podium, her smile laced with danger. The trio shrank, grabbing their books and staring at the blackboard like model students. The bell rang, signaling lunch break. Roy, not one for bentos, headed for the cafeteria but was mobbed by girls. Roy, share my bento. Try mine. My mom's a certified chef. I made this myself. Give it a taste. The girls, learning he hadn't brought food, circled his desk, dissing the cafeteria while hyping their bentos. Sorry, I'm looking for Roy. Is he here? Kiba's voice cut through, his appearance at the door sparking another frenzy. Popularity like that was Kuoh's trademark. My friend's here. Gotta go. I'll try your bentos another time, Roy said, flashing an apologetic smile before bolting to Kiba. Ugh, if Kiba-kun's gay, I could live with it, a girl swooned. No way Roy is. He's our class's treasure. Another protested. They do look good together, though, a third giggled. The girls spiraled into a heated debate as Roy and Kiba left. Heard the girls buzzing about a hot transfer student this morning. Knew it was you, Kiba said, grinning. Shame we're not in the same class, Roy said, shrugging. Yeah, pity, Kiba nodded. He could ask Rias to pull strings, but it wasn't worth bothering her. You're already a hit, though. Adapted to Kuoh like that, Kiba teased, snapping his fingers. Thanks to you bailing me out back there, Roy said. The enthusiasm's a lot. Told you you'd be popular, Kiba chuckled. Nailed it. You're one to talk, Your Highness, Roy shot back, smirking. Quit it, Kiba said, wincing. Girls hounded him constantly too. They hit the cafeteria, neither packing a bento. Unlike UK canteens, Kuoh's was quieter. Ordering lunch, they chatted. By the way, Roy, thought about clubs? Kiba asked. No clear picks yet, Roy said. Didn't you mention introducing me to your club? Kiba's expression turned odd. You don't know who's in it, do you? Nope. Someone special. Roy asked, feigning ignorance. Didn't the girls in your class fill you in? Kiba said. The Occult Research Club's members were school idols. They were too busy grilling me, Roy said, shrugging. Why? Nothing, Kiba said, shaking his head. My club's not in the activity room at noon. I'll check with the president this afternoon. If she's cool with it, I'll bring you to meet her. Sounds good, Roy nodded. Your club's sounding more mysterious by the minute. It's mostly girls. They're cautious about outsiders. Sorry, Kiba said, chuckling apologetically. Doesn't sound like I've got a shot at joining. Seems strict for a new transfer, Roy said, faking a sigh. Yeah, the president's picky. Tons of students apply, but she turns them down, Kiba admitted. Might check out the student council, Roy said casually. High schools there, don't do clubs, but we had student reps. Feels familiar. Student council. Kiba's face twitched. Why's he picking devil hotspots? Can't he go for something normal? Roy, the student council's even stricter than my club, Kiba said, steering him. Maybe try other clubs first, get a feel for Kuoh, then think about the council. Other clubs? Roy mused. How's the Kendo Club? 33, Kendo Club. Chapter 33, Kendo Club. Kendo Club. Kiba stuttered. If he recalled correctly, the Kendo Club's captain, Meguri Tomo, was one of Student Council President Sona Satrai's peerage, a reincarnated devil. While Kuoh Academy had its share of devils, they were a small fraction of the student body. Roy's knack for zeroing in on devil-run clubs, first the Occult Research Club, now the Kendo Club, felt uncanny. Was it dumb luck or some fated tie to devils? How'd you pick the Kendo Club? Kiba asked. Some classmates in my class are members. They invited me, Roy explained. I've dabbled in Kendo before, so it'd be an easy fit. And, honestly, I figured I could slack off a bit, he added with a grin. Slack off. Kiba laughed, incredulous. You're dreaming if you think the Kendo Club's a place for that. The captain's a stickler. Training's intense, Kendo swings all day. You'll see members practicing even at lunch. If you want to coast, skip sports clubs. They're all about drills. Try a literature club for slacking, Kiba suggested. If my Kendo skills are good enough, even the captain might let me off, right? Roy said, smirking. Oh. Kiba raised an eyebrow, intrigued. That kind of confidence hinted at real skill. Didn't peg you for a pro, Roy, Kiba said. As a swordsman himself, Kiba saw no telltale signs of training in Roy's posture. Either Roy was a beginner, or his skill was so refined it left no trace. Just a bit of practice, Roy said modestly. We should spar sometime, Kiba said, smiling. I train with swords too, but my club keeps me out of the kendo club. I usually practice alone. As a friend, Kiba figured he could help Roy polish his skills, assuming he was a beginner. The odds of Roy being a master seemed slim. Sounds good, Roy nodded eagerly. But, Roy, fair warning, Kiba added. The kendo club's captain is tough. Thinking you'll slack under her watch. Good luck. That's strong, huh? Now I'm curious, Roy said, feigning anticipation. Is the kendo club active right now? He asked. It's a big club. Plenty of members, so someone's always there, even at lunch, Kiba said. Wanna check it out? I want to see this captain you're hyping up, Roy nodded. Kiba's gut twinged with doubt. Roy's calm confidence, unfazed by talk of a formidable opponent, was almost too bold. Was he bluffing, or was he the real deal? I'll come with. You probably don't know where their dojo is, Kiba said, curiosity piqued. Thanks, Roy said. After lunch, they left the cafeteria for the kendo club. Two handsome guys walking together drew inevitable attention. From the cafeteria to the dojo, they sparked whispers among passing girls. Then, a few figures caught Roy's eye. Leading was a girl with shoulder-length black hair and glasses, her sharp, intelligent face radiating authority. Her poised stride screamed discipline, like a strict scholar from an older era. Behind her trailed another girl, tall with long black hair reaching her knees, also wearing glasses. Her demeanor mirrored the leader's. Students bowed politely as they passed, a sign of respect. Kiba, this is, Roy stuttered. That's Sona Satrai and Shinret Sabeki, Kiba explained, then teased, isn't she? Kiba, Roy said, straight-faced. I'm pumped to join the student council. Remember why I came here? He added. Kiba's expression faltered. Perfect, Roy said, exhaling dramatically. You said the kendo club's captain is on the student council, right? Guess joining's a must, Roy said, dead serious. Kendo club. Even during lunch, the dojo hummed with activity. Most members were girls, dressed in white kendo uniforms, practicing with wooden swords. Some sat on the floor, chatting animatedly. A girl with reddish-brown hair moved among the trainees, correcting stances and offering tips. It's Kiba-kun. Is he joining the kendo club? Who's that with him? He's gorgeous. Roy and Kiba's arrival at the dojo's entrance sparked gasps and cheers. Practicing girls paused, and those lounging scrambled to fix their appearances. Kiba-san, what brings you to the kendo club? Meguri Tomo, the captain, asked, her eyes on Kiba. As a knight in Sonid peerage, she rarely interacted with Rias's peerage, like Kiba. Club visits were even rarer, making his presence a surprise. It's like this, Kiba said, glancing at Roy. This is Roy Flott, a transfer student. He's curious about the kendo club, so I tagged along. Hey, Captain Meguri. I'm Roy Flott, Roy said, smiling politely. Hi, I'm Meguri Tomo, kendo club captain, she replied, eyeing Roy curiously. Heard my class buzzing about a transfer student today, guessing which club you'd pick. Didn't expect you'd come here. I've got some kendo experience, so I thought I'd check it out, Roy said. You've some experience. Meguri studied him, then nodded. That'll make starting easier. Captain, no guys in the club. It's all girls, Roy noted. Meguri gave a wry smile. Last semester, a few boys applied, but they're still on probation. No official male members yet. Kuoh's history as a girls' school meant boys were new, and the kendo club's appeal often drew guys with less than pure motives. Meguri weeded those out, only keeping boys genuinely dedicated to kendo on a trial basis. 34, She's into Roy. Chapter 34, She's into Roy. It's mostly girls here, Meguri explained, a bit embarrassed. Some are wary of guys joining. Plus, there've been incidents boys pulling sketchy stunts, so we're extra thorough with male applicants, checking their character. Got it, Roy nodded. Those incidents probably mirrored the perverted trio's antics, like Issei Hayata's peeping escapades. But since Kiba-kun vouched for you, we can skip the long probation, Meguri said, glancing at Yuto Kiba. Kiba, your rep's golden around here, Roy teased. Guess I'll be name-dropping you everywhere. Kiba gave a wry smile. Kiba-san's definitely a star, Meguri said, nodding. Some call him a medieval knight. Kiba's chivalrous demeanor and impeccable character earned him that reputation. Not His Highness. Roy said, feigning surprise. His Highness gets more votes, but I see Kiba-san as a knight, Meguri said pointedly. Quit ganging up on me, Kiba said, exasperated. Aren't we here to talk about Roy joining the kendo club? Not much to explain, Meguri said, eyeing the starry-eyed club members. What you see is the kendo club in action. After school, everyone attends club activities. Need a day off? Clear it with me first. We also have mandatory special training sessions, non-negotiable unless you've got a real excuse. Sounds like a tight schedule, Roy said, nodding. I want a club that fits, but I don't want it eating all my time. We don't do ghost members, Meguri said bluntly. But there's a way to get some leeway. For most, she'd never bend. But Roy, with Kiba's backing and the club's clear interest, a little privilege wasn't out of the question. What's the way? Roy asked. Prove your kendo meets my standards, Meguri said, smiling. This is a kendo club strength rules. Show me you've got the skills, and you can have some slack. Didn't you say last time that to bend the rules, someone's gotta beat you? Murayama whispered nearby. What? You misheard, Katace shot back, smirking. Idiot, don't scare off the hot new guy. No problem, Roy said, nodding confidently. Oh. Meguri looked surprised. You sound sure of yourself. Just a tad, Roy said, grinning modestly. Alright, let's do this now, Meguri said, signaling a club member to hand Roy a shina. Need protective gear? Nah, it'll be quick. Gear's a hassle, Roy said, shaking his head. He took the shina, thanking the girl who passed it. She beamed, flashing a sneaky go for it gesture and mouthing encouragement. Quick, huh? Meguri's brow arched. That's my line, isn't it? She'd planned to go easy, but Roy's cockiness demanded a real test. Still, she'd decide if he couldn't let a good recruit slip away. Something like that, Roy said, testing the shina's balance. The girls cleared a space in the dojo center, buzzing with anticipation. I'm not pretending I didn't hear that, Meguri said, her smile turning sharp. She gripped her shina two-handed, settling into a disciplined stance. Roy, opposite her, held his shina one-handed, tip pointed down, stance loose. Meguri blinked. That's your form. His casual posture would have horrified a traditional kendo teacher. Relaxed works best. Get too hung up on rigid forms, and you're already half-beaten, Roy said, smiling. Lesson noted, Meguri said, her eyes narrowing. A girl called, begin. Meguri gave a sharp shout, lunging with a precise strike. Roy flicked his right hand up. Snap. One clash of shina, and it was over. Roy's weapon stopped at Meguri's throat. The kendo club froze, eyes wide, staring at the dojo center. No way. The captain got one shot. She let him win, right? Bet she's into Roy's looks. Captain's so strict, but she's playing favorites. The girls erupted, tossing out theories. Most leaned toward Meguri throwing the match, charmed by Roy. They knew her strength capable of flooring multiple grown men. Losing in seconds seemed impossible. Only Meguri and Kiba knew she hadn't held back. 35, strong. Chapter 35, strong. The spar's outcome left the kendo club stunned, jaws dropped. No one saw it coming. Even Meguri stood frozen, glancing at her shina, then at Roy. She couldn't fathom being one-shot in a single exchange. Outrageous. She hadn't tapped into her devil strength, sticking to human limits. Still, years of training let her overpower most men barehanded. Her kendo, honed over years, was near flawless. Her teacher had praised her perfect stance. With balanced strength and skill, kept at human levels, she should have held her own. Yet, in that clash, a moderate force nudged her shina off course. Before she could react, Roy's weapon was at her throat. Normally, her strength would have blocked or overpowered such a strike. But she'd been dispatched without a chance. I lost, Meguri admitted, lowering her shina, her mind swirling with questions. Kiba stared at Roy, shocked. As fellow devils at Kuoh, Kiba knew Meguri's skill. His own swordsmanship outclassed hers, but defeating her would take effort, not a casual one-move win like Roy's. Was Roy's skill the improbable truth Kiba had dismissed? A level so high even he couldn't gauge it. I'll take the win, Roy said, smiling, retracting his shina. What just happened? Meguri asked earnestly. I don't get why I lost. I should have blocked that, but my shina was not decide. Her question stirred the girls, who'd been giggling about her sneaky favoritism. Captain, what's that mean? No way she didn't throw it. This guy's that good, better than the captain. The club erupted in disbelief. I wasn't holding back, Meguri confirmed, nodding to her members' shock. Roy, can you explain? She asked, then added, if it's private, no pressure. If Roy used a secret technique, asking publicly might be rude. She'd respect his silence. Your swing was a centimeter too high, Roy said. A centimeter? Meguri frowned, puzzled. She raised her shina, mimicking her earlier stance. Try again, Roy said, gesturing for the same attack. Ha! Meguri adjusted her posture, lowered her swing by a centimeter, and struck. Roy met her shina head-on. Snap! The shina clashed, locking in midair. I blocked it. Meguri blinked, stunned. This time, her shina held firm, stopping Roy's strike. One tiny adjustment a centimeter flipped the outcome. Was that a flaw in my form? She asked. As a seasoned kendaka, she grasped the issue. That sliver of error had been her undoing. Exactly, Roy nodded. Was it that obvious? She'd been confident in her skills, peerless among her age group. Yet Roy had spotted her mistake instantly. Not really, Roy said, shaking his head. I'm just wired for kendo. I pick up on tiny flaws fast. Plus, you probably weren't going all out, using a basic strike, he added. I had the edge, knowing your move. If you'd known my skill level, you wouldn't have swung so simply. Meguri flushed. Roy's tactful words flattered her, but she knew better. Even with different tactics, at her human-level output, she'd likely still lose. Roy, you have to join the kendo club, Meguri urged. Letting talent like his slip away would haunt her. She'd initially wanted Roy for his looks and Kiba's vouching, assuming his kendo skill was secondary. But he'd proven a master, surpassing her. His presence would elevate the club both in skill and appeal. Hold on, Roy, Kiba interjected, sheepish. No need to rush into the kendo club. Huh. Roy said, feigning confusion. Kiba coughed, awkward. I could talk to my club's president. She'd likely want you. He'd thought Roy was a normal human, best kept from devil affairs. But this changed everything. Rias would see his value. Kiba-san, poaching's not very knightly, is it? Meguri teased, smirking. Roy picked the kendo club. Stealing him now, not your style. I'm just suggesting options, Kiba said, reddening. Roy's looking for a club to suit his hobbies. Unlike Roy's bold front, Kiba's thinner skin made pitching for Rias his limit. Kiba's got a point, Roy said, nodding. I'm also eyeing the student council. I might not stick with the kendo club long. Student council. Meguri's eyes lit up. Great choice. I'm in it too. Want in? I'll introduce you to the president. She'll snap you up. Like Kiba, Meguri saw a chance to pitch Roy to her master, Sona Satrai. His strength would impress Sona, possibly earning him her spare night evil piece. Training with Roy would boost her skills and be a treat for the eyes. 3 wins in 1. Kiba fidgeted, anxious, but held his tongue. It was Roy's call. I'll think it over, Roy said, smiling, handing the Sheena back to the girl beside him. Captain Meguri, I'm just scoping things out today. I haven't decided on the kendo club yet, he explained. I'm new to Kuoh Academy, still getting the lay of the land. I'll pick a club once I'm settled. Fair enough, Meguri nodded, not pushing. But if you join a club, keep the kendo club in mind. You'd get perks, she added. Skip training if you won't eat your time. Pop in to coach the girls when you feel like it. They'd love it. She shot a suggestive glance at the club members, who caught her cue and cooed invitingly at Roy. Any other guy would have caved instantly. Got it, Roy said. If I pick a club, kendo's top of the list. We'll head out now. Don't want to interrupt, he said, nodding to Kiba. Roy and Kiba left the dojo. Keep practicing, everyone. I'm off to the student council, Meguri called, heading to the locker room to change before darting to the council's office. Roy, this blew me away, Kiba said on the way back, half joking. Almost gave me a heart attack. It's decent, but I've got plenty to learn, Roy said, half truthful. Too humble, Kiba laughed. I'd last maybe 2 moves against you. Exaggerating, Roy grinned. I can sense your aura sharp and strong. But I can't pick up any technique on you, Kiba said, exasperated. It's like you're from another dimension. How? Lots of practice, Roy said vaguely. We should spar sometime. Kiba's eyes lit up. Deal. I'd love your pointers. Sparring with a master could skyrocket his growth. Without kendo peers, Kiba often trained with Konako, but her brawling style didn't match a swordsman's. Roy was a rare find. At the second-year building, they parted for their classrooms. Kiba soon dashed off again, heading for the third-year building, likely to report to Rias. 36. Rias enters. Chapter 36. Rias enters. Kiba-kun. What brings you to the third-year building? Something big. Kiba's fame at Kuoh Academy spanned all grades. Hardly anyone didn't know him. As he stepped into the third-year building, a gaggle of girls spotted him, swarming with eager questions about whether he needed help. It's club business, something urgent. I need to see Rias-senpai, Kiba explained, his warm smile masking a hint of exasperation. Is Rias-senpai in her classroom? He asked. Rias, a girl from Rias's class, piped up. She and Aeno are there. Want me to grab them? That'd be great, thanks, Kiba nodded. The girl darted back to the classroom, beaming. Moments later, Rias Gremory and Aeno Hinjima emerged. Yuato, what's with the third-year visit? Rias asked, surprised. Kiba rarely came to her like this. Kuoh's peaceful routine free of emergencies made it unusual. Something urgent. Better discussed in person, Kiba said, his wry smile glancing at the curious students around them, signaling the need for privacy. Follow me, Rias said, leading Kiba and Aeno to an empty office. So, what's this urgent matter that's got you racing here during lunch? Rias asked, settling onto a sofa with an elegant smile, more curious than anxious. Major incidents would have reached her already, and Kuoh was calm. This was no school crisis. Is it about that issue? Aeno asked, intrigued. A stray devil had recently appeared in Kuoh town, their intended target, but an unknown figure suspected to be a Fenex descendant had slain it first, right under their noses. Despite their efforts, the culprit remained a ghost, gnawing at Rias's peace of mind. A Fenex loose in her territory was no small worry. Not that, Kiba shook his head. It's about my friend, the transfer student from the UK. Him. Rias frowned, puzzled why Kiba brought up his friend. She saw it as Kiba's personal circle, unrelated to their devil affairs. I think he'd make an excellent knight for you, Kiba said, dead serious. Oh. Rias's expression sharpened. Tell me more. Aeno leaned in, her curiosity piqued, waiting for Kiba's explanation. Here's what happened, Kiba detailed the kendo club spar. You're saying this transfer student, Roy Flott, beat Captain Meguri Tomo in 1 move. Rias's eyes widened, stunned. I recall she's Sona's knight, right? She's no pushover. One move that's wild, Aeno said, nodding. I was floored too, Kiba admitted, chuckling bitterly. My jaw nearly hit the floor. He'd expected Meguri to school Roy, not the reverse. Meguri lost so easily, Kiba continued. She stayed within human limits, which curbed her, but Roy's kendo insight is unreal. Unless Roy specifically studied Meguri's moves to exploit her flaw, Rias mused. Then his talent is jaw-dropping, she concluded. Roy's ability to spot and correct Meguri's centimeter-off swing in one glance demanded respect. Such vision typically came with serious skill. That's unlikely, Kiba said, shaking his head. Roy's a transfer student. Why would he prep for a kendo club captain? Plus, Roy had claimed he transferred for Rias, a detail Kiba kept quiet. Even I couldn't last 10 moves against him without devil strength, Kiba said, not exaggerating. Yato-kun, that's high praise, Aeno said, surprised. They knew Kiba's skill, honed under Okita Tsuji, a legendary swordsman. His prowess was undeniable. Absolutely, Kiba nodded. I couldn't one-shot Meguri like that. Yato, you're making me curious, Rias said, smiling. After school, bring him to the occult research club. I want to meet this prodigy myself. Kiba hesitated. Problem? Rias asked, catching his pause. You forgot, President Sona-sama's also short a knight, Kiba said cautiously. Sona would dare poach from me. Rias blinked, indignant. With Sona's setup, she won't pass up a talent like Roy, Kiba guessed. You're right, Rias nodded. Roy's talent would tempt even her Sona, too. Meguri, Sona's knight, had felt Roy's skill firsthand, likely giving Sona a clearer picture than Kiba's report. Kuoh rarely produced talents worthy of becoming devils. A potential genius was too rare for Sona to ignore, especially with her knight evil piece. Yuato, tell Roy to meet me after school, Rias said, checking the time. Lunch was too short to judge Roy solely on Kiba's word. She needed to meet him, assess him, and observe him over time before offering her last knight evil piece. Honestly, President, you should go yourself, Kiba said, wry. The student council's probably already moving. Rias, don't let Sona beat you to him, Aeno teased, smiling. The most stunning beauty at Kuoh personally inviting him? No boy could say no. Exactly, Kiba nodded. Roy won't turn you down. He didn't mention Roy's supposed crush on Sona, the reason for his transfer. Fine, I'll go, Rias sighed, amused. Her visit to the second-year building would likely spark a frenzy. Student council office. President, T, Sabeki said, serving a fragrant cup to Sona. Thank you, Sabeki, Sona said, sipping gracefully. You seem cheerful, President. Thinking about that second year, Saji Genshiro? Sabeki asked, curious. On their recent campus walk, Sona's gaze had lingered on Saji. He's promising, Sona nodded. She'd sensed a faint sacred gear aura in Saji, though it could be a false read. She planned to observe him, potentially using one of her pawn evil pieces if confirmed. Bang! The office door flew open, more like it was kicked in. What's with the rush? Ever heard of knocking? Sabeki snapped. Cut me some slack, Vice President, Meguri grinned sheepishly. Got urgent news for the President. Urgent doesn't mean barging in like that, Sabeki huffed, stern. Sorry, but if I'm slow, Rias-sama might steal the prize, Meguri said, her words stunning Sabeki into silence. Sona raised a hand, calming Sabeki. What's this about Rias poaching? Here's the deal. Meguri recounted the kendo club spar with Roy. He beat you in one move. This Roy Flot sounds like a genius, Sona said, her interest piqued. Totally, President, Meguri nodded eagerly. If Kiba hadn't stepped in, Roy'd be in the kendo club already. Oh, and he said he wants to join the student council. Even Kiba-kun's playing dirty for Roy. Sona said, surprised. Kiba's gentlemanly image made his poaching attempt unexpected, showing how much he valued Roy. He's probably pushing Roy toward the occult research club, Meguri said. Bet he's already told Rias. I'm intrigued by someone Kiba would poach for, Sona said, smiling. Today was her lucky day. First Saji, now a person both Meguri and Kiba deemed exceptional. Sabeki, could you invite Roy to the student council? Sona asked, setting down her cup. No problem, President, Sabeki nodded, heading for the second-year building. Now, about your manners, Sona said, fixing Meguri with a stern look. I've told you to stay composed, always. President, have mercy for my big win today, Meguri pleaded, puppy-eyed, but Sona ignored her. Second-year classroom. You're back. The girls were freaking out, thinking Kiba-kun whisked you away, Aika Kiryu teased as Roy Flot returned to his seat. Was gone for one lunch break, and my rep's already taking a hit. Roy said, exasperated. What did you spread while I was out? No way. Aika's eyes darted away, dodging his gaze. You expect me to buy that, old driver? Roy said, flipping her the bird. With Aika's bold vibe, he didn't hold back, matching her energy. Katace, did Kiryu trash-talk me while I was gone? Roy asked, turning to the girls behind him. Katace blushed, catching Aika's frantic winks. We were just wondering where you and Kiba went at lunch. Roy shot Aika a look. I checked out the Kendo Club. Kendo Club? Katace and Murayama gasped, thrilled. Roy, you joining? As Kendo Club members, they'd love that. Kendo Club? You serious? Other girls chimed in, crowding around. Just scoped it out. Not decided, Roy said, smiling. You should think twice, one girl said. They train like crazy, all sweaty. I heard some collapse from exhaustion. Yeah, the captain's a drill sergeant. You'd lose all your free time, another added. The Kendo Club's an injury magnet. They're always in the infirmary, a third chimed. Katace and Murayama seethed. These girls were trashing the Kendo Club to steer Roy toward their own clubs. Suddenly, the classroom fell silent, as if time froze. All eyes locked on the door, drawn by an irresistible presence. Roy glanced over. There stood a figure with striking crimson hair. Rias Gremory. A/N, sorry, from now on it'll be for Rias. He came to this academy, in his fake story. 37, Student Council. Chapter 37, Student Council. The classroom fell silent, all eyes drawn to the crimson-haired figure at the door. She carried an air of nobility, like a high-born lady. Her face was breathtaking, almost dreamlike in its perfection. Her figure's slender yet curvaceous outshone many adults. But her waist-length crimson hair, vibrant and striking, stole the show. This radiant girl stood at the classroom's entrance, her presence commanding. Even without seeing her before, Roy knew instantly this was Rias Gremory. In person, Rias's impact dwarfed her anime depiction. No wonder she was Kuoh Academy's idol. Her beauty and poise alone could draw worshippers, never mind her stellar character and skills. Ah, it's Rias-sama. Why's Rias-senpai in our class? I can't believe I'm seeing her up close. After a stunned pause, the class erupted in squeals from girls and boys alike, faces alight with awe, all fixed on Rias. Rias gave a wry smile, used to her school-wide charm. She'd anticipated the stir her second-year visit would cause and took it in stride. I'm here for Roy Flott. Got a moment to chat? Rias asked, her elegant smile scanning the room. Roy glanced at the interface as she arrived. Rias Gremory. Full replication, 1,760,000 dimensional points. Bale Bloodline, 600,000 dimensional points. Gremory Bloodline, 300,000 dimensional points. Power of Destruction, 500,000 dimensional points. Gremory Charm Magic, 200,000 dimensional points. High-class Demonic Power, 110,000 dimensional points. Magic Conversation, 50,000 dimensional points. Roy's jaw nearly dropped. As expected of a main character, her options were a goldmine. Gremory Charm Magic. It tied to the Gremory's affectionate nature, enhancing their charisma, but wasn't combat-focused. He passed on it. That left Power of Destruction and high-class Demonic Power. The Power of Destruction, inherited from the Bale bloodline, was the signature of Great Devil King Bale, first among the 72 pillars. Biblical lore painted Bale as a titan who rivaled God, equal to the original 4 great Satans. His title, Great King, spoke volumes. In the anime, Rias's use of it was often underwhelming. But her brother, Surtsk's, showed its true might, erasing Aphiza's power with a thumb-sized magic bullet, proving its precision and terror. The Power of Destruction lived up to its name, annihilating all it touched. In raw lethality, it ranked among DxD's elite powers, perfect for Roy's need for a decisive edge. System, replicate Power of Destruction and high-class Demonic Power. At LVL 50, reaching LVL 80 to 90 via training could take months. Consumed 500,000 dimension points. Power of Destruction replicated. Use now. Consumed 110,000 dimension points. High-class Demonic Power replicated. Use now. In a flash, 610,000 points vanished from Roy's balance. Not yet, Roy thought, declining immediate use. The system exchange took a split second, unnoticed amid the class's chaos over Rias's arrival. Roy, Rias-senpai's calling you. Aika prodded, her excitement barely contained. Yeah, got it, Roy said, shooting her an exasperated glance. He stood, mulling how to play this. Had Kiba spilled about his crush on Sona? Hi, Rias-senpai. I'm Roy Flott. What's up? Roy said, extending a firm hand. Rias smiled warmly, shaking his hand. Congratulations, host. 450,000 dimension points gained. The system chimed, netting Roy 450,000 points from the contact, offsetting most of his 610,000 point spend. Another touch or two could erase the deficit. Roy's flicker of glee, in Rias's eyes, read as boyish excitement, easing her faint wariness. A prodigy appearing out of nowhere warranted caution, but his reaction felt genuine. No need to be nervous. Just relax, Rias said gently. Roy nodded, dropping the jittery act. He'd secured the points time to play it cool. What's this about, Rias-senpai? He asked. There's something I'd like to discuss, Rias said, nodding. Did Yuato mention me? Kiba. Roy said, faking confusion. He name-dropped you, but what's your connection? He didn't give a proper intro, huh? Rias said, catching that Kiba's mention was likely casual. I'm the president of the Occult Research Club. Yuato's a member. Occult Research Club? That mysterious group Kiba hinted at. Roy said, acting surprised. You're in the same club? Wait, when Kiba said he'd introduce me to his president, that's you. Exactly, Rias said, smiling. Yuto told me you're interested in our club and sang your praises. I had to see what kind of guy impresses even him. Kiba's overselling me, Roy said, shaking his head. If you're free after school, swing by our club with Yuto, Rias invited. Get a feel for it. Sounds good, Roy nodded. Perfect. It's a date, Rias said, pleased. Just then, a tall, bespectacled beauty with long black hair approached Shinra Tsubeki, student council vice president. Tsubeki, did Sona send you? Rias asked, her eyes narrowing. Yes, Rias-sama, Tsubeki said, respectful but firm. Tell Sona no need. Roy's already got his sights on our occult research club, Rias declared, staking her claim. Tsubeki's gaze flicked between Rias and Roy, a wry smile forming. She was a step late and Rias, a high-class devil, coming in person was a surprise. I'm just relaying the president's message. The choice is Roy's, Tsubeki said, holding her ground. You're Roy Flott, right? She asked, her face serious. And you are? Roy said, keeping up his clueless act. Shinra Tsubeki, student council vice president. The president invites you to join the council. Thoughts? Tsubeki said. Student council, huh? Roy nodded. I'll consider it. Good. I'll inform the president, Tsubeki said, bowing slightly. I'll take my leave, Rias-sama. She departed, leaving Rias unfazed. Don't forget our deal, Roy. Sona herself might have been a threat, but Tsubeki, a vice president, lacked the same pull as her. 38. Invitation. Chapter 38, Invitation. Roy, class is starting, so I'll head out, Rias said, pausing at the classroom door. Her gaze lingered briefly, landing on Issei Hayato with a flicker of curiosity. A reincarnated devil? Sona's. Rias wondered, puzzled. Kuoh Academy was her territory. She tracked every devil in its halls, as protocol demanded they report to her. Yet Issei's aura, faint but undeniable, had slipped under her radar until now. Didn't Sona mention scouting lower-grade students for her peerage over summer break? Rias recalled. As they neared adulthood, both she and Sona Satrai were eager to fill their peerages. Kuoh's students were prime candidates, but Rias was pickier, aiming for an elite roster. Most students were too ordinary for her standards. If Sona's already claimed him, I can't let her snag Roy too, Rias thought, her confident smile returning. Roy was a must-have for her night evil piece. With elegant steps, Rias left the second-year building, basking in the students' adoring stares. Back in the classroom, Roy became the center of attention again. Once just the girls' focus, now boys cast envious and curious glances, sparked by Rias's visit. Roy, what's the deal? Rias-senpai came for you. Aika Kiryua demanded, blunt as ever. Yeah, what did she want? Katase and Murayama chimed in from behind, equally curious. Nearby students leaned in, ears perked for gossip. She invited me to check out the Occult Research Club, Roy said, grinning truthfully. What? Occult Research Club? That tiny club with, like, 3 people. 4, actually. I heard Tujao Konako, the first year, was scouted back in junior high. The classroom buzzed anew. Why the huge reaction? Roy asked, shrugging. You don't get it, Aika said, pushing up her glasses. The Occult Research Club is Kuoh's toughest club to join bar none. But it's also the one everyone, especially guys, dreams of getting into. She nodded toward the fuming boys nearby. It's got Kuoh's biggest idols, Aika continued. Rias-senpai, with her crimson hair and killer figure, tops the popularity charts. Rumors say she's tied to European nobility. Then there's Akeno Himejima, second-ranked, a perfect Yamato Nachiko. Tujao Konako's the adorable mascot already a legend since junior high. And, well, you know Yuto Kiba. Sounds like a stacked lineup, Roy said, nodding with a smile. Joining means rubbing elbows with those stars, Aika sighed. But the club's super secretive. No one knows what they do or how to get in. Maybe I'm just that good looking. Roy teased, scratching his cheek. Ugh, this guy's milking it. A boy groaned. Visiting doesn't mean he's in. No way Rias-senpai's that shallow. The boy's complaints echoed through the room. You're basically the boy's public enemy now, Aika said, smirking gleefully. Roy's got a point, though, a girl countered. The Occult Research Club's full of gorgeous people, right? Quit whining, guys. You're just jealous. Roy's new and already got Rias-senpai's invite. Shows she's got taste. If you were half as hot as Roy, you'd have girlfriends by now. The girl's sharp retorts shut the boys down, leaving them grumbling. Roy chuckled. The classroom's lively vibe was anything but dull. Student council office. Shinra Tsubeki returned and briefed Sona. I was too late. Rias-sama already spoke to Roy and invited him to the Occult Research Club, Tsubeki reported. Rias went to the second-year building herself. Sona said, mildly surprised. She's dead set on Roy, Tsubeki confirmed. She said he's already their club's pick. And Roy, what's his stance? Sona asked. I passed on your invitation. He said he'd think it over, Tsubeki replied. Interesting, Sona said, a faint smile forming. She hadn't expected to vie with her best friend over the same night candidate. Since Roy hasn't committed to Rias, we've still got a shot, Sona said, musing. President, but Rias-sama, Sabeki hesitated. No worries, Sona said, smiling. If Roy's undecided, it's a fair game of who can win him over. She and Rias, childhood friends and rivals, thrived on competition. If Roy had picked Rias outright, Sona would have stepped back. But with the door still open, she wouldn't let such talent slip away. After school, the bell rang, and the teacher dismissed the class. Kiba promptly arrived at Roy's classroom, ready to escort him to the Occult Research Club. Behind Kuoh Academy's main building lay a dense woodland, hiding the old schoolhouse, a wooden, aged structure now used solely by the Occult Research Club. Kiba, you never mentioned your president was Rias Gremory, Roy said, feigning a grumble as they walked. Haha, wanted to surprise you, Kiba said, chuckling awkwardly. Surprise? Sure. Now I'm torn between clubs, Roy said, faking distress. The student council's after me too. Rias or Sona Satrai, how do I pick? Kiba froze. This guy. If Rias or Sona heard that, they'd be floored. Sure, every guy at Kuoh fantasized about them, but Roy's brazenness was next level. Maybe focus on one. Kiba suggested, sighing. Good call. I'll stick to crushing on just those two, no one else, Roy said, barely hiding a grin. Kiba's face twisted in a mix of awe and exasperation. He pivoted. Anyway, that's the Occult Research Club up ahead. Talk about a creepy spot, Roy said, eyeing the old schoolhouse. Spooky, right? Kiba grinned. Fits the supernatural vibe. Though the new school building had replaced it, the old schoolhouse wasn't abandoned. Its wooden exterior, weathered but intact, radiated mystery. Without its pristine upkeep, it might have fueled ghost stories. The corridors gleamed, spotless, with no cobwebs or dust despite its age. Someone clearly maintained it. Pretty clean for an old building. Anyone else use it? Roy asked casually. Just us, Kiba said, smiling cryptically. Why it's so tidy? You'll see when you meet the president. Magic, obviously, Roy thought, rolling his eyes inwardly. Keeping me in suspense, huh? He said aloud, playing along. President, Roy and I are here, Kiba said, knocking on the clubroom door. Come in, Rias's voice called. They entered a dim room, its corners scrawled with arcane symbols. Sparse furniture, a few sofas and a plush desk completed the setup. Besides Rias, two others were present. Aeno Himejima stood gracefully beside Rias, her smile curious as she eyed Roy. Tujao Konako sat on a sofa, nibbling snacks, her expression blank. Welcome to the Occult Research Club, Roy, Rias said, rising from her chair with a warm smile. Have a seat. Thanks, Roy said, settling opposite Konako. These are our other members, Rias said, sitting beside Konako. Tujao Konako and Aeno Himejima. Hi, Roy, Aeno said, her smile radiant, exuding Yamato Nachiko charm. Hey, Konako said, pausing her snacking, her emotionless demeanor almost daring Roy to tease her. Hey, good to meet you both, Roy said, nodding. Let's cut to the chase, Rias said. What do you think about my noon invite? Joining the Occult Research Club. Roy clarified. Exactly, Rias said, smiling. Any special perks? Roy asked, playing dumb. Perks. Rias blinked, caught off guard, half amused, half bewildered. The kendo clubs got sweet deals, and the student council's waiting on my answer, Roy said. He didn't care about joining any club. His earlier talk was just a front to string along Rias and Sona for points. Rias stared, baffled. This isn't how it's supposed to go. Shouldn't he jump at her offer? Was her charm slipping? Outdone by kendo perks? Rias, looks like Roy's quite the catch, Aeno teased, giggling. What perks should we offer? Perks depend on your skills, Rias said, recovering. Skills. Roy echoed, suppressing a smirk. Was she serious? Take Ueto, Rias said. His strength earns him top treatment. I'm strong, Konako said, flexing a tiny fist. I handle odd jobs, Aeno said, feigning distress. Tea, cooking, cleaning. If Roy's tired, I could offer a massage. Massage? For real? Roy nearly blurted. What kind of perks are we talking? Roy pressed, leaning in like he was dead set on details. Rias faltered, at a loss. She hadn't prepped for this. Revealing her identity could solve it, but she hesitated. Roy's stance on devils was unknown. Hostility would complicate making him her knight. Plus, she wanted to save the reveal for a dramatic moment, hoping to awe him into joining her peerage. We'll keep perks under wraps for now, Aeno said, bailing Rias out. You're not a member yet, Roy, so it's hush-hush. But trust me, they're good. The president treats us well, Kiba added. Really well, Konako mumbled, resuming her snacking. If Kiba says so, I'll drop it, Roy said, nodding. You want me for my kendo, right? Exactly, Rias confirmed. 39, isn't that unfair? 39, isn't that unfair? Chapter 39, isn't that unfair? I'd love for Ueto to spar with you, Rias said with a standard elegant smile. He raved about your kendo club feat, and I'm dying to see the swordsmanship he can't stop praising. Roy smirked inwardly but played clueless. Your occult research club feels less like a research group and more like a fight club. Rias chuckled. It's the occult research club. Occult is the key research just complements it. Exactly, Aeno added, her smile teasing as she covered her face, half joking, half serious. If a real supernatural event pops up, we'll be counting on your strength. Aeno's gentle aura and soft eyes painted her as a delicate girl spooked by the paranormal pure theater from the Thunder Priestess, whose power could fry most threats with a lightning snap. Roy fought an eye roll. Nice act. Her electrotherapy would probably leave foes screaming in thrilled agony. I'm curious too, Kiba said, eyes gleaming with anticipation. How wide's the gap between us? Since you're asking, Kiba, Roy shrugged, feigning nonchalance. Sure, let's do it. If you beat Senpai, this is yours. Konako pulled a small, ornate snack pack from a drawer under the coffee table. Its fancy packaging screamed expensive. Era, isn't that chocolate bar? Aeno teased, giggling. Konako queued forever for those and never shares. We didn't get a taste, Rias added, amused. Senpai doesn't like snacks, so I didn't offer, Konako said, deadpan. Since when? Aeno said, mock-shocked. I love snacks. Third year's just been hectic, so I cut back. Konako frowned, distressed. But I promised Roy the prize if he wins. I don't have more. Aeno's eyes twinkled, landing on Roy with a playful pout. Roy-kun. Don't worry, Himejima-senpai, Roy said, puffing his chest. If I win, I'll describe the snack's taste in vivid detail. What? Aeno blinked, thrown off, wondering if she'd misheard. I'll even write a report, Roy said, dead serious. You'll feel the flavor through my words. Aeno stared, then sighed, her gaze half resentful, half amused. Roy, has anyone told you you're hopeless with charm? Switch your answer, and you might win a senpai's favor. Nope, Roy said, shaking his head. Aeno raised an eyebrow. Oh, if I played the flirty TV idol, would you change your tune? Roy grinned. Maybe. Era, Chiki-kun, Aeno laughed. But perks come after you join the club. Can't wait. You'll fit right in, Rias chimed in. Rias-senpai, should we move? This room's too cramped for a spar, Roy said. There's an empty classroom next door. The group relocated to a spacious classroom, twice the size of a standard one, its clean floors and walls pristine. Aeno, somehow, produced 2 Shina, handing one each to Roy and Kiba. Roy, don't hold back, Kiba said, standing opposite, his eyes blazing with a hint of thrill on his face. I want to know my flaws and how far I am from you. Even if you didn't ask, I wouldn't, Roy said, smiling. Looks like Yuato's the most excited for Roy to join, Aeno said, chuckling. Senpai's always wanted a rival, Konako said, glancing at Roy. He spars with me, but our styles don't mesh. We're too familiar now, so it's just routine, not growth. Pure sparring, not life or death, offered little for either to learn, especially after countless repetitive bouts. You two, begin, Rias announced, smiling. Show me what you've got, Roy, Kiba said, saluting with his Shina. Likewise, Roy replied, returning the gesture. Kiba straightened, adjusted his stance, and lunged forward, Shina slicing through the air with a sharp whoosh, aimed at Roy. Roy, unfazed, sidestepped lightly, staying rooted, dodging Kiba's strike with ease. Sparring Kiba was simpler than Meguri Tomo. Without demonic powers, Kiba stood no chance, even without Roy tapping his replicated power of destruction or boosted gear. Kiba, expecting the dodge, swung again, but Roy anticipated it. Raising his Shina, Roy struck backhand, angling for Kiba's sword hand with surgical precision. It looked like Kiba had fed his hand into the strike. Kiba's eyes shrank, trying to retract and counter, but Roy advanced, spinning his Shina along Kiba's blade, landing the tip at Kiba's chest. Feeling the Shina's pressure, Kiba gave a wry smile. Thought I'd last longer. Senpai, you went down that fast. Konako said, her emotionless demeanor cracking with surprise. She'd sparred Kiba often and knew his skill. Even without demonic power, his technique and experience were top tier. Yet he fell in seconds. As Yuato predicted, not even 10 moves, Aeno said, her eyes glinting with fascination. I didn't expect Yuato to lose so quickly, Rias said, shocked but thrilled. Roy's skill was beyond human norms, a perfect candidate. It's like I learned something, but nothing at all, Kiba said, chuckling bitterly. Their speed and strength were close, yet Roy's pinpoint strike left no counterplay. Experience? Unreachable. You said no mercy, Roy said, lowering his Shina with a grin. Another round. Yuato, use your full strength, Rias interjected. I want to see Roy's limits. Full strength. Kiba hesitated, catching her meaning. President, isn't that unfair? Using demonic power against a human felt like bullying. 40 Rias's plan. Chapter 40 Rias's plan. Seeing Kiba's hesitation, Rias chuckled, turning to Roy. Roy, you said you wouldn't hold back, but you barely showed your real strength, did you? 80%, 50, or just 1 or 2? Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, probing for his limits. Not that dramatic, Roy said, nodding. But yeah, I didn't go all out. With his current strength and Kiba's kendo talent fully absorbed, few could push him to peak. He outclassed Yuato in pure skill without breaking a sweat, Aeno said, awestruck. That's great swordsman caliber. Really strong, Konako said, her concise words and serious expression underscoring her respect for Roy. I'd wager Roy's overall strength is nearing, maybe even hitting, low class, Rias mused. Such kendo mastery demanded exceptional reflexes and speed, even if human physique limited raw power. History had seen humans reach such heights, so Rias pegged Roy as comparable to a low-class potentially deadly with the right weapon. Low class. Aeno's gaze shifted, swapping playful teasing for scrutiny, assessing Roy with new weight. Low class? What's that? Just our way of ranking strength, Rias said, smiling. Like karate belts. Low class doesn't sound too impressive, Roy said, playing along. What about Kiba? Rias considered. Yuato's at middle class. As a middle class and sacred gear wielder, Yuato's strength was formidable, even without his sacred gear. With it, he'd be stronger. Middle class, huh? A step above me, Roy said, faking astonishment as he glanced at Kiba. Couldn't tell at all. Exactly, Rias chuckled. Strength isn't just skill. Yuato held back his full speed and power earlier. If he goes all out and you don't, you'll get crushed. Looking forward to it, Roy said, adjusting his stance. Rias thought him low class, so he'd matched that LVL 30 in systems terms. Having lingered at that level before, Roy knew exactly how much force to dial in. Yuato, no holding back. Show your real strength, Rias ordered, using communication magic to keep the spar's nature intact. Roy, heads up, Kiba said, nodding. My speed and strength will spike. Be ready. Kiba gripped his Shina, his aura sharpening like an unsheathed blade, radiating intensity. Got it, Roy said, feeling the pressure but nodding. Whoosh. Kiba widened the gap, then charged like a beast, his speed a blur that dazzled the eye. He reused his opening move, unchanged. Easing me in. Roy thought. Kiba was too honorable for his own good. Roy countered with the same parry, but at the critical moment, as his Shina neared Kiba's chest, Kiba pivoted. Retracting his strike, he slashed diagonally, deflecting Roy's blade. This time, Kiba evaded, avoiding the chest hit. Feel that, Roy? I'm getting serious now, Kiba said, eyes razor sharp. He trusted Roy's skill to catch the shift from that single exchange. Tougher, yeah, Roy said, rubbing his wrist. Kiba's parry nearly knocked the Shina loose. If Roy wasn't careful, he could actually lose. But it's manageable, Roy said, his gaze sharpening as he tightened his grip. His auras shifted, Konako said, her Nekomata senses picking up Roy's intensity. Roy's ceiling is high, Rias said, eyes gleaming. Even facing Yuato's strength, he's this confident. She didn't expect Roy to win. The gap was too wide, but his potential thrilled her. Kiba attacked again, his Shina a whirlwind crashing toward Roy. Against such speed, Roy didn't counterattack, opting for passive defense. Chasing a middle class's speed with low class strength was a losing game. Steady defense, waiting for an opening, was smarter. Bang bang bang. Shina after images danced in the air as Kiba unleashed a relentless barrage. Yet Roy's defense was ironclad, parrying every strike with precision, neutralizing Kiba's onslaught. He's sapping my strength with every hit, Kiba thought, frustrated. Each swing met not brute resistance but a soft deflection, like striking cotton, draining his momentum. Roy's steps and swings seemed calculated to the millimeter, as if Kiba's attacks were pre-read, leaving no cracks to exploit. No choice, your strength's too much, Roy said, grinning. Head on, I'd collapse. Smart move. He's negating Senpai's strength with every block, Konako looked stunned. That skill's unreal. Occasional deflections were normal, but countering every varied strike different angles, shifting force was unprecedented for her. Any idea what style Roy's using, Aeno? Is there a school for this kind of deflection? Rias asked. No clue, Aeno said, shaking her head. His moves are eclectic, like he never studied formally. None of the styles I know match. Maybe he trained under some hidden UK master. Aeno ventured. Roy's lack of ties to the church or Japanese exorcists narrowed the possibilities. Could be, Rias said, uncertain. His student database file is clean but bar no hint of when or how he honed this skill. That afternoon, Rias had checked Roy's records. His background was spotless but lacked depth, silent on his kendo origins. For a human to reach this level without extraordinary means defied normalcy. Still, it's thrilling, Rias said, brushing off identity concerns. Whatever Roy's past, she, Rias Gremory, could handle it. Despite lagging in speed and strength, he's holding Yuato off, Aeno said, smiling as Kiba was repelled again. You're struggling, Yuato-kun. It's tough, Rias said, chuckling, but Roy's losing ground. As the spar dragged on, Kiba's assault began to pierce Roy's defenses. Roy's blocks grew less fluid, some barely in time, teetering on defeat. It's over. Konako said, eyes narrowing as the clash peaked. Aeno stared, speechless. Roy's Shina rested on Kiba's neck. Kiba's hovered at Roy's abdomen. Both froze, halting the mutual strike. Roy grinned, retracting his Shina. Keep going, you're dead, I'm just hurt. Lost again, Kiba said, lowering his Shina with a wry smile, conceding the outcome. Even with middle-class strength, he fell to Roy's trap. That last move was it bait? Kiba asked, replaying the spar. He'd thought he'd found a winning opening, only to be ensnared. From the moment you broke my rhythm, it was a trap, Roy said, smiling. So I was played from then on. Kiba's bitterness deepened. He'd believed he'd gained the upper hand, only to chase a deliberate flaw Roy dangled, falling into a fatal setup. Too reckless, ending it like that, Aeno said, chiding. No choice, Roy said, panting for effect. Kiba's speed and strength outclassed me. Skill held me early, but stamina would have failed me. Had to end it quick. Surprise was the only way to topple a stronger foe. Prolonged fights favored the superior. But risking injury? Too dangerous, Aeno said, shaking her head. Rias, say something. Rias stammered, flustered. She'd just predicted Roy's defeat with smug analysis, only for him to flip the script, luring Kiba into a trap for a stunning victory. Her face burned. Her commentary was a public faceplant. Rias-senpai, I passed your test, right? Roy asked, grinning. Beyond expectations, Rias said, her cheeks warm, hoping he hadn't caught her overconfident spiel. She'd planned for Kiba to dominate, humbling Roy to set up her devil reveal. Instead, Roy's triumph derailed her script entirely. 41, here she goes. Chapter 41, here she goes. I didn't expect you to beat Uedo like that. Rias looked up, a trace of disbelief lingering in her voice. When you're outmatched in strength and speed, you find another way, Roy smiled. To devise that strategy under pressure, luring Uedo step by step with such sharp judgment, Rias marveled. Before Roy's spar with Kiba, Rias was impressed. After seeing Roy outmaneuver Kiba's strength, her satisfaction skyrocketed. His battle control were each enough to demand her attention. Combined in one person, his potential was staggering. If Roy successfully bonded with her night piece as a reincarnated devil, Rias estimated he'd reach at least high-class status. With the right opportunities, his ceiling could be limitless. Her only hurdle, convincing Roy to join her peerage. Roy shrugged inwardly. All right, Rias, Aeno said, exasperated. Save the talk for the clubroom. Can't you see Roy Kuoh's wiped out? That spar with Uedo drained him. Let him rest. My bad, Rias said, apologetic. Back to the clubroom. The group returned to the Occult Research Club's room. Roy slumped onto the sofa, feigning exhaustion. You okay, Roy? Kiba asked, looking quite concerned. Just out of practice with intense spars, Roy said, waving it off. A quick rest, and I'm good. He eyed Kiba, faking confusion. But yo, where's that strength come from? No offense, but you're not exactly buff. Without my deflections, my hands would have been wrecked. Just, lots of training, Kiba chuckled awkwardly. With Rias withholding the devil reveal, he couldn't spill the truth. Here, Roy. Konako slid the ornate snack pack toward him, her eyes flickering with reluctance. Thanks, Konako, Roy said, smiling. Aeno emerged from a side room with a tray. Short on time, so I brewed some quick tea. Hope it's fine. She set cups before everyone, pouring steaming tea. Tea, please, she said, her gaze landing on Roy's hand. A playful smile curved her lips. Roy Kuoh, your hand looks stiff. Need your senpai's help. I've got my left, Roy said, declining. So cold, Aeno teased, undeterred. She plopped beside him, grabbed his teacup, blew gently on the steam, and held it to his lips. Take a sip, Roy Kuoh. Senpai's special treatment. Roy sighed, leaning in for a sip. Temperature okay? Need another blow? Aeno asked, grinning. It's fine. Perfect. Aeno set the cup down, eyeing Konako's snacks with intent to keep feeding him. Roy, where'd you learn that style? Rias asked, settling on the opposite sofa. It's rare at your age. No pressure if it's private. No big secret, Roy said, shaking his head. Part from games, part self-taught. Rias, Yato, and Konako froze. Aeno, mid-unwrapping Konako's snacks, paused, a soft pastry hovering in her hand. Games. Rias said, her mouth twitching, struggling to process. Not those computer games boys obsess over, right? She asked, skeptical. Though not a gamer, Rias knew Konako's hobby gave her some context. But style of combat that humbled a middle-class devil, learned from games. Absurd. Roy Kuoh, you pulling our leg. Aeno said, recovering, feeding him the pastry. Roy bit down, and whoops, Aeno's finger brushed his lips, soft and cool. Congratulations, host. 350,000 dimension points absorbed. Roy's expression flickered. He'd planned subtle contact with Aeno to get the points without suspicion, but this was a lucky break. Roy Kuoh, why the look? Aeno asked, her sweet smile innocent, though she deliberately flexed the finger that grazed him. Ignoring her tease, Roy said, back in the UK, I was obsessed with fighting since I was a kid. Shame there's no real mana or legendary swordplay like in stories. Rias stayed quiet, but a spark of glee lit her mind. Roy's interest in fighting could extend to the supernatural. So I dug online for fighting stuff, Roy continued, smiling. Then I found something cool in games. A lot of character moves are grounded in real human anatomy. They look flashy, but many can be recreated IRL. I practiced with a sword, mimicking game moves, Roy said, shrugging. Over time, it built to this. That's wild, Rias said, chuckling wryly. Some action game moves can be replicated, Konako's gaming expertise lending Roy's claim weight. You reached this level, self-taught from online scraps. Aeno asked. Well, I did consult gym coaches for force mechanics, Roy said. That's it. Aeno said, stunned. No professional kendo master. In the end, a weapon's just an arm extension, Roy said, grinning. Grasp human anatomy, muscles, and force, and swinging gets easier. My brain's decent, so biomechanics and physics clicked fast. Pure skill could indeed lean on science. Decent doesn't cut it, Rias shook her head with a wry smile. You're a genius. Analyzing swordsmanship with modern science and mastering it was near impossible. Few worldwide could pull it off. Roy, you're killing me here, Kiba said, half laughing, half doubting life. My life feels like a waste. Guided by mentors, blessed with talent, and grinding daily, Kiba still fell short. Fine, I'll confess, Roy said, shrugging. I'm a reincarnated swordmaster. More excuses. Rias rolled her eyes again, before flashing a bright smile. Roy, since you're into this, what about mythology? Mythology. Roy paused, then said, mildly curious, but it's pure fantasy compared to what I like. Does the Occult Research Club dive into that? Yep. Devils were straight out of myth. What if mythology isn't fantasy? Rias probed. Oh, Roy gave a flat answer. Rias's smile stiffened. What so mean? Was his skepticism that deep? If mythical figures appeared before you, Roy-kun, what did you do? Aeno asked, picking up Rias's thread. Run far and fast, Roy said. Ordinary guys like me don't mess with that. Roy-kun, you're too straight-laced, Aeno said, exasperated. Think about it, Roy said, shaking his head. Beings who move mountains with a flick? Sure, there might be perks, but the danger's bigger. At least to me. Cautious, Rias said, unfazed by his answer. What if you could become one mountain-moving power, no risks? Would you say yes or no? Roy suppressed an eye roll. Here she goes. Sign me up, he said, blunt. Rias's smile widened. And devils? Thoughts? Devils. All these mythology questions an interview for the club. Exactly, Rias said. It's the Occult Research Club. Mythology's our thing. Devils as in biblical ones. Roy asked. Yep, Rias said. No clue, Roy said. But devils get a bad rap worldwide. Probably not friendly types. Rias's smile held steady. To mortals, devils weren't exactly cuddly. Fair, she said. What about us, then? What do you think of our club? 42 My Decision. Chapter 42 My Decision. You all, including Kiba. Yep, Rias glanced at Roy with a slight smile. What's your take on our Occult Research Club? Yuto included. Be honest. Seeing Roy hesitate, she added, no need to hold back. I'm curious too, Roy, Kiba said, smiling. Roy-kun, don't be shy, Aeno teased. We're dying to know. I want to hear, Konako fixed on Roy. Roy sighed inwardly. Everyone's piling on, He glanced at Aeno. She says, don't be shy, but if I roast them, I'm betting on revenge. Kiba and I haven't known each other long, but we've hit it off, Roy said, keeping it vague. Feels like we could be good friends. Simple, but it made Kiba beam. Sounds like Kiba's got your approval, Rias looked pleased. Her peerage member's good impression reflected well on her. As for you three, Roy paused. We've barely hung out, so it's tough to judge. But everyone's been welcoming since I got here. Seems like you're good people. Good people, from Roy-kun feels a bit safe, Aeno propped her cheek with a smirk. But at least it's not a failing grade. Good people. Rias echoed, chuckling wryly. Perfunctory, but positive. Konako glanced away, losing interest. You asked for honesty, Roy said, shrugging. You've got solid reps at Kuoh Academy, and Kiba vouches for you. That's a good sign. Anything deeper needs more time. Fair enough. Still, it stings that part of Roy-kun's approval rides on Yuto. Aeno gave Kiba a look before smirking at Roy. Hanjima-senpai, maybe stick to the dignified senpai vibe, Roy quipped. Oh, so that's your type, Roy-kun. Aeno said, eyes gleaming. I can do the cool, majestic beauty senpai if you want. Ready to try it. She's relentless, Roy laughed a little. Wrong place, wrong time, or I might have played along. No thanks, he said, deadpan. Such a buzzkill, Aeno said, pouting dramatically. You already called me out for that, Roy shot back. Rias, thoughtfully, shifted gears. Yuto's speed and strength are superhuman. You noticed, right? Insane, Roy said, shaking his head. Never seen anyone move like that. How's he training? He could snatch Olympic gold. Yuto gave an embarrassed chuckle. You could have that power too, if you wanted, Rias's voice laced with allure. Roy raised an eyebrow, playing puzzled. Showdown time? Some special workout? He asked, faking curiosity. Rias exchanged glances with Aeno, Konako, and Kiba, then took a deep breath, her smile confident. We're devils. She'd decided Roy was her ideal knight. His favorable impression made now the perfect time to reveal the truth. Even if he recoiled, her honesty would leave a mark. Plus, his earlier devil comments gave her a baseline to strategize. Rias-senpai, you joking? No joke, Rias said, rising from the sofa. Snap. A sound like wings unfurling echoed in the occult research club room. Jet-black bat-like wings spread behind Rias, her crimson hair and the dim light casting a sultry, commanding aura. Let's reintroduce ourselves, she said, curtsying elegantly. I'm Rias Gremory, heir of the Gremory clan, a high-class devil. I'm Aeno Hinjima, Rias's queen, Aeno said, her own black wings unfurling. I'm Tujao Konako, Rias's rook, Konako said, nodding as her wings appeared. And you, Kiba? Roy asked, calm. I'm Yuto Kiba, Rias's knight, Yuto said, spreading his wings. You guys, Roy sighed, leaning back. This is just cosplay, right? The club's a front for anime fans. The four froze. I can handle the hobby, Roy continued. Those wings look real. Rias blinked, dumbfounded. We're serious, Roy. These wings are real, not props. Can I touch? Roy asked. Of course, Roy-kun, Aeno said, turning to present her wings. Roy reached out, feeling their warm, soft texture. Aeno let out a playful moan. Can I try someone else? Roy said, expressionless, quickly touching Aeno's hand instead before looking at Konako. Please, Konako said, turning, hands behind her back. Congratulations, host. 300,000 dimension points absorbed. The system pinged as Roy's fingers brushed Konako's wings. Hurry up, Konako said, stifling a reaction, her voice tight. Sensitive wings, huh? Roy noted, amused. Alright, they're real, he said, pulling back with a serious nod. Catch you later. He turned to leave, but Aeno grabbed his arm. Roy-kun, you touched me in Konako, she said, her smile teasing but edged. No boys ever touched our wings. First time, and you're just walking away. Konako, back me up, Aeno said. Konako, despite finding Aeno's dramatics overblown, nodded under her gaze. Roy sat back down. Fine, what's the plan? You're okay with us being devils? Rias asked, surprised. Seems fine, Roy said, nodding. No malice from you guys. If you meant harm, you wouldn't be chatting me up like this. Rias-senpai, all that supernatural and devil talk was to ease me in, right? Glad you get it, Rias sighed. I thought explaining would be harder. So Roy-kun was faking that exit. Aeno said, catching on. Rias-senpai, you went through all this inviting me, revealing your secret. What's the goal? Roy asked. I want you in my peerage, Rias said bluntly. Like Kiba, a devil. Exactly, Rias said. Hear me out before you decide. Sounds big, Roy said, nodding. It'll flip your worldview, Rias said, serious. Roy smirked inwardly. Transmigration and the system already did that. The world's not what it seems, Rias began. Beyond humans, there are intelligent beings, most from myths and legends, some unknown to humanity. She laid out cosmology, devils, angels, fallen angels, dragons, and more, focusing on biblical mythology. From God's creation to the war among angels, fallen angels, and devils, to the four great Satans reforms modernizing devil society. So, you devils ditched soul-stealing for a contract system? Roy asked, grinning. Pretty much, Rias said, proud. The four great Satans overhauled the culture. Not all, but in some still cling to old ways, and we're working to stop them. Devils running a job system instead of soul deals, Roy said, chuckling. Wild. Hundreds of years ago, we wouldn't have believed it either, Rias said, smiling. She explained devil reincarnation. The three-faction war took many devils, prompting the four great Satans to create evil pieces, reincarnating other races as devils to bolster their ranks. Pieces mimic chess. What about the king piece? Roy asked, noting Rias skipped it. No true king piece exists yet, Rias said. Underworld tech isn't there. My king piece is symbolic, just a title. Now, the point, Rias added. I want you as my knight. Your strength matches a low class, but against stronger foes, you'd struggle. Yuto held back a lot, you'd have lost fast if he hadn't. But with a knight piece, your power would leap. You'd hold your own against supernatural creatures. With this dangerous world, that's tempting, Rias-senpai, Roy said, nodding. So, Roy? Rias asked, looking hopeful. Nope, I'm out, Roy said bluntly. 43, Aeno, Roy-kun, don't refuse this. Chapter 43, Aeno, Roy-kun, don't refuse this. Rias's smile froze as Roy's rejection landed, her composure wavering before she forced an elegant smile. That direct, huh? She was caught off guard. She'd anticipated pushback, but Roy's flat refusal stung. Did I not explain the stakes clearly? She wondered, a flicker of resentment in her eyes, not at the rejection, but at Roy's earlier tease that had her hoping he'd agree. Why? She asked, her tone calm but probing. Yeah, Roy-kun, rejecting Rias so bluntly. All her effort, wasted. Aeno was curious too. Roy sighed. Everything about supernatural and devils comes from your side alone. I've got no way to verify what's true or not. I swear on the Gremory name, Rias said, her voice grave, I, Rias Gremory, am not deceiving you. Everything I said is true. Roy's skepticism didn't faze her. It was a natural human reaction, one she'd anticipated. Swearing on her clan's honor underscored her sincerity. Thing is, I don't know this Gremory name. Roy gave out a helpless sigh. Your oath doesn't mean much to me. One-sided words, huh? Rias said, nodding with a wry smile. Don't get me wrong, Rias-senpai, Roy said, earnest. I want to believe you. If you had bad intentions, a mythical devil could crush a human like me easily. Yet you've spent all this time explaining. I feel your goodwill. Roy-kun, so you're not completely clueless about charm. Aeno chimed in. Konako's expression softened slightly, while Kiba exhaled, relieved his new friend wasn't alienated by their identities. So, in Hanjima-senpai's eyes, how dense am I? Roy said, rolling his eyes. Dense enough to need further testing, Aeno said, chuckling. Want to find out now, Roy-kun? She leaned closer, her breath warm, her voice dripping with allure. Nope. Aeno clicked her tongue, her eyes glinting playfully. Enough, Aeno. I'm glad you feel our sincerity. You're right, we had too little time to build trust. Rejecting my offer makes sense. Rias gave a confident grin. If you're okay with it, I'd like you to learn about our world over time, to prove I'm not lying. And if we prove it, Roy-kun, will you still say no? Aeno asked. Can't predict the future, Roy said, shaking his head. But right now, I'd probably still pass. Why? Rias asked, puzzled. I'm happy as a human. Don't really want to switch races. Devils had power, but also glaring weaknesses. Humans often held unique advantages in anime worlds' edges that could spark massive growth. He wasn't tossing that away. Attached to humanity, huh? Rias looked unfazed though her smile deepening. Got it. I'll show you my sincerity, she added. When the time comes, I hope you'll consider joining my peerage. Roy's human loyalty didn't discourage her. They often faced humans clinging to their identity, yet many eventually joined. Rias was confident she could sway Roy. Sure, I'll think about it, Roy said, nodding. Think about it, my foot, he thought. No way I want to be a servant. But if push came to shove, he'd use boosted gear. The Heavenly Dragon's rep would make Rias back off. Their prestige awed devils and beyond. Great, Rias gave out an excited look. Joining the Occult Research Club shouldn't be an issue, right? It's the best way to get to know us. Roy-kun, don't refuse this. Aeno's tone was low. You took my and Konako's first wing touches. Gonna be a jerk who bails after causing trouble. Don't phrase it like that. Roy looked deadpan, though he smirked inwardly. First touches, huh? I'll aim for more later. You're in, then? Aeno asked, eyes sparkling. It's just a club, Roy said. Kiba and I get along, and other clubs besides the student council don't interest me much. Rias's ears pricked. The student council. She strode to her desk, pulled out an application form, and handed it to Roy. Here, fill this out to join the club. Sona had her eye on Roy, and Rias wasn't about to let her steal the lead. Roy filled it out and handed it back. Welcome, Roy-kun, official Occult Research Club member. Aeno said, beaming. Welcome, Konako said, monotone. Looking forward to more spars, Roy, Kiba said, grinning. Teach me a thing or two. Roy smiled back. After more talk, Rias let Roy leave, mindful that the day's revelations might overwhelm a human. He needed time to process. As Roy exited the old schoolhouse, he ran into a group entering led by Sona with Tsubeki, who'd visited his classroom earlier, in tow. You're Roy Flott? Sona asked, surprised but composed. I'm Sauna Shirtorai, student council president. Hello, President Shirtorai, Roy said, nodding. I'm Roy Flott. No need for formalities, call me Sauna, she said. I sent Tsubeki to invite you earlier. Have you considered joining the student council? I've joined the Occult Research Club, Roy said. Kuoh's rules allow multiple clubs, Sona said smoothly. If you have time, visit the student council. Learn about our work. It'll make joining easier later. Sure, Roy said, nodding. I've got club duties to handle. Roy shrugged and left Kuoh Academy. Joined the Occult Research Club but still human. Tsubeki said, sensing Roy's pure human aura. An exception, Sona said, a faint smile curving her lips. Knowing Rias, Sona expected Roy to be a reincarnated devil by now. His human status meant his potential was so high. Rias made a rare concession. Back in the Occult Research Club, Aeno spoke up after Roy left. Rough start, Rias. Not really, Rias said, shaking her head. The main goal was getting Roy in the club. The peerage pitch can wait. A knock sounded. Come in, Rias already guessed the visitor. In the old schoolhouse, only the student council rivaled their presence. Rias, good evening, Sona greeted with a smile. Sona, visiting now. About Roy Flott? Rias asked, cutting to the chase. Sona's noon meeting with Tsubeki and this after-school visit weren't social calls. 44, can I fuse them? Chapter 44, can I fuse them? I ran into Roy Flott just now, Sona said calmly, addressing Rias's question. He's joined your Occult Research Club. Yep, Rias smiled was little off. Roy's officially one of us now. Sona's expression didn't flicker. He can still join the student council. What's that supposed to mean? Rias narrowed her eyes with a competitive glint. Trying to poach my member, Sona. Poach. Sona looked unfazed. If anyone's poaching, it's you. Roy was eyeing the kendo club, then the student council. If you hadn't swooped in, he'd likely be with them by now. He just hadn't found a club that clicked, Rias said, her tone cool. Now he's with the occult research club. Kuoh's rules don't bar joining multiple clubs, Sona said, holding her ground. So, Sona, are you giving up on Roy? Rias asked, her voice firm. Just fighting for my shot, Sona said, a faint smile tugging her lips. I haven't seen his strength, but if you made an exception for him, Rias, he's got something special. As your childhood friend, I trust your judgment. Should I thank you for the vote of confidence? Rias looked a bit annoyed. You told Roy about us, didn't you? Sona asked. Yeah, it's out in the open, Rias said, nodding. No point hiding it. Things didn't go smoothly, though, Sona added thoughtfully. He didn't agree to be your knight. Like Rias, Sona saw Roy as a perfect knight. As expected, Rias said, her smile brimming with confidence. He's in the club now. I'll win him over eventually. Then I've got a window until you do, Sona's eyes glinting with resolve. No chance, Rias said, snorting. Sona, you really want to compete for Roy? Looks like neither of us is backing down, Sona said, smiling thinly. How about a fair contest to settle it? A contest? A rating game? Rias asked, surprised. No way, Sona said, shaking her head. We're not cleared for rating games yet. How about a high school sports match? To decide who gets Roy? Rias asked. Not quite, Sona said. It's about who gets the first shot at convincing him. Roy decides whether to become a reincarnated devil. If he refuses, no contest changes that. This just sets who persuades first, with the other staying out until they fail. Sona, that still feels stacked against me, Rias giggled. Roy's in my club. I've got the edge. Don't forget, you're already taken. Sona's smile was sharp. Can I say something? Kiba interjected, chuckling nervously. Ueto. Rias said, puzzled. Sona glanced at him, recalling Meguri's report that Ueto sparred with Roy. You got something wrong, Sona-sama, Ueto said. What's that? Sona asked, curious. Roy came to Kuoh town because of President, Ueto said. Because of me. Rias said, stunned. Because of Rias. Sona echoed, equally shocked. T/L, sorry, for the change. Kiba gave a wry smile, recounting Roy's excuse for transferring. That's the deal. He was backing his master, hoping Roy's potential might earn him a spot in Rias's peerage someday. As a friend, Kiba wanted to give Roy a nudge. He'd planned to tell Rias later, but Sona's visit sped things up. He omitted Roy's noon quip about Sona, chalking it up as a joke. Rias, your charm's unreal, Sona said, her tone tinged with a bittersweet pang. Roy transferring to Kuoh for you? Never would have guessed. She'd come to probe Roy's status and declare war, only to stumble into a romantic rumor. No wonder Roy-kun was so cool-headed, Aeno teased. My charms didn't faze him, he's got eyes for Rias. Really? Rias said, chuckling awkwardly. Is he that good at hiding it? She wondered. His calm analysis during their talk supported the idea. Sona, guess I didn't poach after all, Rias sighed. Kiba-kun's word is trustworthy, Sona said, nodding. His knightly honor lent credibility. But, Rias, that doesn't change my mind. Maybe Roy came to Japan for you, but he first picked the kendo club. That's fact. And Sona's gaze turned pointed. You can't return Roy's feelings. That's irrelevant. Rias' face darkened, likely recalling her engagement to Riser. Is the gymnasium free? Rias asked, her voice sharp. School's Audi should be empty, Sona said. If not, the student council could clear it. Then let's settle this in the gym. Rias looked resolute. The two marched out of the occult research club, heading for the gymnasium. Didn't expect this turn, Aeno sighed. Another long evening. Bet it ends in a draw, Ueto said, exasperated. Rias and Sona, childhood friends, were fierce rivals. Past contests often proved their evenly matched strength. A sports match would likely end the same. Sabaki's got her work cut out, babysitting those two, Aeno said, glancing at Sabaki, who stood quietly. School just started. Student council swamped, right. Supporting the president is my duty as vice president, Sabaki looked stoic. The council's workload is manageable. Let's go watch Rias and Sona, Aeno said. Gotta make sure they don't wreck the gym, or we're all sleeping bad tonight. The group followed to the gymnasium. After leaving Kuoh Academy, Roy returned to his villa and dove into the system. He'd waited all afternoon to use the high-class demonic power and power of destruction. System, use high-class demonic power. A surge of energy flooded his body, mirroring the demonic power he'd replicated from Kiba. It strengthened his physique before settling down. This is intense. No wonder high-class devils commanded such status in the underworld. Next, Roy focused on the power of destruction. Replicated ability, power of destruction. Quality, B. Effect, wields devastating demonic trait capable of annihilating everything. Unlike hellfire, the power of destruction was pure, singular devastation. Its lethality was unmatched. System, use power of destruction. A crimson aura erupted around Roy, radiating danger. It grew denser, more oppressive, until the floor beneath him silently vanished, erased by the leaking energy. After a moment, the aura receded, sinking into Roy's body. Didn't mean to carve a pit, Roy chuckled, stepping out of the hole he'd accidentally made. The raw potency was staggering. A stray leak had obliterated the floor cleanly. Mastered, its destructive potential would be terrifying. I'll get someone to fix it tomorrow. Host, Roy Flott. Race, human. Level, LVL 60. Replicated abilities, Hellfire, C, Power of Destruction, B. Replicated item, Boosted Gear, B+. Dimension points, 1,626,783. His gaze shifted to Hellfire and Power of Destruction. Can I fuse these two? A new idea sparked. 45, Fusion. Chapter 45, Fusion. The power of destruction embodied pure annihilation, while Hellfire symbolized rebirth too with near-opposite attributes. Before coming to this world, Roy used to read many novels. Many described such opposing forces, the most iconic being the negative and positive energies. This concept sparked Roy's bold idea to fuse the power of destruction and Hellfire. Complete opposites, like destruction and creation, would be suicidal to merge at his level. But these two, not fully antithetical, held room for compatibility, giving Roy the confidence to experiment. Otherwise, he'd never risk Ithai's current strength wasn't reckless enough to bring disaster. Another motive drove him. Both powers stem from devil nobility, the Baal clans and the Fenex clans. These clans prized their bloodlines obsessively. Publicly wielding their signature abilities would invite trouble, especially from the Baal clan. Unlike the approachable Gremorous, the Baals, per Roy's meta-knowledge, were arrogant and power-hungry. If they learned a human wielded their power of destruction, they'd come knocking and not for tea. Fusing the abilities into something new could mask their origins. Even if the Baals or Fenex sniffed out Roy's power, a hybrid ability might defy clear ties to their bloodlines. But how do I actually fuse them? Roy muttered. The idea was solid, but execution. Let's just try, he said. Ideas alone wouldn't cut it, trial and error would pave the way. Power of destruction flared in his left hand, while vibrant hellfire blazed in his right. Fusing them outside his body was safer, and in-body failure could wreck him. He wasn't banking on instant success. This was a cautious first step. The energies touched. The power of destruction snuffed out the hellfire instantly. Expected. Hellfire couldn't match the power of destruction. Adjusting the output, Roy tried again, balancing their intensity. Failure. 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 He lost count, his demonic power nearly drained. Yet each flop sharpened his control, deepening his grasp of both powers. After destruction comes life, rebirth, Roy mused, recalling online quotes and book snippets. Once philosophical fluff, they now held weight. The power of destruction raised, hellfire renewed. Their interplay clicked in his mind. Hundreds of attempts had exhausted him, but his mind was razor-sharp, his control over both powers now nuanced. The flame flickered, teetering like a candle in a storm. As it shrank, its bright orange hue morphed into a deep, coagulated blood red. The flame stabilized, pulsing with a menacing aura, as if contact would incinerate utterly. Got one, Roy exhaled. A first step, not true fusion. The powers in his body remained separate, but it lit the path forward. Keep going, he said, reinvigorated. Through the night, from dusk to dawn, Roy pressed on. Is it morning already? He said, glancing at the dawnlit window. Around his body, a dark red flame danced. After relentless trials, he developed a new ability. Ability, Bond of Life. Quality, B+. Effects. 1. The bond of life attaches to the life force of the user. The more bond of life, the greater intensity of any attack using it. 2. Clings to any foes, taking their life force consistently. 3. No matter how strong the foes are, as long as they are contaminated by bond of life, their life force would be taken, depending upon the strength of the user. Example, if the user has high-class strength, but uses bond of life to a Satan class. Although, the Satan class enemy would not feel anything, prolonged exposure to bond of life would make them weaker. And bond of life cannot be removed by anyone, only the user can remove it. Shouldn't have been that easy, Roy said, dousing the flame. A single night success, from a prototype move to a full fusion, defied expectations. Is it me, or did the Gremory Fenex engagement hint at this? Rias's betrothal to Riser aimed to blend bloodlines, potentially birthing heirs with hybrid powers. Surtsks, born of a Gremory Baal union, wielded transcendent might. Maybe I'm overthinking, he shook off the theory. Sleepiness hit hard. Got a crash. Setting an alarm, Roy collapsed into bed. With no morning classes, he could recover for a few hours. After waking, he washed up, ate heartily to replenish energy, and headed to Kuoh Academy. His transfer student buzz had faded, letting him slip into a quieter routine. Roy, you look wiped, Ika said with a teasing grin, mimicking a hand motion. Up to something last night? Kiryu, I'm starting to think you're a lewd creep trapped in a girl's body, Roy shot back. Despite catching up on sleep, the night's high-intensity experiments left him sluggish. A short nap couldn't fully restore him. Come on, looking that drained. Hard not to wonder. Aika said, puffing up confidently. And I'm a certified cute girl. Glasses, braids total charm for some guys. She struck a pose, flicking her braid with a smug flourish. Yet no boyfriend, Roy smirked. I'm just picky. Aika faltered. No love letters in sight, Roy pressed. You've been here, what, a week? What do you know? Aika huffed. You're rattled. Roy grinned. Roy, you don't know Aika was popular back in the day. Love letters stuffed her locker. Kates chimed in from behind, amused. See? Aika said, sneering triumphantly. But once her pervy side came out, guys steered clear, Kates added, grinning. Yeah, even the perverted trio in our class got burned by her, Murayama said. Impressive record, Roy said, glancing at Issei, Matsuda, and Motohama, then back at Aika with mock awe. You too? Aika growled, glaring at Kates and Murayama. I'm still a cute girl. Roy smirked. Still no boyfriend. Gur. Roy, don't make me fall for you just to prove a point. 46. Akeno's Touch. Chapter 46, Akeno's Touch. Kiryuo, what's that supposed to mean? Roy asked, but before he could elaborate, Kates and Murayama, seated behind, jumped in with mock indignation. Kiryuo-san, you're not implying that, are you? Murayama looked dangerous as she locked eyes with Aika. You too, always prioritizing romance over friendship, huh? Aika said, her bravado fading under their glares. Who knows if you're just sneaking off with him? Kates said, eyes wide with accusation. Yeah, using this as a cover to slip away, Murayama added. Pull that kind of stunt. Aika pushed up her glasses with a forced calm. I was just messing with Roy to spook him. Geez. Honestly, if it's Kiryuo, I could see it, Roy smirked. The air froze. Aika's expression stiffened, and Kates and Murayama shot her death glares. Like, hear me out. Kiryuo's a bit pervy, sure, but she's fun. A girlfriend like that, life wouldn't be dull. And, yeah, she's right, she is a cute girl. Aika squirmed, especially as Kates and Murayama's glares intensified. Roy, you're not helping. She said, forcing a nervous laugh. Kiryuo, I misjudged you. Kates said, her face a mix of annoyance and betrayal. One day, and your scheming intentions are out. Murayama chimed in. Don't fall for it, you too. Aika's smile faltering. Her attempts to explain only earned her sharper scolding from the duo. Roy watched, barely hiding his amusement. Wait, hold up. Aika said, waving her hands in a stop gesture. If you're gonna execute me, at least let me defend myself. Fine, let's hear your excuse. Kates crossed her arms. Murayama nodded, equally skeptical. Roy's got a point. Aika leaned in with a conspiratorial grin. So, I'm thinking why not try dating him. As Kates and Murayama stood, faces flushed with embarrassed indignation, Aika yelped, Whoa, hold on, I'm not done. Keep talking. Kates looked super annoyed. Look, from my expert observation, Roy's an impressive guy. Aika winked softly. Heard about your kendo club spar yesterday, Kates. Roy's been training for years. He's not just a pretty face, he's got stamina. Kates and Murayama blushed, sneaking glances at Roy. Aika's innuendos, honed by years of banter, hit their mark. Kiryuo, stop dragging me into your chaos. Roy said, black lines practically forming on his face. Just hyping my prospective boyfriend, no harm done, Aika said, puffing up proudly. Gotta win in my wheelhouse, right? She leaned closer to Kates and Murayama, her voice dropping. A guy like that, I'd be worn out. But you two are my besties. Since you're into Roy, I won't hog him. What are you blabbing about? Kates said, her face reddening, though her eyes flickered with curiosity. Serious business. Aika slammed the desk. Here's the deal, I get Mondays and Tuesdays, Kates takes Wednesdays and Thursdays, Murayama gets Fridays and Saturdays. Sundays, we rest or share, depends on our schedules. Sound fair? Fair? You didn't even ask Roy. Murayama said, shyly avoiding his gaze. Roy stared, dumbfounded. This world's a harem anime, sure, but at school. With regular girls. Hey, Roy, question. Aika nudged him with a sly grin. I lined up 2 more for you. Should keep your restless urges in check, yeah. No more late-night hand workouts. Thanks for the thought. Aika's shamelessness was on another level. You're welcome, boyfriend, Aika giggled. Kates and Murayama, blushing like smitten schoolgirls, didn't counter her. They even stole glances at Roy, as if half considering her outrageous pitch. Roy sighed, deciding to nap through the rest of this. Aika, Kates, and Murayama dove into increasingly risky chatter, treating Roy like their shared boyfriend. Aika's influence had thoroughly derailed the 2 normally serious kendo girls. After sleeping through most of the day, Roy finally shook off his grogginess from last night's experiments. Kiryuo, I slept all day. Bet you're gonna say I'll be up all night again, huh? How about you swing by my place tonight? Help me fix that, Aika winked. Roy raised an eyebrow. Worst case, I'm not losing here. Your place, huh? Hey, Katace, Murayama. Aika called to the girls heading to the kendo club. Wanna crash at Roy's home tonight? Roy. Kiba's voice cut in, his smile a bit bright. Club activities today. Let's head over. Guess it's a rain check, Roy shrugged. He left the classroom with Kiba. Such a shame, Aika pouting alongside Katace and Murayama as they watched Roy's back fade. At the Occult Research Club, Yuto knocked, and after Rias's response, they entered. Rias, Aeno, and Konako awaited, just like yesterday. Well, the naughty guy arrives. Aeno raised an eyebrow. I haven't done anything to earn that label. I'll sue for slander, Roy shot back. Roy, you didn't visit the student council today, right? Rias asked. Nope, Roy said, shaking his head. He'd spent the day dozing at his desk, too drained to entertain Sona's invite. Guess someone's out of the loop. Aeno covered her mouth with a giggle. Loop? What's up? Roy asked, a bit puzzled. Rias and Sona went at it yesterday over you, Aeno said, her smile widening. They nearly tore down the gymnasium. Roy blinked, looking confused. What's the deal? Don't listen to Aeno's exaggerations, Rias said, shooting her a glare. It was just our usual sparring. Yesterday's was a bit more intense. As Aeno predicted, it ended in a draw. The gym took a beating, but a preset barrier kept it from human eyes, sparing them the hassle of memory wipes. A bit intense. Aeno said, stifling a laugh. The roof nearly caved in. We spent half the night fixing it. Devil Showdown? Roy casually asked. Something like that. It's done, Rias sighed. You wanted to learn about devils, right? Tonight's club activity will show you our world up close. What's the activity? Roy asked. A surprise, Rias replied with a smile cryptic. It'll blow you away. Sure. His knowledge from the anime meant little from Rias could truly shock him. Starting now? He asked. Not yet too many people out in daylight, Rias said. We move at night. Night, Roy thought. The Occult Research Club either handled client contracts or hunted stray devils. This sounded like the latter. President, are we hunting? Kiba glanced at Roy, looking hesitant. Isn't it too soon? Roy's new to devils. Shouldn't he learn more before facing that? Roy caught the hint. Rias was throwing him into the deep end to face a stray. Clever move, Rias Gremory. It's fine, Rias replied. I scouted Ides week. With us there, Roy's safe. Stray devils are rare in Kuoh town. Miss this, and it's a long wait for another. Roy's in the club now, she added. He needs to get a feel for our work. Her real goal was clear, expose Roy to the world's dangerous monsters lurking in the dark to spark a sense of urgency. Highlighting the gap between humans and supernatural creatures might push him toward accepting her night peace. Got it, Kiba said, nodding, though he resolved to stick close to Roy during the hunt. Here, Konako slid a handheld gaming console and a pile of snacks toward Roy. Play with me. Thanks, Konako, Roy smiled. Roy-kun, we've got time until nightfall. Aeno gave her signature warm smile. Fancy some tea? You can sample my brewing skills. Sounds great. Give me a moment. Aeno went to a side room. She returned with hot water and began an elegant tea ceremony, her movements fluid and graceful, like a living painting. Soon, a rich aroma filled the room. This isn't human world tea, Rias smiled from the sidelines. It's an underworld specialty stronger scent, but safe for humans. Enjoy, Aeno handed Roy a cup. Wow, this is amazing. Era, praised by Roy-kun. Aeno said, feigning a shy blush. Like it? Take some home, Rias offered. Nah, I just boil water and ruin it, Roy chuckled. It's Aeno-senpai's touch that makes it this good. Rias, looks like I'm winning Roy-kun over, Aeno winked at Rias. Rias shot her an annoyed glance, catching the jab. The group chatted, sipped tea, and passed the time. As the sun set, darkness fell outside, signaling the start of their mission. 47, showing them. Chapter 47, showing them. As night fell, darkness enveloped Kuoh town. The clubroom glowed with candles arranged like a medieval ritual, casting an eerie ambience. Almost time, Rias glanced at her phone. Kuoh Academy lay silent. From the window, the streets outside were pitch black, empty save for the distant bustle of the commercial district. Elsewhere, the town was a ghost. Let's move, Rias said, rising from the sofa and stepping to the room's center. A 2-meter-wide magic circle, etched with faintly on the floor. Aeno, Konako, and Kiba joined her within it. So this is Roy pretended to be confused. Not just a pretty design, Rias smiled, seeing his confusion. This is a Gremory-exclusive magic circle. You follow, Roy? Yeah, Roy nodded. No need to play clueless about magic circles. Myths were common knowledge, even in his original world. Good, Rias said. This one's for positioning and teleportation. A teleportation magic? Roy asked, keeping his tone curious. He'd replicated Kiba's magic before. Kiba focused on kendo and his sacred gear, sword birth. His talent for magic was middling at best. Exactly, Rias said. Our target's 10 kilometers from Kuoh Academy. Walking or biking would take ages, but this circle gets us there in seconds. Convenient, Roy said. Can I use it? Normally, only Gremorous can activate it freely, Rias said. Outsiders need me to drive them along. Roy-kun, wanna become a devil? Aeno teased, her smile sly. Join us, and you can zip anywhere with a thought. She leaned closer, her gaze suggestive. Though, teleportation has quirks. You might accidentally land in Rias's bedroom or her bathroom. Don't listen to Aeno's nonsense, Rias cut her off. Roy, get in. Roy nodded, stepping into the circle. A bright crimson glow flared, engulfing the five. In a flash, they vanished from the clubroom. We're here, Rias said. The scenery shifted from the candlelit room to a dark, overgrown field. No lights, just moonlight casting faint shadows over tangled weeds and trees. The air felt heavy, ominous. Ahead stood a dilapidated building, its peeling walls and missing doors and windows exuding decay. Aeno, lighted up. Devil saw clearly in darkness, but Roy, still human, needed help. Roy-kun, check this out, basic magic, super handy. Aeno conjured a radiant white orb that illuminated the surroundings. Roy suppressed a smirk. Always showing off, huh, trying to charm me. But honestly, a phone flashlight would have worked, he said dryly. Flashlights are boring. Aeno giggled playfully. Let's go, Rias lead them toward the building. Inside, an eerie chill and disgusting smell hit them. The air reeked of blood. Smells gross. Konako covered her nose with her sleeve. Congratulations, host. Random task triggered. Random task generated. Task, assist in defeating the stray devil. Reward, 5,000 dimension points. Roy checked the system panel in his mind. 5,000 points. Still, the task is simple, just join the fight. Roy, feel that aura? Rias asked. It's not even hiding. Yeah, like I'm being watched by something dangerous. Sharp instincts, Rias said. We're hunting a stray devil, the worst kind of devil, lost to their own desires. She explained stray devils, rogue reincarnated devils who betrayed their masters, driven by greed or madness. The Occult Research Club's job was to eliminate them. Sounds like a solid policy, Roy played along. I told you, no lies, Rias added confidently. A rustling sound broke the silence, growing closer. Smells foul but tasty, sweet, bitter. A guttural voice rasped, chillingly inhuman. A grotesque laugh echoed, far from human. A massive shadow loomed into view, upper body human, lower body a beast, wielding a spear in both hands. Roy-kun, you're awfully calm for facing that, Aeno smiled teasingly. Most would freak. Had some mental prep, Roy said lightly. Rias gave him a curious glance. His demeanor was exactly her type for a knight. Stray devil, we're here to end you, Rias declared. Arrogant brats. I'll bathe in your blood and mount your heads. The stray devil roared. Roy, I've got you. Kiba summoned a demonic sword. Thanks. Uto, Roy's fine with me and Aeno, Rias said. Show him your real strength. Take it down. Understood. Kiba drew a demonic sword. And then, he charged, clashing with the stray devil. Uto's sacred gear at full power boosts his attack and speed, Rias explained to Roy. He's a force like this. Kiba dodged the stray devil's spear with ease. The creature couldn't keep up, its attack slashing air. Uto, disarm it. Rias called. Kiba at her command. His sword hacked the spear into fragments, rendering it useless. Roy, want a shot at the stray devil? Rias asked, a glint in her eyes. Sure, Roy said, nodding. Perfect, she's handing me the chance. He'd been plotting an excuse to jump in. What kind of sword do you use? Kiba asked. Just any type. Kiba looked a bit surprised, but conjured a sleek demonic sword and handed it over. This work? Roy tested it with 2 swings. Yeah, it's good. Konako, step back, Rias said, eyeing Roy's readiness. She glanced at Aeno, who nodded, priming a spell to vaporize the stray devil if Roy faltered. Go for it, Konako leapt back to the sidelines. 48, Task. Chapter 48, Task. As Roy charged at the stray devil, Rias's face lit up with a sly smile. President, that's a sneaky grin. Konako caught a rare expression on Rias's face. Konako, what's that supposed to mean? Rias froze before snapping back to her usual confident elegance. Rias's plan tonight hinged on pitting Roy against the stray devil, a middle class in strength. Its massive size posed a challenge for Roy. The stray devil lacked speed but boasted brute force and a tough exoskeleton, especially its beastly lower body a nightmare for a melee fighter like Roy. In Rias's eyes, Roy's fighting skills, while exceptional enough to outmatch Kiba, wouldn't bridge the gap in raw might or size. The stray devil's lower body far outclassed Kiba's defenses, nullifying Roy's prior tactic of trading blows. She aimed to expose Roy's human limits, nudging him toward accepting her knight piece. To ensure safety, Rias had Aeno on standby. If Roy faltered, Aeno would strike. Arrogant brats, toying with me. The stray devil roared, furious at facing another foe. First Kiba's blade, then a petite girl like Konako, and now a human. You're looking down on me. Puny human, you look tasty. I'll chew you up slowly in front of them. Its human face twisted into a grotesque snarl. Lost it. Roy could read Rias's game, overwhelm him with a foe his low-class strength couldn't handle easily. A tough fight, nothing more. Underestimating me. The stray devil bellowed, slamming an attack at Roy. Roy didn't block or parry. He sidestepped, dodging cleanly. From watching Kiba and Konako, he'd mapped the stray devil's attack patterns, strength, and defenses. Its lower body was a fortress, but its human upper body, vulnerable flesh. Kiba might struggle against the exoskeleton, but he could pierce the upper body. Roy maneuvered toward a nearby pillar, using the terrain. Here, the building's walls, pillars, and debris were his tools. The stray devil's size demanded a height advantage for a clean strike, and its rage-clouded mind made it predictable perfect for manipulation. Pretty rough, Konako watched Roy dodge the stray devil's onslaught. As a rook, Konako fought head-on, crushing foes with raw power. Roy's evasive style, forced back without countering, looked like a losing battle to her. No surprise, Rias sighed. This stray devil's a bad match for Roy. Her plan was working. Roy seemed outclassed, a lesson in human limits. Only by becoming a devil could he transcend them. But Roy's dodging is sharp, Kiba said, catching the nuance. The stray devil hasn't touched him. Despite its ferocious attacks, the creature's strikes were wild, missing Roy's calculated movements. Aeno, keep Roy safe, Rias reminded. Of course, Rias. Aeno had a serene smile masking the lightning in her hand, ready to obliterate the stray devil if Roy slipped. Boom. The stray devil, lured by Roy, smashed a pillar. Its attacks, missing Roy, shattered walls and columns, sending stone and dust flying. Seizing the chaos, Roy leaped onto a collapsing pillar, launching toward its upper body. The creature grinned viciously, spewing a web of spider silk to ensnare him. Roy! Rias gasped. Akeno's demonic power surged, arcing toward the stray devil. But Roy, as if anticipating the trap, kicked off a nearby wall, shifting half a meter to dodge the silk. His sword slashed upward, cutting the stray devil's throat. Lightning and sword struck together. The stray devil collapsed. GRRK. Its screams faded as it twitched on the ground. Guess I overstepped. But how to punish you? Aeno added, her sadistic grin flashing as another bolt scorched the stray devil, draining its life. It stilled, twitching faintly. You predicted that counterattack. Rias was stunned. Most wouldn't foresee that attack, yet Roy dodged it flawlessly. Roy shrugged casually. It's a monster, so I figured it might spin something. I'd already clocked its patterns, so I tested it. Worst case, I'd still cut its throat. Rias blinked, then gave a wry smile. Roy's logic, simple yet effective, had outmaneuvered her plan. His control, anticipating the attack and striking decisively, was enviable. Her scheme to humble him flopped. Oh well, more chances, she thought. Roy-kun, your composure is something else, Aeno giggled. Most gag at blood, but you're unbothered. Maybe I'm built for this. Roy handed the demonic sword back to Kiba. Thanks, Kiba. Solid weapon. Yuto took the sword, dissolving it with sword birth. Built for this. Roy-kun's perfect for our side, Aeno replied before gazing back to Roy. This stray devil's just the start. Join us, and you'll see wilder things. Still not tempted to change races. Not planning to change yet, Roy gave out a firm answer. Such a dodge, Aeno said, shaking her head. Let's clean up, Rias said, stepping forward. She used power of destruction, engulfing the stray devil's body. It vanished, leaving only a bloodstain. Congratulations, host. Random task, assist in defeating the stray devil completed. 5,000 dimension points awarded. Time to head back. Rias summoned a teleportation circle, and the group returned to the Occult Research Club. 49. All you get is my love. Chapter 49. All you get is my love. The group reappeared in the Occult Research Club, back from the hunt. Rias-senpai, all done for tonight? Roy asked. Yes, Rias smiled. Today's main task was hunting that stray. Now we just report to the underworld authorities and handle the paperwork. Cool, I'm heading home then. Roy turned to leave. Want me to escort you, Roy-kun? Aeno giggled. The night's dangerous, you know. Pass, thanks, Roy said, waving her off. Sure about that. That stray was just a low-class devil, the bottom rung. There's plenty of middle-class devils and higher out there. Run into one, and you're in trouble. Kuoh town's under Rias-senpai's watch, so it's safe as houses, Roy said, lying through his teeth. Those guys don't hit the busy spots, right? Kuoh was anything but safe. As main area, it drew top-tier threats who could level cities with a flick. The town's survival owed everything to plot armor. High marks for flattery, Aeno chuckled. Rias gave a wry smile, amused by Roy's dodge. I'm off, Roy said, bidding farewell and leaving Kuoh Academy. Rias, what now? Aeno sighed once Roy was gone. This guy's a tough nut. Tonight didn't faze him, and he's dead set on staying human. Strong-willed talent is worth my time, Rias said coolly. If a little temptation swayed him, I'd be disappointed. TCH, acting all calm when you're the most eager, Aeno added word by word. Love's blind, huh? Stop it, Rias said, exasperated. How about this? Aeno said, eyes glinting. If soft tactics fail, seduce him. Rias raised an eyebrow. Roy came to Kuoh for you, Aeno said, mock serious. Show some charm, and he's yours. Why don't you try? Rias shot back, rolling her eyes. I would. Aeno said, feigning a sigh. But Roy's not into me. If I could, I'd sacrifice for you, Rias. Her earnest tone didn't match her grin. Slow and steady it is, Rias voiced out. Roy wasn't a quick win. She'd boil the frog, gradually ease him into accepting devils, until he'd join her peerage as her knight. Back at his villa, Roy showered, then open-checked the church's activity. After a minute, he hit pay dirt. Amid the church's usual silence, chaotic footsteps echoed 10 or more people, judging by the varied rhythms. Lord Fallen Angel, you there? Fried Selzen, reporting. A manic voice rang out. Roy recognized it. Fried Selzen, the stray exorcist from the anime. You're Fried, quite the crowd, Rainare replied. Yup, that's me. Fried said, his exaggerated tone unshaken. These are my lackeys, tagging along. Quite the number, Rainare said. Where's Asia? I don't see her. Yeah, Fried, where's Asia? Middle's voice chimed in. No Asia, no deal. Asia Argento, the cutie. Fried cackled. She's still in Europe. Europe. Rainare's tone chilled. Fried, you failed. Fail? Me? Never. Fried said. Moving with Asia's too conspicuous. The church's dogs would sniff us out, and snatching her would have been a mess. So, I told her to buy a ticket and fly here. By herself? Rainare asked, her voice softening. She lands the day after tomorrow. Fried replied. Fine, Rainare said. If Asia doesn't show in Kuoh town then, you're dead. Scary, scary. But what a fiery stare. Worthy of a fallen angel. Fried crowed. Stay put in the church, Rainare ordered. Clean the basement. I'll need it when Asia arrives. Move it, grunts. Lord Fallen Angel's got work for us. Fried barked. The day after tomorrow, huh? Roy muttered. A date, but no time. Guess I'll scout the church that night. For 2 days, things stayed quiet. Post-stray devil hunt, Rias eased off her schemes. Roy's occult research club visits were chill snacks, games, and devil lore briefings. At this rate, he'd pack on pounds by semester's end. After school, Roy told Rias he'd skip the club, citing floor tile repairs at home. Roy, when you hitting the kendo club with us? Kates called as he left. Meguri's still got you on her radar. Meguri Tomo? Roy asked. He'd used her as a pawn against Sona Satrai, but hadn't expected her to care. He'd avoided the student council, and Sona hadn't pressed him since her clash with Rias. Maybe they'd hashed it out, or Sona found a new target. Been busy with the occult research club, Roy said. Just joined, so I'm getting the hang of it. What do you guys do? Murayama asked. You're even there at lunch sometimes. Club secrets, Roy grinned. When you free? Aika cut in. We're your girlfriends, after all. Roy rolled his eyes. Aika's nerve was unreal, but Kates and Murayama didn't correct her. Next week, maybe. This week's packed. Deal, the trio nodded. After farewells, Roy planned to hit the villa, then the church after dark. At his door, his hand on the knob, his curiosity pinged. He opened the door casually, stepping into the living room. Yo, welcome back. A voice crowed. On the sofa sat a white-haired man in garb, reeking of blood. His twisted, exaggerated grin screamed, Fried Selzen. Peace. Ha ha ha. Fried said, his tone hip-hop mockery. That's the Japanese thing, right? Not quite, Father Fried, Roy said dryly. Fried's laugh turned manic. Die with a blade through your heart, or your head lopped off. That's my style. You talk too much, Roy narrowed. Why were you in my house, spouting this crap? This was Fried, white hair, manic voice, rogue vibes. Oh, not scared, no trembling. Fried tilted his head, his grin sadistic. Or are you playing dumb? He tossed a black cube onto the table. Bold move, monitoring a fallen angel. Boring, though. Caught that, huh? Roy looked unfazed. Huh, admitting it. Fried cackled. Too easy. It was under the altar, spotted it day one. Those idiot fallen angels got spied on for days and didn't notice. Hilarious. Roy wasn't shocked. Fried, unlike the Techiverse fallen angels, was sharp enough to spot cameras. Finding it a day after hitting Kuoh meant he'd torn the church apart. Where's Asia Argento? Coveting her. Fried sneered. Asia's a gem pretty, with that twilight healing. But she's the fallen angel's prize. No dice for you. Fried drew a bladeless hilt. With a buzz, a white light sword extended, vibrating like a laser. All you get is my love. Fried's grin twisted, his eyes blazing with madness. I was gonna knife you quick on Rainare's orders, but now. Your devil stinking house reeks. Mixing with them all day. You're trash. I'm chopping you to bits. 50 died like a dog. Chapter 50 died like a dog. As Fried's sword slashed down, Roy stood still, his expression cold. Slowly, he raised his hand. Ha ha ha. Fried cackled, his grin manic. Sticking out his tongue like a rabid dog, he swung the blade at Roy's head. But the blade halted midair. Slash. A sharp clash rang out. Roy's right hand, now clad in a red gauntlet, gripped the light-based sword. The weapon, capable of slicing steel, was stopped cold. Fried froze, then his face twisted with shock and madness. Sacred Gear Wielder. As a church-trained exorcist, Fried knew sacred gears, though he couldn't name it was a gauntlet type, built for raw power enhancement. Buzz. The sword vibrated, its frequency spiking, grinding against the gauntlet like a chainsaw, trying to carve through. So what if you've got a sacred gear? Fried snarled. You're just a devil-tainted human. Watch me hack off your hand. He cranked the sword's output, its light attribute increasing. Roy's grip tightened. Crack. The sword shattered, its energy bursting like a popped bulb. Impossible. Fried's distorted grin froze. The sword, forged from Angel's holy power, was a devil's bane. Its sharpness alone could cleave stone, its durability rivaling standard sacred gears. Yet Roy not only blocked it but crushed it. Fried's mind reeled. Even a sacred gear shouldn't do that. Before he could react, Roy struck. His foot slammed into Fried's chest. Fried flew back, spitting blood, crashing to the floor. Gotta thank you for dropping by, Roy said, eyeing Fried's pained writhing. Roy had been plotting a way to reveal his Red Dragon Emperor status to Rias. This was perfect. Tainted by devil contact, he'd drawn a church exorcist's ire. In a life-or-death pinch, his dormant sacred gear awakened, fueling a desperate counter that crushed the intruder. It was more convincing than a random awakening. Sacred gears thrived on desire, and nothing beat the will to survive. Damn you. Fried spat, blood dripping from his mouth, his twisted grin unyielding. Thanked by a devil-tainted human? I'm not thrilled. He tried to rant, but a scream cut him off. Roy lunged, stomping Fried's right hand. Crack. Bones snapped under Roy's boot. Damn you. Fried howled, cursing through the pain. Wriggling, he yanked a holy pistol from his coat with his left hand. Die, devil-tainted scum. Fried's grin flashed triumph as he aimed at Roy. A holy bullet fired point blank. Even middle-class devils couldn't dodge at this range. Red flames erupted before Roy, incinerating the bullet inches from his chest. What the hell? Fried's desperation peaked as his last gambit burned away. Why's a devil-tainted human this strong? Nice gear, Roy said, nodding at the pistol and broken hilt. So, I won't leave you intact, completely, Roy said. Using Bond of Life, ready to erase Fried and all evidence. Ah. A gasp echoed from behind. Roy paused, glancing toward the corridor. Sorry for the short chapter, I got an exam today.
Hi guys. I made a paid service in Telegram where you will find a great collection of fanfiction audiobooks organized and regularly updated. What you get? An unlimited access to the full audiobook library. New fanfiction audiobooks added regularly. You can play audios directly from Telegram anytime. Joining our service is available through a monthly subscription of $5. You can pay using PayPal or Ko-fi. So what are you waiting for? Send me a message on Telegram or Discord. I will provide the payment details. After the payment is confirmed, you will receive access to the private Telegram channel containing all audiobooks. If you enjoy fanfiction and prefer listening instead of reading, this library is made for you. Message me anytime to join.